This woman accidentally comes across a novel and discovers that she is actually the evil supporting female character in the story. She was initially skeptical, but the beginning of the novel was so similar to her current situation. The female supporting character in the novel is also called Ginger, just like her. Her fiancé is also named Kishon. The most crucial part is that Kishon is infatuated with her enemy Larazi. They're practically glued together these days, just as the novel predicted. What she finds most unbearable is that Larazi is the female lead in the novel. Larazi and she have disliked each other since childhood, like the opposing forces that rule either side of a magnet, always erupting into arguments whenever they meet. And now she, Ginger, has become the evil supporting character. She can't stand this. Whoever wants to be the supporting character can be it, but she won't. And not only won't she be it, she wants to rise up and become the female lead. After all, she has the biggest advantage, that is, she knows the novel's plot. The male lead Izana in the novel hasn't appeared yet. He is currently imprisoned in the tower. He has been able to read others' thoughts since childhood. Therefore, Izana's father, the Emperor Astor, greatly fears him and locked him in the tower. Young Izana was thus abandoned by his own father. He doesn't want to read others' thoughts, but their thoughts enter his mind through his eyes. The maid appears respectful to him on the surface, but her fear and disdain for him are completely exposed before him. Later, Izana stops struggling and begins reading many books to study his supernatural ability. Before Ginger can finish reading the novel, her mother calls her over. Her mother tells her the Emperor has died. Ginger can't help but ask, "Is the tower going to be opened?" Her mother nods. His Highness has already come out. Ginger thinks inwardly that this development really matches what's written in the novel. Her mother tells her they'll attend His Highness's coronation banquet next week. Ginger immediately becomes uneasy because the content about meeting the male lead Izana in the novel is about to happen. That day, both she and Larazi will fall in love with Izana at first sight. Izana, who can read everyone's thoughts, uniquely cannot read Larazi's thoughts. Therefore, Izana becomes interested in Larazi, and their mutual attraction begins here. In the following days, Ginger plans every day how to make herself the female lead. Having read the novel, she knows very clearly why Izana can't read Larazi's thoughts. It's because of the red magic necklace Larazi wears around her neck. The necklace is a relic left by Larazi's grandfather, a magician, and even she doesn't know how powerful the magic contained within it is. It seems she must first get Larazi's necklace. Recently, her fiancé Kishon comes to beg her forgiveness every day. Ginger is very impatient with him now, because she knows Kishon likes Larazi, but he is afraid of being scolded by his grandfather for breaking the engagement, so he puts on a pretense of seeking forgiveness. However, he's at least somewhat useful. Ginger says she can forgive him, but he must go get Larazi's ruby necklace for her. She didn't expect Kishon to actually bring the necklace the next day. Looking at the necklace, Ginger can barely contain her shock and joy, thinking now Larazi can't be the female lead anymore. Soon, it's the day of the banquet. Ginger puts on a beautiful dress and ties the necklace around her leg. Tonight, she wants to show Larazi how this supporting character will turn the tables. Shortly after she arrives at the banquet, Izana makes his entrance. His handsome appearance makes her heart pound. No wonder the novel says she fell in love with him at first sight. He's so handsome, it's hard for her not to be attracted by him. She watches as Izana makes eye contact with everyone one by one. Ginger guesses he must be observing these people, since his eyes can read anyone's thoughts when he looks at them. Suddenly, their gazes meet, and Ginger freezes. Just as she's about to look away, she remembers she has the advantageous necklace and immediately calms down. She boldly meets his gaze, thinking to herself how handsome this bastard really is. Izana is instantly filled with disbelief and absurdity. He heard all her inner thoughts. At this moment, Ginger has no idea the necklace is fake and continues to indulge unrestrained in admiring Izana. Noticing his averted gaze, she even thinks he's become interested in her. Could it be that he's flustered because he can't read her thoughts? After all, the female lead in the novel caught his attention because she wore a necklace that blocked mind reading. So does this mean she might be able to become the story's female lead? The more she thinks about it, the more excited she becomes. Then, confident that Izana can't hear her thoughts, she brazenly stares at him, secretly anticipating his next move. After waiting for a long time, she discovers Izana looks everywhere except at her. What's going on? Ginger wonders if he's been scared. The novel clearly wrote that Izana kept looking at Larazi because he couldn't read her thoughts. How did it go wrong when it came to her? She even waves to attract his attention, but he still doesn't turn to look at her. At this moment, her mother brings her forward to pay respects to the newly appointed Izana. "Your Majesty, this is my daughter." Ginger also hurriedly curtsies. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. I am Ginger Torte." She can't help but lift her head to steal a glance, and sees Izana sitting lazily and casually in his seat. Ginger notices his gaze is totally intense from such a close distance. Izana asks in confusion, "You are Ginger Snap?" Because her name sounds very similar to Ginger Nap in English, before she can react. Izana smiles and compliments that her name is quite lively. Looking directly at his smile up close renders Ginger unable to think. He's too handsome! Only when Izana calls her Ginger Snap again does she come to her senses. He actually called her Ginger Snap. She hates Ginger Snap the most, but she still maintains a smile on the surface and reintroduces her name to Izana. Izana pretends not to have heard anything and innocently asks, "Don't Ginger Snap and your name sound the same?" Ginger is filled with murderous intent inside. "This bastard is making fun of me. Don't you dare call me Ginger Snap again or I'll." But on the surface, she still smiles and says, "Your Majesty, what a funny joke." But internally, she complains, "If you call me Ginger Snap again, I'll need that pretty little face of yours like some ginger snap dough." Izana Izana is startled by her thoughts. She immediately asks with concern what's wrong. Izana breaks out in cold sweat. Nothing. I'm just wondering how my face would look if it were to be kneaded like some Ginger Snap dough. Ginger instantly remembers her childhood, when a bunch of kids called her Ginger Snap, and she'd beat them all up one by one. Izana suddenly breaks into delighted laughter, as if amused by something. This leaves Ginger, who's been struck by his good looks, dazed again. He laughs and says, "Your Ginger Snap stories have made quite an impression on me." Ginger looks confused. She doesn't remember she discussed this topic with him, and feels their conversation has been off from the very beginning. Suddenly, a commotion arises. Larazi has arrived at the banquet. Ginger looks smug, completely dismissive of her since the necklace is in her hands. Wait, why is Larazi also wearing a mind-blocking necklace? Only then does she realize the necklace on her is fake. Discovering the truth, she feels utterly devastated. Seeing that Izana is about to make eye contact with Larazi, Ginger panics. She absolutely cannot let them make eye contact, so she loudly calls out his name. Izana! Izana stops, and the atmosphere instantly becomes tense. Realizing what she's done, Ginger starts to feel afraid. She just called the Emperor by his name. Izana turns his face and looks at her coldly. "What did you call me?" She immediately kneels and begs for mercy. "Your Majesty, please have mercy on me. I'm begging for your forgiveness." Though trembling with fear, Ginger silently celebrates that she successfully prevented Izana and Larazi's first meeting. Izana tells her to lift her head. Ginger feels troubled because she's wearing a fake necklace. As long as she makes eye contact with him, he'll hear her thoughts. Izana urges her again to lift her head and look into his eyes. She has no choice but to first clear her mind, then bravely look directly into his eyes. During their eye contact, she forces herself to think about how nice the weather is today. Suddenly, her thoughts wander, and she remembers that the weather was also nice on the day she learned her fiancé Kishan's betrayal. She had planned to go on a picnic with Kishan that day. She was such a fool back then. Noticing Izana in front of her, she quickly controls her mind, trying not to think about those things. Izana looks at her with a grave and puzzled expression. "Lady Ginger Snap, are you?" Before he can finish, he's interrupted by Ginger's mother, who kneels to beg for her daughter's forgiveness. "Your Majesty, please forgive my daughter's transgression." Seeing more onlookers gathering, Izana raises his hand for them to rise. "Today is a joyous day, so I shall overlook this." Ginger breathes a sigh of relief. The vengeful Izana adds, "But if you dare call me by my name again, I'll knead Lady Ginger's face like some Ginger Snap dough." Ginger, who hasn't yet processed this, only celebrates that her life is saved. After Izana leaves, her mother scolds her thoroughly. She obediently hangs her head in acknowledgement, while internally blaming Kishan for giving her a fake necklace. Then she suddenly realizes, if this necklace is fake, then all her thoughts cursing Izana must have been heard by him. That's why he mentioned kneading her face like some Ginger Snap dough. She feels the soul-crushing embarrassment. This makes her even more determined to get Larazi's mind-blocking necklace. But Larazi is very wary of her. She can only first find her fiancé Kishan and warn him to switch the fake necklace with Larazi's real one within half an hour, or she'll tell his father about his affair and break off their engagement. Kishan has no choice but to reluctantly approach Larazi. When Larazi sees him, she immediately throws herself into his arms. "My carriage broke down on the way here. I regret not listening to you and coming together." Kishan unnaturally suggests he'd like to look at the necklace around her neck. Larazi immediately senses something's wrong because he's been obsessing over the necklace these past few days. Combined with his overly nervous expression, she feels there's more to this situation. Ginger, who's been observing them from the second floor, sees them end in an argument. Clearly, Kishan's unusual behavior has angered Larazi. Suddenly, Larazi pauses. She seems attracted by something as she looks toward Izana, and Izana also looks toward her. Ginger watches all this helplessly. She tried her best to prevent it, but she still couldn't stop the novel's male and female leads from meeting for the first time. This is the beginning of their love story. Soon, they'll quickly fall deeply in love, and she's the villainous supporting character who obstructs the main couple. It's not enough that Larazi stole her fiancé. She's even stealing Izana, whom she fell for at first sight. Finally, blinded by jealousy, she meets a miserable end. This is the role the novel has set for her. Ginger feels deeply powerless. No matter how hard she tries, she can't change reality as it follows the novel's plot development. But she's not willing to give up just like this. She believes there's still time to salvage the situation. After all, having read the novel, she knows the male lead Izana can hear others' thoughts just by making eye contact. The female lead Larazi is the person whose thoughts Izana cannot read, while she, Ginger, is the only one who knows his secret. Between the two of them, who would be more attractive to him? Larazi has already taken away her fiancé Kishan. No way would she let herself be dragged back as Larazi's pathetic side character. She quickly walks toward Izana. Izana indeed looks at her curiously. Ginger directly says in her mind, "Izana, if you can truly read others' thoughts, then can you hear my thoughts right now? I know your secret." Izana silently stares at her. After a while, he turns his head with an unchanged expression. His gaze shows no ripples. Ginger drops her eyes helplessly. She failed after all. She still can't rewrite the novel's content. At this moment, Izana suddenly stands up. Ginger is stunned. According to the novel's plot development, he should walk toward Larazi, but right now he's actually walking toward her. Izana stops in front of her and speaks in a cold voice. Ginger is still immersed in the joy of her success. Coming to her senses, she realizes something's wrong. Izana looks at her with an icy expression, questioning how she knows his secret. His cold tone and gaze are completely different from the gentle expression he had when first seeing Larazi in the novel. Her heart instantly sinks to the bottom. Izana urges nudges her again to answer his question. Coming to her senses, Ginger comforts herself that stopping Izana from walking toward Larazi is a good start. She pretends to be shy and says, "Your Majesty, asking me questions with such a frightening expression makes me afraid to speak. Please dance with me, and then I'll answer your question." Izana can only dance with her in silence. During the dance, Ginger's mind races to think of a solution. Izana's distrustful and wary gaze puts her under great pressure. However, seeing Larazi's displeased expression makes her feel slightly better. When the dance ends, Izana immediately asks how she knows he can read others' thoughts. Ginger has already thought of a strategy. She plans to redirect Izana's distrust and wariness towards someone else, so she puts on an act again, shyly expressing that she wants to see him smile. Izana slightly curves his lips, but then he stares at her with murderous intent. "I'm not in the mood to joke with you right now. If you dare order me around again, you'll regret it." Ginger immediately backs down. "I heard some strange rumors about your Majesty." Izana freezes and asks what rumors. "The rumor says you were locked in the tower because you possess eyes that can read others' thoughts." His expression darkens as he asks where she heard this. Ginger immediately throws the blame on Larazi. "It was her who knows about your ability. She particularly likes gossiping about others." Though Izana still doubts her words, he discovers he indeed can't read Larazi's thoughts, and that red hair seems familiar. Meanwhile, Ginger pretends to look at him with admiration. "Your Majesty, can you really read others' thoughts?" Since she already knows, Izana openly admits it, but Ginger curiously expresses wanting to test it, so Izana looks down to make eye contact with her. Seeing his handsome face, all she can think about is how freaking handsome he is. Realizing what she's thinking, she quickly warns herself to stop and think of nothing. Izana is amused by her. His eyes narrow as he vengefully asks why she's not calling him a bastard this time. Ginger shows embarrassment and horror. He continues to tease, "This is the first time I've been cursed by a woman I just met." Ginger clutches her face in utter despair. She wants to find a hole to crawl into, screaming internally, "Oh my god, he really heard my thoughts back then." But Izana looks at her with interest. "I'm not trying to punish you for your thoughts from earlier. I actually found them quite amusing. However, provoking me back then was really rash behavior." Lady Ginger snap. She feels a bit embarrassed by his words. She looks at Izana and silently apologizes in her mind. "That's true, I felt a sense of urgency, so I may have acted rashly." Then she clasps her hands devoutly to her chest. "But even if I could turn back time, no matter how many times, I would make the same choice. Except for the words 'you bastard.'" Izana doesn't intend to pursue it further, instead smiling at her. "In some days, I'll summon you to the palace. I'll be looking forward to what fun nicknames you'll call me then." After saying this, he leaves. Ginger stands there excitedly. Izana actually smiled at her. This is different from what's written in the novel, so has she really changed the story's development? Suddenly, Larazi walks over with her hands on her hips, looking aggressive, asking why she ordered Kishon to steal her necklace. Ginger isn't surprised she could guess this. She bursts out laughing and says innocently, "Can you change your habit of falsely accusing people? I have plenty of things better than your necklace. Why would I need to steal yours?" Although that necklace's function is to block mind reading, she doesn't need it now, because she's already deceived Izana into thinking Larazi knows his mind reading secret. So now, the more Larazi wears this necklace, the more Izana will suspect her. Larazi is stunned for a moment, then asks furiously, "You think I'd believe you? What are you really planning with my necklace? You clearly wanted it badly not long ago, but now something must have happened so you don't want it anymore." Ginger didn't expect her to guess everything correctly, and then readily admits she had Kishon steal her necklace. "But I don't want it now. Don't you know I'm fickle?" Larazi realizes she can't get anything more out of her, and turns to leave. "Since we can't communicate, let's not talk. I'll find out what you're up to sooner or later." Ginger watches her leave with pleasure. This is the first time she's seen Larazi frustrated. At this moment, Kishon runs over breathlessly to question her about why she didn't dance with him but went to dance with the Emperor instead. Ginger doesn't want to give him even a glance. She tells Kishon in disgust not to come near her, or she'll tell his father about him and Larazi. Kishon hangs his head, standing there silently, but she doesn't feel sorry for him at all. After all, when he betrayed her, he should have been prepared to be coldly treated by her. After returning from the banquet, Ginger finishes reading the latter part of the novel, but she suddenly discovers the novel actually has a bad ending, because the latter part of the novel describes how Larazi removes the ruby necklace she usually wears and puts on a more gorgeous, beautiful necklace. Therefore, Izana can also read her thoughts. He feels he's been deceived and finds it very hard to accept this fact. Soon after, Izana understands that he can only avoid reading Larazi's thoughts when she's wearing the ruby necklace. And when Izana learns that her necklace was actually left to her by her grandfather, the magician Gesuit, they head completely toward tragedy. Hearing the name Gesuit, memories deep in Izana's mind begin to slowly awaken. He's filled with fear and hatred because it was Gesuit who cursed him, causing him to read others' thoughts through eye contact. Therefore, Izana can no longer face Larazi normally, because whenever he sees her, he recalls those difficult days when he was locked in the tower. After learning it was her grandfather who brought Izana pain, Larazi feels she can't leave him more. The more Larazi devotes herself to him, the more abnormal his mentality becomes. In the end, she dies at Izana's hands. Their love ultimately ends in tragedy. Having finished the novel, Ginger is filled with fear. She deeply regrets not finishing the novel before attending the banquet. How did it suddenly change from a romance novel to a horror novel? That night, Ginger dreams she almost kisses Izana, but he whispers eerily in her ear, "You will also end up dead." She jolts awake awake and sits up in bed, feeling unable to face Izana anymore. For the entire next day, all she can think about is the novel. Although she dislikes Larazi, that doesn't mean she wants Larazi to die. Now she's just glad the novel's plot has been changed by her, so that annoying Larazi shouldn't have to die. But thinking carefully, she realizes Emperor Izana's life has been truly difficult. Being locked in the tower as a child was miserable enough, and now even his ending in the novel is so tragic. Although she had some regrets about provoking Izana last night, now she suddenly doesn't want his charming smile to be tainted with madness. She suddenly feels the urge to create a beautiful ending for Izana. So she first has her maid Sarah take her to investigate the place where this novel was sold. But when the shop owner sees this book, he says this novel has been listed as a banned book. Because His Majesty Izana has ascended the throne, all the books have been disposed of by the bookstore. Ginger can only continue asking who the book's author is, but the shop owner says he doesn't know either. I buy all my books from Hamel. She finds this name very familiar. After returning home, she quickly flips through the novel. She remembers the novel mentioned this person. She finds it. He's a strange man who suddenly appeared before Larazi one day, saying he was her grandfather's disciple. He has gray hair, wears glasses, and is the second male lead in the novel. Ginger ponders if it's a coincidence that the middleman's name is the same as the second male lead. At this moment, her mother excitedly tells her His Majesty has summoned her to the palace. Although Izana had said before that he would summon her to the palace in a few days, Ginger didn't expect it to be so soon. Looking at the luxurious carriage before her, she exclaims in amazement. Then Izana's aide bows to her and says he's responsible for escorting her to the palace today. Looking at the man before her, Ginger immediately recognizes this as the second male lead Hamel from the novel. Ginger curiously observes him. In the novel, Hamel and Emperor Izana are rivals in love. They both like the female lead Larazi. So how did he become Izana's aide? Hamel's stride suddenly stops. He quickly pulls her up. Ginger doesn't react in time and stumbles, suspended in midair from his pull. Coming to her senses, she asks Hamel what he's doing. He looks nervous. Something terrible almost happened. Seeing his reaction, Ginger also becomes nervous and looks around, asking what happened. He slightly lowers his head and adjusts his glasses to explain, I almost stepped on an ant. He trembles all over as he looks at the ground. How frightened such a weak life must have been. Standing beside him, Ginger is truly speechless. Unexpectedly, he gets more and more agitated and sadly covers his mouth. I almost took away these little lives. Ginger's face darkens. She wonders if Hamel is joking or trying to ease her nervousness, but it doesn't seem like it. Hamel seriously tells her she must always watch her step. Ginger is even more speechless. On the way to the palace, she wonders if she mistook him for someone else, but his appearance matches the novel's description exactly, so she directly asks what his name is. I'm called Lekishan. Everyone calls me Lala. Only then does Ginger realize she mistook him for someone else. She thinks she probably got too absorbed in reading the novel. He tells her she can just call him Lala. She also politely tells him he can call her by her name directly. After introducing each other, their relationship becomes slightly closer. Soon, Ginger feels drowsiness coming over her. Having not slept well last night, she plans to lean against the window and take a nap. After she falls asleep, Lekishan seems like a different person, staring at her with complex eyes. Only when they reach the palace does he wake her up. Ginger curiously pokes her body out the window. This is her first time at the palace, and she's amazed by the scene before her. The palace is so beautiful. Lekishan tells her that following this path will lead her to His Majesty. Ginger politely thanks him. Just as she's about to leave, Lekishan calls her back, reminding her not to forget to watch for ants underfoot. She speechlessly makes a gesture indicating she got it. She really doesn't know whether to call him foolish or kind, so she can only lift her skirt and carefully watch the ground as she goes to find Izana. Seeing Izana sleeping under the tree, Ginger's face turns slightly red as she crouches in front of him to quietly observe. Looking at him so closely, she thinks he's really so handsome that her heart skips a beat. She can't help but lift her hand, wanting to touch him. Izana suddenly opens his eyes and looks at her. Startled, Ginger immediately hides her hand behind her back, her face flushed red as she avoids his gaze, stammering, Did I wake you up? He rubs his forehead, explaining he was just thinking about some things. Then he turns to look at Ginger. Ginger Tort, 19 years old, only daughter of Marquise Tort, stubborn and willful when things don't go her way. She throws tantrums, and she has been nemesis since childhood with Marquise Atlantis's daughter Larazi. The more Ginger listens, the more embarrassed she becomes. By the end, her face is completely red. She feels like she has no privacy in front of him, so she angrily asks why he investigated her, internally complaining for him to hear. Even then, Emperor shouldn't arbitrarily investigate the backgrounds of innocent citizens. Because I'm curious. Ginger snap, you're the one who made me curious about you. Ginger turns her head away, her face clearly showing displeasure. Izana looks a bit confused as he tilts his head. Lady Ginger snap, are you unhappy because I investigated you without permission? Ginger finds his words very annoying. Who would be happy about something like this? If you can honestly answer my questions, I won't investigate you anymore. She slightly frowns and pouts, asking what he wants to know. Izana turns his face toward her with a smile. Everything. I want to know how much you understand about me. Ginger agrees on the surface that as long as he doesn't read her thoughts, she'll tell him everything. But her eyes immediately look elsewhere, avoiding eye contact so he can't read her thoughts, because she would never honestly confess everything. Right now, everything is developing according to the novel's plot. With such a tragic ending for him in the novel, how could she speak of it? Izana feels somewhat troubled. After all, reading others' thoughts isn't something he can control. I have a good idea. What if I close my eyes? Seeing her being so naive, he's slightly stunned, and then bursts into laughter. How interesting. I can't predict what you'll do next at all. He slowly leans closer and asks if she plans to keep her eyes closed like this. Ginger nods firmly. As they get closer and closer, Izana's eyes flash with mischief. But this way, you won't know what I might do to you. Ginger's face turns bright red as she stammers, asking what he wants to do. The next second, she senses something and opens her eyes. Izana is holding her waist, embracing her. She can't control her wild thoughts. What is he doing? Is he going to kiss me? But Izana immediately releases her, raising both hands innocently to indicate he had no such intention. She immediately closes her eyes to prevent him from reading her thoughts, because she's cursing him in her mind. Izana laughs and asks if she's afraid of him, but Ginger inexplicably feels that although he's smiling now, he's actually very sad. She shakes her head. I'm not afraid of you, but I'm curious how you read others' thoughts. Izana leans against the tree, tilting his head with a smile. In fact, you can also read others' thoughts. She asks in confusion how to read. He tells her that first she needs to observe every movement of the other person. She might not be able to observe specific details, but she can still make out the basics. For example, when she's nervous, she pinches her lips. Her eyes also blink very quickly. Izana stares straight at her. At yesterday's banquet, I discovered you were very straightforward, but you never dared to look directly into my eyes. So what are you hiding? His analysis makes her nervously pinch her lips again. He's way too accurate. After that, Izana asks her to also try observing his movements to guess his thoughts. If you concentrate enough, you'll definitely be able to see something. Ginger finds this sentence very familiar, then remembers this is a line he was supposed to say to Larazi in the book. Now he's actually saying it to her. She can't help but feel excited. After calming down, she decides to properly observe him and read his thoughts. He's wearing a neatly ironed white shirt with buttons fastened all the way to the top. He doesn't even wear a ring on his hands. Despite being an emperor, his remarkable simplicity reveals a man who's both attentive and free-spirited. But she doesn't plan to say something so simple. She wants to come up with an answer that strikes straight to the heart. She suddenly thinks of Larazi's line from the novel, so she decides to directly copy the answer. Your Majesty, I see your wounds. After saying this, she anticipates his reaction, but Izana only freezes slightly, then bursts into uncontrollable laughter. Ginger's face turns red with embarrassment from his laughter. Did she copy the wrong answer? As time passes, they spend the entire afternoon chatting. Then Izana has Laikishan escort her back. Returning to the palace, he unconsciously recalls his childhood. He has eyes that can read other people's thoughts, so his father locked him in the tower. That was the first time he saw his father's serious gaze tinged with disgust. Izana, the ability you possess is a curse. It will bring misfortune not only to you, but to everything around you, so don't resent me. What followed was the cold closing of the tower doors. He never wanted this curse-like ability. Cursed as he was, he felt that his parents didn't want him anymore. Maybe he shouldn't exist in this world. He even had extreme thoughts, wanting to gouge out his own cursed eyes, but was too cowardly to go through with it, in order to escape the tower one day. From then on, he began studying his ability, gradually understanding exactly how his power manifested. Through verification, as long as he makes eye contact with others, his ability appears. As long as he wants to know, he can hear the ugly thoughts people hide in their hearts. Until now, there hasn't been a single failure, except for that red-haired woman. Izana can't help but wonder what secret she's hiding. At this moment, Lucky-chan comes to report that he has safely escorted Lady Ginger back to her residence. Izana smiles and thanks him. Good work, Lala. Lucky-chan asks if he got the answer he wanted from Lady Ginger. Izana sighs slightly and denies it. He was too busy chatting idly with her. At that time, he couldn't stop laughing at her somewhat melodramatic words, laughing while asking her how she could say such things. Ginger's face turned red as she angrily questioned what was so funny. Your Majesty, it makes me very anxious. Could you please stop laughing? Recalling this, Izana can't help but smile again. This is the first time since his birth that he's had such an honest conversation with someone. Her thoughts and feelings are directly expressed on her face. During this time, he's seen too many two-faced people. Someone as pure as her is actually rare. It's not until Lakishan calls his name in confusion that he snaps back to reality. Then he instructs Lakishan to bring Larazi to the palace tomorrow. Ginger must be hiding a secret related to him. Since she's pushing everything onto Larazi, he plans to start with Larazi first. At this moment, Larazi is sitting at home studying the red gemstone necklace. She can't understand why Ginger would steal this necklace. She asked Kishan, but he couldn't give a specific reason either. Having been played by Ginger, Larazi is very annoyed. Speaking of which, she thinks of His Majesty. She can never forget his deep, flickering gaze from the banquet that day. She could feel that His Majesty clearly had something to say to her then. If it weren't for Ginger's tricks, she could have struck up a conversation with His Majesty right then. Suddenly, her thoughts are interrupted by a call. It's Laikishan in the Order of Emperor to summon her to the palace. necklace. I apologize for coming here without prior notice. I'm Lekishan. I am His Majesty's aide. Although it's the first time hearing his name, Larazi inexplicably feels a sense of familiarity. Lekishan informs her that His Majesty wishes to see her. Larazi's eyes widen as she freezes in place. The surprise comes too suddenly. She casually picks up the red gemstone necklace. Lekishan suddenly advises her it would be best not to wear this necklace, but Larazi doesn't listen to him. He can only speak up. Please don't wear the necklace that Lord Jesuit gave you. Larazi freezes. She never expected he would know her grandfather. Who exactly are you? On the other side, Ginger, who has returned home, is regretting copying the wrong answer. She clearly said it according to Larazi's line from the novel, but after hearing it, Izana couldn't stop laughing. She's so embarrassed. But Izana looks really good when he laughs. It's a smile without any impurities. She wonders what he's doing right now. Her mother suddenly comes to find her to discuss marriage. Duke Michelson has sent a letter. He's already set the wedding date. Ginger jumps up suddenly. How is she suddenly getting married? Her mother explains that she and Kishan have been engaged for some time, so bringing up marriage now is normal. Ginger has been too comfortable lately and forgot about breaking off the engagement. She goes all out and loudly tells her mother she doesn't want to marry Kishan. After saying that, she hangs her head, feeling sorry for only telling her mother her thoughts now. But her mother doesn't get angry. Instead, she gently takes her hand. You must have your own reasons for this decision. As your mother, I naturally stand by your side. That bastard Kishan must have done something awful. She hugs her daughter comfortingly. This is an important decision about your life. No matter what you decide, Mom will always support you. She just can't think of what reason to use to refuse Duke Michelson. Ginger says she wants to personally discuss the engagement cancellation with Duke Michelson. After arriving at Duke Michelson's house, she tells him about Kishan and Larazi being together and proposes to break off the engagement, but Duke Michelson refuses her. I thought it was something important. An engagement is an agreement between families. Besides, you're engaged to a ducal family. It isn't something you can break off just because you want to. He asks her to be understanding of Kishan. Once they're married and living together, Kishan will settle down. She really didn't expect his face to be this thick. She puts down harsh words, saying she's definitely breaking off this marriage. Duke Michelson just looks indifferent. How will you break off the engagement? Unless you can bring someone with more power and authority than me, but with your strength, don't even dream about it. Ginger remains silent. She didn't expect this despicable, shameless guy to actually threaten her with power. Suddenly, she thinks of someone. You just mentioned someone with power and authority? You mean if I find someone with more power and authority than you, I can break off the engagement, right? Duke Michelson smirks contemptuously. That's right. Ginger suddenly stands up, telling him he better keep his promise then. She wants to see if he can still laugh next time. After all, she has connections he can't imagine. On the way home, she's still very angry, cursing that bastard in her heart for actually threatening her. But no matter what, she must ask Izana to help her break off the engagement. So now she needs to think carefully about how to ask for his help. Without realizing it, she walks to the bookstore she visited before. Feeling depressed, she immediately walks into the bookstore planning to read some new romance novels to heal her wounded heart. Just as she finds a book with a good title, she reaches out to grab that book. But suddenly a slender hand appears beside her and touches her hand. She glares over furiously, thinking what inconsiderate guy is competing with her for the book. But when she sees who it is, it's actually Lekishan. Lekishan smiles and greets her. Ginger is curious if he also reads romance novels. Lekishan nods. She feels very surprised, thinking to herself that he clearly has the appearance of a rational elite that has nothing to do with romance novels. Lekishan narrows his eyes, then voices her thoughts. Lady Ginger, are you thinking that I have the appearance of a rational elite that doesn't match romance novels? Having her thoughts guessed, Ginger immediately denies it. She awkwardly complains internally. Can Lala also read minds? Then he tells her that not only does he read law. Ginger is truly shocked. She imagines him writing romance novels in her mind and feels nothing but incongruity. Lekishan seems to see through everything. Lady Ginger, are you thinking right now that I absolutely couldn't write romance novels? She awkwardly turns away, and he quickly explains that he's not reading her inner thoughts, but that his intuition is just very sharp. Ginger complains that his intuition is way too sharp. Seeing her expression, Lekishan can't help but smile. Forgive my presumption, Lady Ginger. You're really very interesting. Ginger is very dissatisfied and purses her lips. Thinking of what Izana said, Lady Ginger's snap is really interesting. She's been mocked too much lately, making her a bit angry. Suddenly thinking of something, she immediately switches to a pitiful expression, saying she really wants to read this book too. But she's not unwilling to reluctantly give it to him. However, she has one request. Let me see His Majesty Izana one more time. Just as she's thinking to herself how clever she is, pretending to be kind by giving him the book and then taking the opportunity to propose a trade. Lekishan readily agrees. His Majesty should also be eagerly awaiting to meet with you. This sentence makes Ginger blush bright red. Izana plays the cool, indifferent type on the surface, but he's actually desperate for my visit. How cute. Lekishan watches her lost in fantasy and can't help but tell her that eagerly awaiting has many meanings. She looks at him expectantly, asking if in this situation it should be positive. Lekishan clutches the the book and backs away, avoiding her expectant gaze. Pro, probably. Then he tells her he'll go back and tell His Majesty about this and will let her know when there's news. She beams with joy and thanks him. 2 days later, Ginger is at home reading a novel when suddenly there's a knock at the door. It's Kishan coming to talk to her about breaking off the engagement. He's here to ask her to give up the idea of breaking off the engagement. Ginger unhurriedly takes a sip of tea, telling him to go get engaged to Larazi. Kishan looks innocent, saying he and Larazi have had nothing to do with each other for a long time. Ginger's voice turns cold as she tells him to go away. I don't know who brought you to my room, but from now on you're not allowed to come here without my permission. He still wants to beg her not to break off the engagement, but Ginger interrupts him, telling him to shut up. From the moment I learned of your betrayal, all of this was already decided. At this moment, Sarah tells her a letter has arrived, guessing it must be a letter from Lakishan. She opens the letter joyfully. In it, he says he'll come pick her up shortly to see Azana, so she stands up planning to leave. But remembering Kishan is still there, she immediately gives him an eviction order. I'll say it again, no matter what you say, we're already over. Kishan stands there speechless and rigid. After an hour, he's still waiting for Ginger to return. He was severely scolded by his father at home. If he gets his engagement broken off, it will damage the family's prestige and reputation. So he had no choice but to swallow his pride and come ask for forgiveness. He's very dissatisfied that his father previously encouraged him to date several women before marriage, but now is getting angry with him here. This is the first time in his life he's felt this kind of defeat. Previously, Ginger had always been chasing after him. Now she's turned her attention to Azana. He feels unwilling, grabbing his head in frustration. If only he hadn't gone after Larazi. Suddenly something falls down. He picks it up and discovers it's a novel called The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquise's Daughter. At this moment, Ginger is sitting in a carriage with Lakishan heading to the palace. Seeing the increasingly familiar scenery outside the window, she curiously asks Lakishan why His Majesty is always in the garden. Lakishan gives a meaningful look. Why His Majesty always stays in the garden, Lady Ginger. You should know why. Ginger freezes, wanting to ask him why he says this. But the carriage stops at this moment, and Lakishan invites her to get off. She lifts her skirt, wondering in her heart what he meant by those words just now. Walking in the garden, she keeps thinking about what he said. Suddenly, she remembers that she had read in the novel that because Azana was locked in the tower for a long time, he extremely dislikes enclosed spaces, so he spends most of his time in the garden. But how does Lakishan know that she knows these things? Is this also his speculation and intuition? Now that she thinks about, she feels their encounter at the bookstore a few days ago was also a bit strange. Azana interrupts her thoughts, smiling and greeting her. Hello, Lady Ginger Snap. Hearing Ginger Snap makes Ginger want to explode. She holds back her dissatisfaction and curtsies to him. Today, she's here to ask for his help, so she must control her temper. Azana tells her he met with Larazi some time ago. Ginger's anger instantly flares. That brat? This makes Azana can't help but laugh out loud. She immediately tries to calm herself down. Your Majesty, you personally met with Lady Larazi? He says, seriously, that's right. I met with that brat. Oh no, that lady. Ginger helplessly asks if he's teasing her. Azana rests his face on his hand and smilingly admits he's just teasing her. His smile bewitches her, making her heart beat non-stop. How is he so handsome? It makes her want to punch him, but seeing that handsome face, she can't bear to. Snapping back to reality, she asks Azana if there was something he wanted to ask Larazi, but he says it's a secret. Ginger pouts dissatisfiedly, accusing him of being petty. Azana tilts his head and smiles at her. The petty one should be you, Lady Ginger Snap. You keep dangling my curiosity, not telling me a single thing I'm most curious about. Ginger lowers her eyes, not daring to make eye contact with him, because once she reveals the novel, he'll know about his tragic ending. She really can't bear to say it. Seeing her troubled expression, Azana changes the subject. Let's not talk about this for now. What do you need from me? Only then does she remember the main business, unhappily bringing up her engagement cancellation. Duke Michelson said unless I find someone with power and authority to order it, otherwise this marriage can't be broken off. Then she tells him everything about Kishan and Larazi. Azana jokingly says, just hearing this makes me think this person is terrible. I really want to knead his face like some Ginger Snap dough. Ginger blushes and shouts, Your Majesty, you still remember that incident. He smilingly says he has a very deep impression of it, so she can only laugh awkwardly. Having teased enough, he asks if she wants him to help her break off the engagement. Ginger immediately nods, but Azana shows a troubled expression. After all, this matter involves her opponent, Larazi. Then he asks her suspiciously if she's mixed in personal grudges. Ginger quickly waves her hands, explaining she absolutely hasn't mixed in any personal grudges, Your Majesty. It seems you've really investigated me very thoroughly. He smilingly looks at her. Yes, because I'm very curious about you. Her heart skips 2 beats instantly. Although she knows he's only curious about the secret she's hiding, she still can't help but be attracted. Azana tells her he can help break off this marriage. However, let's make a deal. She curiously asks what deal. He slowly approaches her. Tell me the secret you're hiding. The distance between them is so close that looking at his handsome face, Ginger becomes somewhat dazed. She tells herself internally that she must hold on. He's using his charm on her. She absolutely can't be seduced. Azana reads her thoughts and openly admits, that's right, I'm seducing you right now, Lady Ginger Snap. Tell me, how do you know about my ability? He gets closer and closer to her. Ginger feels like she can barely breathe. She can't help but say, book. Realizing she almost said it, she immediately turns away to avoid his gaze. Azana forcefully turns her face back. Quickly tell me how you know. Her face is tightly cupped by by him, they're so close that she can even hear her own thunderous heartbeat. So, bewitched by his beauty, she unconsciously says that she actually learned about it from a book. Izana finally lets go of her. She covers her face that's red enough to catch fire with both hands. Oh my god, I revealed the secret! But behind her, Izana asks in confusion, did you just say book? A book about me? Ginger breaks out in a cold sweat. What should I do? Should I quickly change the subject? But no matter how I explain, he'll find out eventually. Maybe I should just come clean. Izana looks at her with interest. That's the right way to think. Just come clean about everything. So Ginger tells him everything she knows. Your Majesty, I have a book about you. That book not only contains your past, but also your future. Watching him fall into silence, she looks at him worriedly, guessing he would want to see that book, but she's not sure if she should bring it out because she doesn't want him to see his own tragic ending. So she hesitantly asks if he believes what she's saying. Izana says that although her words sound very absurd, he can feel that these words are true. Ginger looks at him sympathetically. Suddenly, he asks with slight hesitation, seemingly afraid to inquire, Lady Ginger Snap, am I happy in that book? Hearing his question, Ginger presses her lips tightly together without speaking. If only she could lie right now, then she could answer that he's handsome and powerful, has everything. How could he not be happy? Seeing her sad expression, he guesses, it seems I'm not happy. He doesn't dwell too much on this matter, then proposes that he's willing to help her break off the engagement. But can you let me see that book? He tries to persuade Ginger. I think it's necessary for me to look at it. Someone knows about my ability and wrote a book about it. This might cause me very troublesome things in the future. She's still a bit hesitant. Izana suddenly moves close to her, staring at her with gentle eyes. Let me see it. Her cheeks instantly turn crimson. Her heart starts pounding wildly again. She feels like her soul is about to be stolen away, unconsciously agreeing to his request. Realizing she's fallen for his trick again, Ginger sheds tears of frustration. She really can't withstand his gentleness. Izana takes her hand, bending down to give her a kiss on her hand. Come to the palace again tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you. She blushes with slightly pouted lips. Your Majesty, aren't you really a womanizer? Izana looks at her and shows that charming smile again. Then do you want to try it with me? Ginger can't help but scream internally. How is he so good at this? Returning home, Ginger feels like she's about to collapse from exhaustion. She helplessly opens the cabinet to look for the novel, but can't find it anywhere. Sarah tells her the book seemed to be on the coffee table before. Ginger suddenly remembers Kishan came by. Could he have taken it? She calmly eliminates all possibilities and finds he's the most suspicious. It is troublesome now. If Kishan reads that book, he'll definitely notice something. But if she goes to find him, he won't obediently hand it over. And if he finds out she urgently needs that book, it might even become her weakness. She starts worrying whether he'll show the book to Larazi. Once Larazi sees that book, she'll know why she wanted that necklace. Larazi will also very likely develop feelings of pity and heartache for Emperor Izana, and decide that Izana is her destined other half. The always bold in love and hate Larazi might not care about her own tragic ending in the novel at all. Ginger holds her forehead with some headache. Tomorrow, she still needs to bring the book to Izana. But where can she find another book? After all, that book is now banned. Suddenly, she has a flash of inspiration. Since she can't buy it, couldn't she just write one herself? In the novel, the male lead is Izana. The female lead is herself. She replaces all of Larazi's content in the novel with herself. Then she fantasizes about Izana confessing to her, and can't help but get excited. Having read hundreds of romance novels since childhood, she can definitely make it. Just like this, she keeps writing until the next morning to finish the novel. After that, she collapses on the table looking completely exhausted. She deleted all content about Larazi, Hamel, and Jesuit, with the ending being her and Izana living happily together. Then she calls Sarah to have her bind all the drafts she wrote into a book, and tells her to make the cover pink, with the title The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquise's Daughter. After Sarah leaves, she lies tiredly on the table and falls asleep. Soon Sarah wakes her up, saying the book is bound together. She carefully checks the book's packaging, then shows a satisfied smile. Sarah reminds her that the palace carriage has arrived. Ginger confidently prepares to change clothes and go to the palace. The one who comes to pick her up is indeed still Lekishan. Ginger smiles and greets him, but he stares intently at the book in her arms. She immediately hides the book behind her, thinking he wants to read this novel. But Lekishan is amused by her reaction, afraid of being too rude. He can only cover his mouth with both hands, his face turning red from holding back laughter. Ginger dissatisfiedly asks if he's mocking her. Having laughed enough, Lekishan takes off his glasses to wipe his tears and apologizes for his rudeness. She's stunned, not expecting him to be so handsome when he laughs. Coming to her senses, she immediately pats her own head. Wake up! What time is it and you're still being infatuated? So she turns to get in the carriage, but Lekishan calls out to her. Are you really going to bring that book to His Majesty? She turns around in confusion, puzzled how he would know about this. Then he raises his hand and casts magic. Ginger instantly enters an illusion. She looks around and finds this should be the palace garden. In the pavilion sit her and Izana. She slowly walks over and sees Izana reading the novel she wrote. He suddenly lets out a cold laugh. You clearly said before that you heard about my ability from Larazi, but this book doesn't mention it at all. It is all about stupid love, not a single important piece of content. All nonsense. How dare you deceive me with a fake book? Izana violently tears up the book she wrote. With a cold expression, he orders her execution. Ginger wakes up terrified from the illusion. She holds herself in shock and asks Lekishan what she just saw. He explains that was him using magic to show her the near future, a kind of prophecy. Ginger looks at him with complex eyes and questions who he really is. Lekishan no longer hides it. My real name is Hamel Bray. Only then does she realize he's the second male lead from the novel, also Larazi's grandfather's disciple. In the novel, Hamel always secretly loved Larazi. After finally understanding that Larazi's love was always for Izana, he silently protected her from behind, because he believed that blessing the one he loves is also a kind of happiness. Ginger finds it strange why he became Izana's aide and why he's hiding his identity. She asks him to explain everything clearly. Lekishan tells her to go see Izana first. He'll explain the details to her later. He snaps his fingers. A pink book falls from thin air. It's actually the imprisoned prince and the marquise's daughter. Then he has her take this book to Izana. If you bring the book you wrote to his majesty, just like the future you saw, something terrible will happen. Although Ginger is annoyed, she can only accept it. Lekishan tells her that all content related to him in this book has been deleted. After all, his majesty doesn't know he's Hamel yet. She holds the book and asks Lekishan if the previous banned book was also written by him. He nods in admission. She still wants to ask why he wrote such a book, but the carriage suddenly stops. Lekishan promises he'll slowly explain everything to her later. After getting off the carriage, Ginger can only give the novel she wrote to Lekishan for safekeeping, since she can't bring both in, and warns him not to peek at it. Lekishan swears he definitely won't touch it. Just as she's about to leave, Lekishan casts magic on her right hand. Soon, a delicate bracelet appears. Wearing this, you won't be able to mention Hamel in front of his majesty. He apologizes to Ginger that he can't reveal his identity yet. Ginger can only helplessly leave. While leaving, she complains whether her novel was really that bad. Seeing her so emotionally expressive, Lekishan can't help but show a slight smile. After that, Ginger comes to the pavilion and gives the book to Izana. Izana sits in the chair holding the book she gave him and flips through it. The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquise's Daughter. The Imprisoned Prince refers to me. It's quite a good title. Ginger, still traumatized by what happened in the illusion, carefully asks what she should do now. Izana gently tells her she can leave first, or wait here for him to finish reading. Ginger relaxes and happily says she wants to wait here. He considerately tells her if she gets bored, she can stroll around the garden, staring at his handsome face. She wonders what he'll think after reading this book. Will he still fall in love with Larazi? As she thinks about it, drowsiness hits her. She stayed up too late last night. She thinks to herself that she can't sleep here, but her eyes disobediently close. When she wakes up, she finds herself surrounded by darkness. How did it get dark so quickly? Izana, not far away, says, "You're awake." Only then does she realize she's indoors. Izana explained she was sleeping so soundly he didn't have the heart to wake her, but her first reaction is to ask if she was snoring. Izana smilingly says he can't deny it. Ginger blushes and embarrassedly covers her mouth with her head down. She looks around and finds this seems to be his room. Could it be that when she was asleep, Izana carried her here? She gets excited upon thinking it. Speaking of which, this room is too dark. She asks if he can light a lamp, but Izana firmly refuses her. When it's dark, I can't read your thoughts through seeing your eyes. Darkness is his only solace. He smiles bitterly in self-mockery. Ginger's eyes are full of heartache. Although she can't see his expression clearly, she can feel his loneliness and bitterness just from his voice. She fumbles around, trying to hold his hand to comfort him, which startles Izana greatly. He suddenly grabs her hand and asks what she's trying to do. Ginger is also startled. "Wasn't that your hand just now?" He tells her awkwardly and with a red face that it was his leg. Seeing this, she quickly apologizes, saying she didn't mean to. "Your Majesty, I just wanted to hold your hand and give you comfort." Izana buries his flushed face in his palms. Ginger snap, "I really don't know what to do with you." She worriedly asks if he won't punish her. Izana glares at her in embarrassment. "If you did it on purpose, I really would want to punish you." Ginger loudly protests in guilt, "I didn't." Although she wasn't intentional just now, she does want to touch him again now. Her obvious attempt to cover up makes him very confused. "I feel like you're acting strange. I really want to turn on the lights right now and read your thoughts." Ginger looks panicked and tells him not to turn them on, swearing that everything she said is true. Izana chuckles softly. Then he extends his hand toward her. Ginger asks in confusion what he wants to do. He says teasingly, "Didn't you want to hold my hand? Here, take it." She doesn't hesitate to grasp his hand tightly, and immediately feels a wave of warmth. Although she hasn't been with Izana for very long, from the first moment she saw him until now, she feels herself becoming more and more fascinated by him. Feeling the warmth in his hand, Izana also blushes, explaining awkwardly that the room is a bit hot. Ginger's heartbeat also inexplicably accelerates. If this continues, she feels she might fall in love with Izana, just like the Ginger in the novel. After all, liking someone doesn't need any special reason. Her hand involuntarily moves within his. He asks in confusion what she's doing. Ginger looks at him excitedly. "I want to cherish the opportunity your Majesty has given me," and happily interlocks her fingers with his. Izana sighs with a red face. "I'm really defeated by you. I keep getting sidetracked by you today." Ginger happily expresses that she's glad she can make him get sidetracked. She can't help but think to herself that in the novel, Izana loves Larazi, so who will he fall in love with in reality? If only things could develop according to the novel she wrote. Izana tells her he has finished reading the novel she gave him. He discovers incredulously that what happened in the past is exactly the same as what's written in the novel. However, Lady Ginger snap, "You seem to have lied to me about something. What you said about learning of my ability from Larazi was false, right?" Ginger freezes completely. She explains that since it was their first meeting, even if she had mentioned the book, he wouldn't have believed her. After explaining, she sincerely apologizes to him. Izana is also very understanding. That's true. After all, you must have been completely confused when you first saw this book. I'll let it slide this time. Only then does she breathe a sigh of relief. He keeps looking at her coldly, however. If you lie to me again next time, I really will turn you into Ginger Snap. Ginger is so frightened that she shrinks back. She finds the words Ginger Snap terrifying for the first time. Izana picks up the book and asks her who the author is and how they could know so much about his ability. Ginger recalls that she was also curious about the author's identity at that time, so she went to the bookstore to ask the owner. But the bookstore owner also didn't know who the author of this book was. She vaguely remembers the owner seemed to mention who the author was, but she mysteriously just can't remember. Izana actually has a suspect in mind. Ginger asks curiously who it is. It's Gesuit. After reading that book, I remembered meeting him when I was a child. Just as the book says, if it was he that cursed me, then perhaps this book was also written by him, though I don't know his motives. Ginger instinctively denies his guess. After all, Gesuit is already dead. But Izana says he didn't personally witness his death, so Gesuit could very well still be alive. But Ginger has the feeling she's forgotten something. Her intuition tells her it's not Gesuit, but someone she knows. Suddenly, she notices a bracelet on her right hand, but strangely, she doesn't know when she put on this bracelet. At this moment, Izana interrupts her thoughts. However, the Ginger Tort in the book is exactly like you. Ginger immediately forgets about the bracelet and protests indignantly, "How are we alike? Just that look of being infatuated with me and lost in wild fantasies." Ginger awkwardly claims she doesn't understand what he's talking about, but Izana doesn't plan to let her off easily, his eyes flashing with mischief. "Do you need me to help refresh your memory?" She frantically interrupts him, telling him to stop. Ginger feels the cringe crawl up her spine. Izana tries hard to cover his mouth to keep from laughing out loud. He says she's still a little different. The Ginger in the book is just a foolish villain, but she's different in reality. Sometimes her foolishness carries a hint of innocence. Ginger is completely speechless. Is he praising her or insulting her? Then Izana says he doesn't believe the future will develop according to the novel. For example, he hasn't fallen in love with Larazi, just like what's written in the novel. He couldn't read her thoughts, so he became slightly curious about her. At this moment, Ginger is extremely grateful she didn't steal that ruby necklace. If she had worn that necklace, Larazi's tragedy might have befallen her instead. Izana mentions that unlike the novel version of her, he has felt the real her's charm. Hearing his words, she asks expectantly what charm of hers he has felt. He says teasingly, "How should I put it? The innocent yet silly charm?" Ginger looks at him speechlessly. She shouldn't have expected him to say anything complimentary. Izana just smiles at her. It's his first time meeting someone like her. Ginger can only console herself that being perceived as charming by him is still a gain. Izana suddenly stands up. He's been feeling a bit hot since earlier, so he takes off his coat and loosens his collar. Hearing the sounds of him undressing in the darkness, Ginger becomes dazed, seduced by his attractiveness, unconsciously thinking, smooth skin. Izana suddenly turns on the light and makes eye contact with her. They stare at each other for a moment. Coming to her senses, she uncertainly asks if he heard her thoughts just now, awkwardly asking why he suddenly turned on the light. Izana, still a bit confused, answers that he just felt it was too dark, so he turned on the light. Ginger steels herself to ask if he read her thoughts just now, desperately hoping internally that he didn't hear. He tightens the shirt collar he had loosened earlier, saying shyly, "I take back what I said about you being innocent." Realizing he definitely read her improper thoughts just now, she's struck as if by lightning and collapses, holding her head. Izana protectively shields himself while looking at her warily, suggesting maybe he should turn the lights back off. Ginger, face completely red and eyes closed, says frantically, "No need, I won't think random thoughts anymore." Internally, she curses herself for why the lights had to be turned on at that exact moment and why she had to make eye contact with him. Izana seems to consider for a moment, then says he hasn't given her permission to have those kinds of thoughts about him. Upon hearing this, her eyes immediately light up with expectation. "Your Majesty, if you gives permission, can I have those kinds of thoughts about you?" He silently backs away, while replying he needs to think about that some more. Ginger looks speechlessly at his retreating movement. Unable to bear it any longer, she declares that she's a woman with principles. So is it necessary for him to stay so far away from her? It's not like she's going to eat him. Izana urges her that she should go home, and looks at the clock. It's not good for a principled young lady to stay in a man's room this late, is it? Only then does she realize how late it has become. She reluctantly lingers in bed for a long time without getting up, feeling it would be such a waste to just go back like this. She looks up at him, wanting to know what he's thinking right now, whether he feels the same sense of waste as she does. If only she could read his thoughts too. Seeing her not responding for a while, Izana asks in confusion what's wrong. She asks somewhat embarrassedly if she can stay and not go back. Izana comments that her suggestion is very dangerous. She simply confesses, since her thoughts have already been seen through by him anyway, she might as well take this opportunity to witness it firsthand. Izana frantically tells her not to joke around like that, but Ginger looks at him seriously, thinking loudly in her heart, "I'm not joking, I'm serious." He avoids her gaze. This is the first time he's been so afraid of reading someone's thoughts. Then he urges her that she must go back tonight, because he has to meet Duke Michelson early tomorrow morning. Ginger automatically ignores the part about going back and asks excitedly if his meeting with Duke Michelson is about her engagement annulment. He nods, but he hasn't figured out what excuse to use to persuade him to break the engagement. After all, this is a ducal family's engagement. It's not good to dissolve the marriage without proper justification. Ginger thinks for a moment and suddenly comes up with what she thinks is a perfect perfect solution. Then she lies back down on the bed, mumbling that she won't go home today after all. Izana is shocked by her words. She seriously explains that if she stays overnight here today, it could make Duke Michelson misunderstand their relationship, and then the engagement would naturally have to be dissolved. Then she shyly draws circles with her finger, saying that of course nothing will happen between them tonight, but if he wants something to happen, she would also accept it. Izana immediately breaks out in cold sweat and quickly stops her from continuing, saying it would affect her reputation. Ginger completely misses his rejection and instead asks moved if he's worried about her. Izana explains defensively that he's not worried about her, just speculating. Feeling his concern, Ginger smiles happily with squinted eyes. Either way, you agree to let me stay here tonight, right? Seeing this, he can only compromise and gives her the room, going to the study by himself. But he closes his book helplessly after just a short while. His mind is full of Ginger snap, and he can't concentrate on reading at all. Suddenly, he smiles slightly. He finds it incredible that Ginger isn't afraid of him at all. Guessing that she should be asleep by now, he comes to the door and tries knocking a few times, but there's no response. He carefully opens the door and sees Ginger sleeping peacefully. He walks to the bedside and leans down slightly to look at her, silently complaining to himself, is this really the same person who just claimed she'd be too excited to sleep in his room? Then he reaches out to brush away the hair from her forehead, murmuring, Lady Ginger Snap, what should I do with you? Ginger in her sleep suddenly moves, her cheek touching his hand. Izana's thoughts immediately snap back to reality. Realizing what he's doing, he quickly lifts his hand. Perhaps it's because reading that book tonight made him lose his composure, since the book not only described his imprisonment in the tower, but also depicted such a terrifying future. If Ginger hadn't been by his side, he probably would have been even more despairing. After that, he walks to the door and looks back at Ginger. Thank you, Lady Ginger Snap. Then he closes the door. The next morning, Ginger wakes up feeling like she slept particularly well. She had thought she'd be too excited to sleep, but unexpectedly she fell asleep instantly, and she even had a fond dream. Soon a maid comes to tell her that Duke Michelson has just entered the palace. Ginger quickly checks her state. Messy hair, disheveled clothes, clearly looking like she just woke up. Perfect for making Duke Michelson misunderstand. Meanwhile, Izana is about to bring up the engagement annulment with Duke Michelson. Ginger walks in pretending to have just woken up. Your Majesty, I've come to pay my respects. After entering, she acts as if she's just noticed Duke Michelson. Oh my, Duke Michelson, you're here too. Duke Michelson misunderstands as she expects. He is shocked when looking at her here. Ginger puts on an apologetic look as she explains that she came to see His Majesty last night, so she's here to pay her respects this morning. Internally, she's sneering that Duke Michelson probably never dreamed that the person of high status and power he mentioned would be connected to her. Coming to his senses, Duke Michelson frowns angrily and scolds her. You're absolutely shameless to be so disrespectful in front of His Majesty. What kind of propriety is this disheveled appearance? It seems those rumors about you really aren't groundless. What you've done is even worse than the rumors. Ginger fights back without backing down. You turn blind eyes to the wrong things your son has done, but when it comes to me, why you? Suddenly a voice interrupts her. Stop, I've heard enough. Duke Michelson thinks Izana is on his side and continues smugly bad-mouthing Ginger. Your Majesty, you're inexperienced in worldly matters. Ginger has had many bad rumors for a long time. Izana looks at him with disinterest. Since you're so dissatisfied, then let's just call off the engagement. Hearing what he says, Duke Michelson is stunned, which makes Izana look at him with interest and become a bit interested in Ginger that you're so dissatisfied with. His face snaps back to stern composure. In that case, Duke Michelson, how about annulling this dissatisfactory engagement right now? Duke Michelson is somewhat at a loss. Meanwhile, Ginger blushes slightly, her mind only catching what she considers the key point that Izana has become interested in her. At the same time, Izana urges Duke Michelson to decide quickly. You keep staying silent without answering, so you agree? Duke Michelson lowers his head and stammers, unable to speak. At this moment, Izana also notices Ginger staring at him and winks at her. Ginger immediately blushes, her heart pounding nonstop. She covers her shy face, screaming internally. Duke Michelson still asks unwillingly why Izana would be interested in Ginger. Once the engagement is cancelled, it will definitely affect their family, and his original plan to seize Ginger's family assets will also be disrupted. Reading his thoughts, Izana's face instantly turns cold as he stares at him. Duke Michelson can't help but shiver. Izana bluntly states that who he's interested in is his freedom. Under his pressure, Duke Michelson finally agrees to the annulment of the engagement. They dissolve the marriage contract in front of Izana. After Duke Michelson leaves, Ginger says delightedly, Your Majesty, you were amazing. You left the Duke utterly speechless. Izana calmly drinks his tea. He just said what he wanted to say. Hearing this, Ginger asks shyly what he meant when he said he was interested in her. Hearing her question, Izana pauses. He blushes and turns his head to the side, avoiding her gaze. Then he flicks her forehead with his finger. Just as I said yesterday, you're the most special person I've met since leaving the tower, so I'm interested in you. Ginger covers her forehead, pitifully. So it was all in her head after all. His interest in her had been nothing more than simple curiosity. Soon she perks up again. At least he is interested in her. As long as she works hard, it's only a matter of time before he falls for her. Then she stares at him with burning eyes, loudly telling him in her heart, Izana, slowly but surely, you will definitely fall for me. Izana asks unnaturally. Is your interest in me the same as your interest in Kishan? Seeing her confused expression, he explains, although you and Kishan have broken off the engagement now, it surely wasn't like this when you decided to get engaged originally. Ginger's expression dims slightly as she lowers her head. She used to care about Kishan like this, but not anymore. She really liked Kishan back then. Kishan said he liked long flowing hair, so she wore her hair down every day. No matter how difficult it was, she wanted to persist for him. That was her past feelings for Kishan. Ginger looks at Izana, unable to stop thinking, what I want from Izana now is. Izana freezes for a moment, then he chuckles and teases. It seems Lady Ginger Snap values relationships more than I imagined. Ginger blushes and avoids his gaze. She almost forgot he can read her thoughts. She feels a bit sad and lost for a moment. She thinks about how just a few months ago she was still liking Kishan, but now she's already fallen for someone else so quickly. Then maybe Izana's interest in her could disappear in the blink of an eye too? Seeing her low spirits, Izana suddenly pats her head, gently telling her not to look so glum. She's somewhat moved. Izana adds, you're cuter when you're being silly. She complains that he really knows how to ruin the atmosphere. Izana pats her head and leans down gently, telling her to go home early. She wants to stay a bit longer, but he dissuades her. I have many things to handle today, Lady Ginger Snap. Besides, your mother must be worried. She can only reluctantly agree to leave, complaining internally that her mother would be delighted for her to continue staying here. She reluctantly curtsies and dawdles toward the door. She feels it's such a pity, but she doesn't know what excuse she can find to meet him again next time. Just as she's about to open the door, suddenly a voice comes from behind. Wait, Izana grabs her hand from behind. She looks up in confusion. Izana takes off his own coat and drapes it over her, telling her not to misunderstand. He's just afraid she'll catch cold. She stares at him moved. His actions make it very hard for her not to misunderstand. Izana helplessly continues urging her to go back. Lala is outside. He'll take you home. After that, he stands by the window watching her departing figure. At first, he had to pay attention to her because she surprisingly knew about his ability. Later, her innocence and straightforwardness felt very novel to him. Thinking of Ginger's confident expression when she swore she would definitely make him fall for her, Izana can't help but smile. Meanwhile, Ginger comes to the carriage and greets Lekishan friendly. After getting in the carriage, she feels something is off. She seems to have something important to ask Lekishan, but she can't remember what it is. Lekishan asks innocently, is there something on my face? Ginger says she seems to have something to tell him, but can't remember what, as he snaps his fingers. The bracelet on her right hand suddenly disappears, and she remembers everything. That book was given to her by Lekishan, and he is also the second male lead Hamel from the novel. Lekishan asks with a smile if she remembers now. Ginger asks seriously if he wrote that novel, The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquise's Daughter. He nods in acknowledgement. Yes, I deliberately let you read that book. She doesn't understand why he would do this. Lekishan hesitates. Before that, let me tell you about myself first. As written in the book, I am Larazi's grandfather Gesuit's disciple, and also one of the few magicians in this world. Each magician possesses different latent magical power, and I have the power to see the future and past, though not everything. I can only see important scenes that flash in my mind. Only now does Ginger understand everything. So you could see Larazi's future, and you used me to make me buy that book back to read. After seeing that book, if I could win His Majesty's heart before Larazi, then Larazi wouldn't die. Lekishan lowers his head apologetically, saying he didn't deliberately intend to use her. He saw Larazi's future at Gesuit's funeral. It was the first time he saw such a distant future. He saw Larazi dancing with Izana at a banquet and Ginger watching them jealously from the side. Finally, because of his ability, Izana went mad and killed Larazi. And Ginger, who couldn't obtain love, also suffered greatly. All of this was too heartbreaking, so he wanted to change this ending and prevent the tragic future from coming. After hearing this, Ginger thinks for a moment. She tells Lekishan he's missing someone. That's you, Hamel Bray, who likes Larazi in the novel. Lekishan freezes, as if he's just realized the truth. He raises his hand to touch his head and laughs. I forgot about myself. Ginger looks at this silly him and can't help but internally complain that he's really foolish. Lady Ginger, you always do unexpected things. Telling you the truth has been faster than I originally planned. I didn't expect you could even write books yourself. Ginger awkwardly turns away, telling him not to bring that up. Getting back to the main topic, she tells him she still can't completely trust him because his ability to see past and future is too incredible. Lekishan says he'll prove his ability by telling Ginger about something she just experienced. I saw that yesterday, Lady Ginger. You seemed to be with His Majesty in a dark room and then accidentally touched His Majesty's thigh. She quickly stops him from continuing. Lekishan asks with a bright smile if she believes him now. Ginger helplessly says she believes him. Then he asks if she has any other questions. Ginger curiously asks how he managed to deceive the mind-reading Izana and become his assistant. He adjusts his glasses. Thanks to these glasses, they can block His Majesty's ability. When I wear the glasses, His Majesty can only read the thoughts I've set up, and the thoughts I set up are are basically, "Your Majesty, you are so handsome, it's my honor to work for such a magnificent majesty." Ginger looks speechless, secretly complaining that Izana really doesn't handle praise well. She can't help but wonder if Izana kept Lakishan by his side because of his flattery. Finally, she asks Lakishan one last question. What if we try hard but still can't change the future? Lakishan tells her the future has already been changed. The future is ever-changing, and what he saw was just before the changes. The process keeps changing. Maybe even their meeting today will change the future. Ginger can't help but worry, because this also means that Izana and Larazi still have the possibility of falling in love. Although she replaced Larazi and danced the first dance with Izana, she still must find a way to make Larazi give up on Izana. Suddenly, she has a flash of inspiration. Looking at Kishan, "Hamel, this time I'm going to change your future." Meanwhile, on the other side, Kishan is gnashing his teeth because he just learned from his furious father that his engagement with Ginger has been dissolved. Could Izana and Ginger really have some kind of relationship? But he vaguely feels something isn't right. Suddenly, he remembers the novel he took from Ginger's house. Although it's a novel, the earlier plot matches reality so closely. He guesses that Ginger might have read this novel and wanted to replace Larazi's position, which is why she made him steal Larazi's necklace. Thinking that Ginger used him, Kishan becomes furious. He angrily throws down the novel. More than this, what angers him more is that the male lead of this romance novel isn't him, but there's only one chapter about him in here. Outstanding look, vast wealth, and melancholy eyes. He has all of these advantages. But the protagonist isn't him, it's Izana. Thinking of this, Kishan feels indignant. Suddenly, a servant reports that there's a visitor. He thinks it must be Ginger. Unexpectedly, the visitor is Larazi. He quickly gets up to greet her, fantasizing that she might have come to reconcile with him. Larazi first politely asks if he's been well lately. Kishan droops his head, saying he's not well. He puts on a very sad appearance, forcing tears to his eyes, apologizing to her about stealing the necklace. "How could I be well after doing such a thing to you? I don't deserve to be well. I should constantly condemn myself." But internally, he's frantically shouting, "Hurry up and become infatuated with me, Larazi." This is the expression I've practiced for so long. Larazi plays along with his performance. If that incident hadn't happened, our relationship should still be very good, right? Then she casually mentions that she doesn't think he's the type who would steal things. He must have been instructed by Ginger. Kishan immediately joins in, complaining about Ginger. In the end, he hints that he hopes Larazi will give him another chance, but she firmly refuses. Then she takes out an emerald green gemstone necklace and places it on the table. "I came to give you this. It's a gift you gave me before." Then she seriously tells him she won't meet with him again in the future. Kishan doesn't respond. He was still hoping they could reconcile, but she actually came to say goodbye. Suddenly, he thinks of that book. He urgently asks Larazi to give him another chance. He will definitely find a way to resolve her doubts. Larazi doesn't understand what he means. Then Kishan gives her the book and tells her it contains the reason why Ginger stole her necklace. "You'll understand what I mean after reading it." Meanwhile, Ginger is working hard to make the female lead from the novel like the second male lead. She's currently teaching Lakishan how to strike handsome poses. Lakishan is stiff, and it takes him a long time to manage what he thinks is a decent pose. But Ginger looks disgusted and says it doesn't feel right. But thinking of the silly pose he struck on the first day, his current pose is at least watchable. She's already figured out how to make Larazi fall in love with Lakishan. After all, from childhood to adulthood, she and Larazi have always liked the same type of boys, but Larazi always won in the end. Even Kishan ended up liking her. Although Ginger always ended in failure, she knows Larazi's taste inside and out. Thinking about this, she quickly urges Lakishan to continue practicing the moves. "You need to show that melancholic, languid feeling of someone with heavy thoughts on their mind. Larazi and I are really into that." Lakishan hesitantly expresses that he's still not sure if he truly loves Lady Larazi, even though Hamel in the book deeply loves Larazi. Ginger asks him what he thinks of Larazi now. Lakishan pauses in thought before replying, "Now, when I occasionally think of Lady Larazi, there's always a flutter of longing and regret in my heart." Ginger pats his shoulder and tells him decisively that this is a sign of love. Although you're not clear about your feelings right now, you're slowly falling for her. When you see her, your heart will pound. You will miss her from time to time, and she's special to you. When saying this, she instantly thinks of Izana. Lakishan asks her how she knows so much about this. Ginger smiles confidently, saying she's a love expert. "Just watch. I'll definitely make Larazi fall for you." Lakishan is amused by her description. His smile makes the rhythm of her heart faltered. "That's right, that's the feeling." She quickly tells him to practice that smile more. Just then, a maid suddenly comes to report that there's a visitor. Ginger impatiently asks who would come at such a crucial moment. Hearing that it's Larazi, she freezes. Coming to her senses, she frantically asks Lakishan if he can use magic to transform himself into an animal. But Lakishan looks speechless, because he can't. Ginger frowns and looks around for somewhere to hide someone. Absolutely cannot let Larazi see her and Lakishan together. Then, she notices the wardrobe in the corner. She immediately urges him to hide inside quickly, but Lakishan shows reluctance with a troubled expression. Ginger pushes him toward the closet, telling him to just endure it for a while. Looking at the dark closet, Lakishan's face instantly turns pale. He tells her he has claustrophobia. Ginger is very surprised, but seeing his resistant expression, she can only try to find other hiding places. However, Lakishan voluntarily hides in the closet, saying he'll try to endure it. She asks with some concern if he can manage it. He comforts her that he should be able to hold on for a while. As she's about to close the closet door, she promises Lakashan that she'll definitely get Larazi to leave as soon as possible. The moment the closet door shuts with a snap, Larazi walks into the room holding the novel, smiling and greeting Ginger. Seeing the novel in her hands, Ginger instantly panics. Larazi asks her if she remembers the book in her hand. Ginger pretends to be calm and laughs lightly. Of course, that's my book. I've been looking everywhere for that book recently and thought there was a thief in my room, so you stole my book. But in her heart she's lamenting, damn, how did this book end up in Larazi's hands? She must have read it. This makes things more and more complicated. Larazi calmly explains that Kishan forced this novel on her. Anger surges in Ginger's heart, that bastard Kishan, begging me to forgive him on one hand while trying to please Larazi on the other. She tries to calm herself down, then looks innocently at Larazi with provocation. You don't know yet, do you? Kishan is no longer my fiancé. Someone of high status personally helped me break off the engagement. Larazi asks displeasedly if it was His Majesty. Ginger nods proudly. That's right, His Majesty is so considerate of me. Seeing Larazi's face turn cold, Ginger becomes even more pleased, saying boastfully that she's going to see His Majesty again tomorrow. She can generously tell her the details. At the end, she says with a shy expression that no matter what she says, His Majesty remembers it all in his heart. His Majesty just likes me so much. Larazi doesn't plan to beat around the bush with Ginger anymore. I've finished reading this novel. I know you stole my necklace just to get His Majesty's attention. But Ginger pretends not to understand and asks in an exaggerated tone if Larazi actually believes the content in a novel. Larazi smiles slightly, looking at Ginger confidently. Much of what's in this book I already knew, such as my necklace, His Majesty's ability. You think I really don't know about His Majesty's ability? Ginger instantly becomes unsettled, glaring at Larazi, unhappily asking her how she knows these things. Larazi doesn't hide it, saying someone she doesn't know told her to be careful of His Majesty's ability. Ginger suddenly guesses that person might be Lakashan, because besides her, only Lakashan knows about this. She doesn't beat around the bush anymore, directly asking Larazi what she wants to say. I'm here to warn you, I like His Majesty Azana. I know you like His Majesty too. I'm going to take back everything you've stolen from me. Hearing her words, Ginger laughs uncontrollably, saying her relationship with His Majesty is quite special. Now it's Larazi's turn to become annoyed. She clenches her fists thinking Ginger must be lying, but Ginger feels extremely delighted, saying proudly that she's already held His Majesty's hand several times, making Larazi frown deeply. Ginger shoots her a triumphant look. You can't handle this already? I've only just begun. Larazi suddenly jumps up, excitedly demanding to know what she's done to His Majesty. Ginger tells her to prepare herself mentally. Then she speaks slowly. His Majesty held me in his arms. Though the truth is just that Izana grabbed her hand from behind. Suddenly a sound draws their attention. It's Lakashan who couldn't hold on and open the closet door. Ginger hurries to his side asking if he's fine. She cups his face, seeing him covered in sweat with a pale complexion. She blames herself for making him hide in the closet, but Lakashan is in tears, feeling he's ruined everything. He hangs his head dejectedly. His first impression with Larazi is completely destroyed. He didn't show any of that melancholic, languid feeling. Ginger didn't expect his focus to be so unique. She steps forward to hug him, comforting him that he can work hard to restore his image next time. Lakashan lies pitifully on her shoulder. Seeing him cry so miserably, she can't help but worry about how afraid he must be of enclosed spaces. Larazi, who has been watching from the side, asks Ginger who this person is. Only then does Ginger realize she almost forgot about Larazi. But judging from Larazi's reaction, she seems not to have recognized Lakashan. She instantly feels there's still hope for Lakashan to be saved. She first instructs Lakashan to hide behind her. Then she suddenly stands up and orders Larazi to leave. Larazi snorts coldly without saying anything. Ginger says the guest in the closet arrived earlier, so it's inconvenient for her to receive Larazi. Larazi isn't stupid and doesn't easily believe her words. Ginger can only take a firm attitude to make her leave. Larazi frowns without speaking. Suddenly she feels the person behind Ginger looks familiar. Seeing she's about to guess it's Lakashan, Ginger quickly lifts her skirt to block her view, loudly telling Larazi not to look at her guest casually. Faced with such childish behavior, Larazi holds her forehead helplessly. She really can never keep up with Ginger's thought process. So she turns to leave, not planning to continue staying and asking for trouble. But reaching the door, she suddenly stops. Turning around, she drops a line. It seems you're quite familiar with Hamel. Next time it wouldn't be bad for the three of us to meet together. Ginger immediately freezes at her words. After the door closes, she screams and collapses. She hid Lakashan so well, how could Larazi still recognize him? Lakashan feels he's finally recovered. Ginger looks at him apologetically and apologizes for making him hide in the closet. Lakashan raises his hand to wipe away his tears, comforting her not to mind these things. I said I could hold on in the closet. I didn't expect to be so useless that I couldn't even last that little while. Meanwhile, Larazi, who walked out the door is thinking about why Hamel would be there. She secretly speculates this must be another one of Ginger's schemes, trying to use Hamel to drive a wedge between her and His Majesty. But Ginger is wasting her efforts, because His Majesty will definitely be hers in the end. Larazi lets out a cold laugh. Ginger thinks reading the novel gives her a head start, but she has a hidden card that Ginger doesn't have. Lekishan curiously asks Ginger why she wanted to hide him. She explains awkwardly that when she heard Larazi was coming, she panicked. And her first reaction was that if Lekishan was seen by the woman he likes being with another woman, it would be very troublesome. At the time, she didn't consider at all how afraid it would be for Lekishan to hide in the closet. She hangs her head and apologizes to him again. But the next second she becomes serious again, telling him not to worry. Although Larazi recognized him, she still has plan B. Lekishan curiously asks her what plan B is. Ginger says embarrassedly that she hasn't thought of it yet. Instantly, Lekishan feels deeply powerless, but thinking of when she lifted her skirt to protect him, he was quite moved, because at that moment it was like a mother goose trying to keep her baby Sheik safe. He unconsciously praises her for being quite cute. Hearing his praise, Ginger's face immediately turns red. Then she narcissistically says she is indeed very cute. Lekishan is amused by her again. He's really defeated by her. This is the first time he's met someone so unconventional. But Ginger takes his words as a compliment. After joking around, they talk about serious matters. Lekishan also learns that the novel fell into Larazi's hands. Even though Larazi read the novel and knows her ending will be tragic, she still wants to win His Majesty Izana, which makes Ginger feel very strange, as if Larazi has something she firmly believes in. Lekishan also falls into thought. Suddenly, he has a guess. That Lady Larazi very likely knows some important information that can break His Majesty Izana's curse. Generally speaking, curses aren't unbreakable. As long as someone can cast a curse, there must be a way to break it. Ginger asks him puzzledly if Larazi knows the method to break the curse, and that's why she's so confident. Lekishan says this is just his speculation, and can't be completely proven yet. Ginger feels vaguely uneasy. If Izana can break the curse that has tormented him his whole life, he would naturally develop good feelings toward Larazi. But Larazi is the granddaughter of Gezuit who cursed him. Would he really fall in love with the descendant of the culprit who caused him to be cursed? Ginger asks Lekishan if he knows how to break the curse. After all, he's Gezuit's disciple. The method to break the curse. She holds her breath, nervously waiting for his answer. But the next second, Lekishan says with a serious expression that he doesn't know. Hearing this answer, Ginger is full of questions. She's really impressed with him, who puts on such a serious expression even not knowing how to solve it. But Lekishan insists that it's precisely because he doesn't know that he answers seriously and carefully, and if he knew, he would have gone to help Izana break it long ago. Ginger falls into thought. She really wants to know what the method to break the curse is. Therefore, for the next 2 days, she keeps searching through related books in the library, but she hasn't seen Izana for a whole week. She feels like she's developing love sickness. She can't help but wonder if Larazi has already helped His Majesty find a way to break the curse. Otherwise, why hasn't Izana looked for her until now? But she can't go find him without permission. Thinking this, she sighs. Suddenly, a familiar voice comes from behind. Lady Ginger, you're here. She turns around to see it's actually Lekishan. Lekishan explains His Majesty sent him to take her to the palace. Ginger is immediately overjoyed. She's never been happier to see Lekishan than now. Lekishan laughingly teases her about liking His Majesty so much. Having her thoughts seen through, her face instantly flushes red, frantically explaining she just wants to see the palace. But Lekishan just smiles without saying anything. In the carriage heading to the palace, they chat about the curse. Lekishan tells Ginger that usually only the person who casts the curse knows how to break it. He looked through all of Gezuit's remaining notes and didn't find any related content, but he discovered something else. Ginger asks puzzledly what it is. He tells her His Majesty will personally tell her later. After finishing serious talk, Lekishan asks if she's thought of Plan B yet. Ginger awkwardly pretends to cough. Obviously, her mind has only been on things related to Izana these days, and she hasn't thought about any plans at all. But she definitely can't admit this directly to Lekishan. She puts on a confident, mysterious expression, saying in a few days when her plan is ready, she'll tell him. Lekishan looks at her with admiration and gratitude. Ginger, who forgot about Plan B, completely turns her face away awkwardly. It looks like she needs to think carefully about other ways to help Lekishan win over Larazi. Soon they arrive at the palace. Before going to see Izana, Lekishan puts the magic bracelet on her again. After all, he can't expose his identity in front of Izana. Ginger looks at Lekishan in front of her with confusion, curious why he would be in front of her. Lekishan smiles without explaining, just telling her to wait a moment. He's going to report to His Majesty now. Lekishan knocks on the door outside for a long time, but there's no response from inside. Ginger behind him still looks confused about why she came to the palace. Lekishan turns around, scratching his head helplessly, telling her His Majesty doesn't seem to be here and asking Ginger to wait here first while he goes to elsewhere to find His Majesty. After he leaves, she looks around boredly. Suddenly seeing a room, she walks straight toward the door. This room is the one she stayed in for a night that day. She guesses if His Majesty might be here. She slowly opens the door. Izana is indeed resting here. She looks at him with a heart full of love. He looks like an angel when he sleeps, and just watching him feels like it purifies her soul. She can't help reaching out to touch his face. Just as she's about to make contact, Izana suddenly opens his eyes, fiercely grabbing her hand. After a while, he realizes the person in front of him is her. He withdraws his hand, smiling and asking what she's doing, giving him such a fright. Ginger is about to apologize but becomes mesmerized looking at him, not having seen him for so long. She keeps staring at him with her mind starting to wander. Having reading her inner thoughts, Azana unconsciously hugs himself tighter. He inexplicably has the feeling of being stared at directly. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. A servant reports outside that Marquise Atlanta has arrived. Ginger shows a puzzled expression, not understanding why Larazi's father would come. Izana immediately asks Ginger to hide under the covers, otherwise she'll be discovered by Marquise Atlanta. She can only hide inside with a red face. After she's hidden, Izana allows Marquise Atlanta to enter. Marquise Atlanta first bows respectfully, just about to say something, but Izana interrupts him, casually finding an excuse to send him away. Marquise Atlanta looks up puzzled, only to spot a flash of orange on the bed. His face darkens, and he retreats without a word. After Marquise Atlanta leaves, Izana gets up and lifts the covers, letting Ginger come out. Finally being so close to him, Ginger looks at him pitifully, asking in her heart if she can stay like this a little longer. Izana's lips curl up. He turns his head to look at her. Looking at him at such close distance, Ginger only feels he's so pretty he could blind her eyes, even prettier than her. She excitedly covers her face, screaming in her heart, "Oh my god, what meaning is there for me to live?" Izana laughingly teases, "Then just stop living, problem is also solved." Ginger suddenly freezes. She forgot again that he can read others' thoughts. Izana looks at her with a smile. "Lady Ginger Snap, you finished admiring my face. Now I need to take a good look at your face to see if there's any meaning in living." Ginger shyly covers her face with both hands. Suddenly her forehead gets flicked. Izana speaks gently. "Lady Ginger Snap, you're very beautiful, so have confidence in yourself." She touches her forehead that was just flicked, completely dazed, wondering if these are his true feelings. Suddenly the door opens. Luckishan walks in, respectfully explaining he knocked for a long time but got no response, so he entered on his own, and mentions he just encountered Marquise Atlanta in the hallway, who was very angry. He asks Izana if Marquise Atlanta came to propose marriage. Izana nods. Ginger's heart immediately sinks. Could it be that Marquise Atlanta wants Larazi to become queen? Izana rubs his head in annoyance and sighs. He doesn't want to listen to others arrange his marriage choices. He only wants to spend his life with someone he truly likes. Hearing what he says, Ginger's eyes immediately light up, with a trace of expectation on her face. Someone he truly likes, how wonderful it would be if that person were her. She stares at Izana, unable to help fantasizing in her heart. If she could win his true heart, she'd be willing to pay any price. Hearing her thoughts, Izana asks helplessly what she wants to obtain. Ginger looks shy. He already read her inner thoughts. Why is he still asking? She leans her head on his shoulder, staring at him full of love. "Your Majesty, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with might be right in front of you." Izana immediately changes the subject and chats with Lakishan about other things. Ginger looks at him dissatisfied. "Your Majesty, are you ignoring what I said?" But Izana pretends to be innocent and asks Lakishan if he heard what she said. Lakishan of course honestly says he didn't hear anything. Ginger frowns angrily. She said it in her heart. Of course Lakishan couldn't hear it. She sighs helplessly, asking Izana what he called her here for. Izana also becomes serious, telling her solemnly it's about Gesuit and the curse. Hearing him mention Gesuit and the curse, Ginger finds it familiar, as if someone told her about it. Noticing the necklace in her hand, she suddenly realizes something. Then she moves closer to Izana and whispers, "It's not good to say such things in front of Lala, right?" Izana tilts his head and laughs loudly, telling her not to worry because Lakishan also knows about his ability. Now only Lady Ginger Snap and Lala know about my ability. Ginger guiltily looks away, because Larazi and Kishan also know, due to her mistake. Izana continues talking about the curse, just like it's written in the book. "I believe Jesuit is the main culprit behind my curse. Ever since Jesuit disappeared, this curse began. After Izana came out of the tower, he investigated everywhere for ways to break the curse, but couldn't find any no matter what. He guesses this is curse magic. This type of curse magic requires sacrificing one's own life to curse others. Ginger only feels this curse is too terrible. She doesn't understand what grudge Gesuit had against Izana to be so ruthless." Izana hangs his head, saying he was still very young at that time, and couldn't guess why Jesuit would do such a thing. Hearing his words, Ginger feels terrible. What could a child have done to be treated like this? So Jesuit must have had some reason. Suddenly, she remembers Larazi saying confidently, "The interest he has in you, I'm going to take it for myself." She speculates that perhaps Larazi knows some truth. At this time, Izana mentions there's another suspicious point. That is Larazi's ruby necklace. Why did Jesuit leave that necklace to Larazi? Is it really just to protect her personal safety? Ginger remains silent. Now all the suspicious points are indeed on Larazi. So Izana decides he'll meet with Larazi recently, personally ask her about the necklace, and instructs Lakishan to investigate Larazi thoroughly. Hearing he will go to meet with Larazi, Ginger freezes in place. She feels vaguely worried. Because this is too much like what's written in the novel, Izana became curious about Larazi's necklace. It was also because of that necklace that Izana and Larazi's fates became intertwined. She doesn't want Izana to meet Larazi at all, but Larazi might know some useful information, and she has no right to stop it. But if this continues, what if Izana becomes interested in Larazi again like in the novel? Then what's the point of all her efforts to change the novel's development? Ginger sadly closes her eyes tightly, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. What grudge does Larazi have against her from a past life, always opposing her? Lakishan looks at Ginger with some concern. On the carriage ride home. She stares out the window expressionlessly. Lakishan asks if she's worried about Larazi. I'm also curious what a hidden card she has. But Ginger wonders puzzledly how he knows. Some fragments suddenly flash through her mind, as if someone told her something. Lakishan snaps his fingers again. The bracelet on her left hand disappears instantly. She remembers everything again. Lakishan smiles apologetically. This bracelet makes you very uncomfortable, doesn't it? Ginger asks helplessly how long she has to wear the bracelet. He apologetically says after they find clues about the curse, he'll voluntarily reveal his identity to His Majesty. Ginger can only accept this helplessly, then asks if the curse magic matter is credible. Lakishan explains that when he started practicing, curse magic had already become forbidden magic, so related materials are particularly scarce. The materials Azana wanted to find weren't recorded at all. They only accidentally discovered some old boxes in the palace library and found some related records, including records of curse magic experiments. Ginger is surprised this type of magic was actually experimented with. It is said that the first emperor had magicians research this magic to conquer other empires, but all the magicians died without exception. It was because of this that curse magic was banned. Speaking of this, Lakishan's expression becomes grave. So my master, as the empire's great magician, couldn't possibly not know about this. All the clues they have so far are just these. Ginger complains about how it went from a romance novel to a mystery novel. Lakishan is amused by her, but it seems His Majesty trusts you very much, Lady Ginger. Ginger doesn't understand why he says that. Lakishan explains gently, although you already know His Majesty's secret, I didn't expect His Majesty to tell you everything. His Majesty probably trusts you completely now. Ginger turns her face away, trying hard to suppress her rising smile. But thinking about Azana about to meet with Larazi, she feels sad again, because she feels Azana trusts her only because she's one of the few people who know his secret. She originally wanted to use helping him find a way to break the curse to slowly make him fall in love with her. But he's going to meet with Larazi. She's full of unwillingness. She can't just do nothing and watch Larazi meet with Azana. She needs to think of a way. Suddenly she has a good idea, asking Lakishan if he can make a necklace identical to Larazi's. He says he should be able to. She immediately beams at him. Her gaze is so intense that it makes Lakishan flinch and edge backward. Ginger says firmly, I've decided, I'm going to steal Larazi's necklace. You have to come with me. Lakishan wants to refuse, but is stopped by her. I refuse your refusal. Next, they disguise themselves as a maid and servant. Lakishan asks awkwardly if this will work. Ginger tells him to relax. She's already planted an undercover maid at Larazi's place, and today it'll come in handy. Then she goes through the process with him again. After Larazi goes out, they'll find that maid, steal the necklace and run quickly. Lakishan is nervous and uneasy doing this for the first time, but Ginger is excited and expectant, feeling like she's starring in a spy novel. Suddenly, she asks Lakishan in a thief-like whisper if he brought what she asked him to prepare. He takes out a necklace identical to Larazi's. She examines it carefully and praises his capability generously, because what he made is simply perfect. Holding the necklace in her hand, her face is full of cunning. Thinking Larazi definitely won't notice the necklace has been switched, Lakishan beside her sees her smile and shivers slightly, sighing that it's a villain-like smile. Hearing his comment, Ginger becomes displeased. She turns and raises an eyebrow at Lakishan. So what? She disregarded my feelings and stole Kishan away back then? What can't I do? You don't want Larazi and His Majesty Azana to be together either, right? Lakishan is very hesitant because he feels stealing is wrong. Ginger directly interrupts him, sternly questioning whether he's considering so much because he still wants the novel to continue with a tragic ending. She's determined to get that necklace today, because only by getting the necklace will Azana not meet with Larazi anymore. She urges him to stop talking about morals and set off immediately. Arriving at Larazi's mansion, the undercover maid is indeed waiting for them. The maid quietly tells them Larazi just went out and probably won't be back until before dinner. They enter Larazi's room with relief. Just in case, the maid stays at the door to keep watch. Lakishan, who has never done this before, is nervous to the point of sweating. Ginger jokingly comforts him that he'll get used to it after doing a few more times. Hearing this, Lakishan shivers and asks helplessly how many more times he has to do. Ginger secretly complains that he has no sense of humor at all. After teasing him, she pushes him with a smile, urging him to hurry up and find the necklace. Suddenly, a maid's loud cry comes from the door. Lady Larazi! They instantly tense up. Larazi left by carriage less than 15 minutes ago, and Ginger doesn't understand how she's back so quickly. The maid outside tries to buy some time, nervously asking Larazi why she's back when she just left. Larazi strides toward the room, saying she forgot to take something. Sensing something's wrong, she turns back to ask the maid what she's doing there. The maid struggles to find an excuse, then suddenly raises her voice loudly. I just finished tidying your room for you. Did you forget something? Her voice is so loud that both Ginger and Lakishan inside the room can hear it, and they realize the maid is warning them that Larazi is about to enter the room. Ginger quickly looks around for a hiding place and finds only the wardrobe can hide them. Having no choice, she looks at Lakishan with pleading eyes. Lakishan instantly guesses her intention that she wants him to hide in the wardrobe. Noticing his reluctant expression, she can only look for somewhere else. Though reluctant, Lakishan also knows there's no other way except hiding in the wardrobe. He voluntarily goes into the wardrobe and reaches out to urge Ginger to come in quickly. The moment the wardrobe closes, Larazi also walks in at this time, lifting her dress while complaining about why the maid outside was shouting so loudly. Ginger nervously watches watches her movements through the wardrobe gap, worried she might come to open the wardrobe. Lekishan, suffering from claustrophobia, turns pale and breaks out in cold sweat. Ginger is very worried about his current condition, afraid he might not be able to hold on much longer if this continues. She silently moves closer to him, trying to give him some comfort, but Lekishan suddenly turns around and pulls her into his arms. Ginger is stunned for a moment. Coming to her senses, she shyly tries to break free from his embrace because she feels they're too close, but Lekishan suddenly holds her tightly against him. Ginger can't move at all this time. She closes her eyes in embarrassment, and her heart starts beating uncontrollably fast. Larazi is searching through the desk in the room. Suddenly, she sees a piece of clothing caught in the wardrobe gap. Her expression instantly becomes sharp. Inside the wardrobe, Lekishan is still holding Ginger tightly, who feels her heart beating non-stop. Hearing Larazi's footsteps from outside, Ginger can only pray for her to leave quickly, but she hears her footsteps becoming more and more urgent. Ginger and Lekishan nervously watch the door. The next second, Larazi angrily opens the door. Fortunately, she opens the main door of the room. She angrily points at the maid, accusing her of being careless in tidying the room, not even organizing the clothes properly. The maid quickly bows and apologizes. Larazi leaves angrily with big strides. After she leaves, the maid carefully walks into the room and opens the wardrobe door. Ginger quickly breaks free from Lekishan's embrace. The maid tells them that Larazi has left. Ginger, who walked out of the wardrobe, instructs the maid to continue keeping watch at the door. Lekishan remains silently in the wardrobe, as if thinking about something. Ginger asks him curiously if he's going to continue staying inside. Only then does he come back to his senses, stammering that he'll come out right away. He staggers out of the wardrobe. Ginger asks him worriedly if he's okay, but he avoids her gaze and murmurs, "How could I possibly be okay?" She quickly apologizes for making him hide in the wardrobe. Lekishan signals that she doesn't need to worry about it, and even thanks her instead, because thanks to her, he was able to hold on a bit longer. Ginger smiles and says she's glad she could help him, but he turns his face away and no longer looks at her. Ginger stands there in confusion, wondering if she did something wrong. At this moment, she remembers the embrace in the wardrobe just now, thinking her rapid heartbeat should have been a normal reaction. After all, Lala is a man, and he suddenly came over and hugged her. She clearly knows that it felt different from being with Izana. Just the thought of Izana makes her heart flutter. Suddenly, she remembers that the most important thing right now is to find the necklace. She pats her cheeks and pushes away her messy thoughts. Finally, she finds that necklace in a box. She hurriedly takes out the fake necklace to replace it, but she accidentally knocks over the box. The two necklaces get mixed together. Ginger instantly bursts into tears. What should she do now? Which one is the real one? The maid at the door pokes her head in to urge her to hurry up, as she still needs to prepare dinner for Larazi later. Ginger can only hold both necklaces and quickly pick the more sparkling one. They finally successfully leave Larazi's house. Ginger thanks Lekishan. He seems to have something on his mind. Then he asks if she can get home by herself, as he can't escort her today. Ginger shows a bright smile and says of course she can. She's not a child anymore. Lekishan immediately avoids her gaze and looks elsewhere with a red face. Then let's part ways here. I suddenly have something urgent to do. Ginger looks at Lekishan, who's inexplicably distancing himself from her, not knowing what to do. Even until night, she's still thinking about this matter, feeling that Lala was strange somewhere today. Then she guesses he's probably uncomfortable because of hiding in the wardrobe. She sighs, wondering how someone so fragile survives in this treacherous world. But anyway, the necklace was successfully switched. She fantasizes about bringing the necklace to Izana tomorrow, who will definitely smile very happily. Thinking of this, she's filled with anticipation. The next day, she takes the necklace and goes happily to meet Izana. But when she reaches the carriage that came to pick her up, she's puzzled that the person who came to pick her up isn't Lekishan. The attendant explains that Lekishan went on vacation, and he'll temporarily take over his work. Ginger feels something's wrong because Lekishan's vacation is too sudden, and yesterday he even didn't mention it to her at all. Suddenly she realizes that without Lekishan, she won't have the bracelet when she meets Izana. What if she exposes Lekishan's true identity in front of Izana? Soon Ginger arrives at the palace. Izana is indeed still sitting under the tree in the courtyard waiting for her. Sunlight filters through the branches and leaves onto him, and he's gently petting a cat. Witnessing this beautiful scene, Ginger only feels her little heart being struck again. She desperately wishes she were that cat. In the end, she even fantasizes about kissing Izana soon. Suddenly, a voice interrupts her fantasy. She opens her eyes to see Izana looking at her with a smile. Seeing her with drool at the corner of her mouth and a dazed expression, he asks amusedly what she was just thinking about to show such an expression. Ginger embarrassedly turns away and wipes off the drool. Then she asks him why Lekishan went on vacation. He didn't mention vacation yesterday, it's so strange. But Izana catches the key point. You saw Lala yesterday? He moves closer to question why she would see Lekishan when it wasn't a day to enter the palace. Ginger avoids his gaze in panic. She can't let him know that Lekishan is Hummel, so she explains that she had something to ask Lala for help yesterday. Then she directly turns her head to the back, saying she'll slowly tell him about it later. Seeing her such strange behavior, Izana becomes even more suspicious. He frowns in displeasure. You've gotten close to Lakishan so quickly. Why do I feel a bit unhappy? Realizing he might be jealous, Ginger's eyes immediately light up, and her face shows an excited blush. Izana is still seriously thinking about why he's unhappy, as if something that originally belonged to him suddenly became someone else's. He looks at her with a smile and says seriously, "So, I need to take back what's mine." After saying this, he quickly steps forward and tightly holds her hand. Leading her forward, Ginger lifts her dress and follows behind him, asking curiously where they're going, but he just gives her a mysterious smile, replying that she'll find out soon. The next second, she stares in shock with wide eyes. She's brought to a lush flower garden where petals occasionally flutter in the air. Ginger didn't expect there to be such a beautiful place behind the courtyard. She suddenly has an inspiration and calls out to Izana, "Your Majesty." Izana looks over when he hears her. He sees her put a pink flower by her ear and asks shyly, "Am I pretty?" She looks directly into his eyes, shouting loudly in her heart, "Hurry up and say I'm pretty." This isn't a question, it's an emphatic statement. Izana is amused by her inner thoughts. He shrugs and replies, "Well, you don't look half bad." No matter how many times she sees his smile, Ginger's heart swells. Yet with each wave of emotion, she hopes him to return her feelings more. She looks at Izana expectantly, unable to help asking in her heart, "Your Majesty, are your jealous expression just now and your current smile just casual jokes? Is all of this just my delusion?" Izana remains silent, quietly looking at her. After a while, he avoids her passionate gaze and says evasively, "Lady Ginger Snap, you are free to think what you want." Realizing she won't get an answer, Ginger closes her eyes and sighs helplessly. Izana nervously asks if she's angry. She puffs up her cheeks angrily and says, "Which girl wouldn't be hurt by hearing such words from the man she likes?" Realizing what she says, she covers her mouth with a red face. She accidentally confessed again. Izana stops when he hears this. He touches his head awkwardly and turns his face to one side with an apologetic tone. "I didn't mean to hurt you with those words. I still don't know how to speak tactfully." Ginger huffs in displeasure. She's long used to his manner, but Izana explains with his head down that he's insensitive to pain, because with his ability to read thoughts, if he didn't maintain a kind of insensitivity to harm, he wouldn't be able to survive. So gradually, he got used to others' malice toward him. After explaining, he apologizes to her again. "I'm very sorry for the harm my words just caused you." But Ginger looks at him with aching tenderness. In the novel, Izana suffered greatly because of the mind-reading curse, and reality must be more cruel than those few lines in the novel. She reaches out wanting to brush away those pains for him. Izana looks at her puzzledly. He sees Ginger saying seriously in her heart, "I can see it clearly, your wounds." Before she can finish her words, Izana suddenly turns around and covers his mouth, trying to hold back laughter. Ginger frowns and looks at him dissatisfiedly. He tries hard to hold back his laughter and be serious, because he remembers she had said something about wounds before. Ginger blushes and accuses him of always ruining the atmosphere. Izana coughs slightly and tries to calm down. Ginger tells him not to laugh and to listen to her seriously. She looks at him seriously. "Even if you've become numb to pain, I'm sure your heat still has remnants the wounds you received in the past. If the curse is the reason for your wounds, I will do everything I can to help you break the curse." Izana stands there stunned, not speaking for a long time. In the blooming flower garden, they look at each other. She speaks softly, "My only wish is that you won't be hurt anymore." In the grass not far away, a black shadow silently watches them. It's Lakishan, standing there with a dejected expression. Izana shows a relieved smile. He reminds her that it's getting dark and they should return to the palace. Although their relationship started with distrust, now Ginger sincerely hopes Izana can break free from the constraints of the past and find happiness. Unknowingly, they walk to the tower, the place where Izana was once imprisoned. She inexplicably feels this tower is like another world. Izana interrupts her thoughts. "Are you curious about that tower?" He looks down sadly. "Everyone must be curious about this tower where I stayed. In fact, there's nothing special inside the tower, just endless loneliness. I couldn't take a single step out of that tower. The only people who came to see me were a servant and a maid. Sometimes I would fantasize. If I didn't have this ability and lived an ordinary life with my father, would I have been happier?" Hearing this, Ginger stops in her tracks. She shouts tearfully at his back, "You can't be sure of that." Izana is startled by her voice. He sees her eyes filled with tears, choking as she says, "You don't know if you would be better of living with your father, and as long as you can be happy starting now, that's what matters." Izana gently touches her head to comfort her. "Anyway, compared to life in the tower, I'm much happier now." Ginger sadly wipes away her tears. Although the curse is what caused his tragedy, the tower that imprisoned him for so many years also brought him indelible harm. Even if the tower disappears, the shadow in his heart still exists. She suddenly asks if she can enter that tower. Seeing his puzzled look, she explains with a smile that she really wants to see what the tower he stayed in for so long looks like. She has an idea in her heart. Since she can't make that tower disappear, then she'll try to gradually change it. If they spend happy times in that tower, maybe it can fade those terrible memories. Seeing him not respond for a long time, Ginger turns and pouts, saying it's okay if she can't go in, she'll just be a little sad. Then she hears him agree to let her in, since there's no reason she can't enter. Ginger is instantly overjoyed. Then she starts seriously thinking about what kind of lunch to prepare for him tomorrow. Izana complains that she's just going to the tower. Why is she making it seem like a picnic? Mentioning lunch, he looks at her suspiciously, not quite believing she's good at cooking. Ginger replies with a smile that as long as he likes it, she'll work hard to make it. Then she looks deflated, but she can't guarantee the taste of the food, because even though she doesn't put ginger in her cooking, mysteriously it always tastes like ginger. Izana gets a bit panicked hearing this. She's not saying this because she doesn't want to cook. The fact is that no matter what she makes, it just has a ginger taste. She's also desperate and even wonders if she's cursed with ginger just like her name suggests. It raises the curiosity of Izana about ginger-flavored food. Ginger didn't expect he'd have this kind of preference, but he replies with a smile. When I think about us spending time together while eating food that tastes like ginger, I somehow feel like spending time inside the tower might not be so bad. In an instant, her heart is struck again by his smile. After returning to the palace, Izana immediately searches through books to research what type of like ginger has for him. The book writes the first type is having a good feeling towards something, but he's not a thing. The second type is especially liking certain foods. Ginger indeed drools every time she sees him. He secretly complains whether she really wants to eat him. The third type is particularly cherishing someone and being very intimate with them. He thinks of what she once said, how could any girl not be hurt by hearing such words from the boy she likes? So he deduces that her like is probably the third type. Coming back to his senses, he angrily closes the book, unable to believe he's actually researching these things. And tomorrow, they're actually going to that tower he detests. But thinking about going with Ginger, he inexplicably feels a bit excited. Suddenly, he notices Ginger's bag left on a chair not far away today. For some reason, he remembers her saying that her cooking all has a ginger flavor. He can't help wondering if even her bag has a ginger scent. Lately, he's really been infected by Ginger with many nonsensical thoughts. He grabs the bag intending to put it away and give it to her tomorrow, but accidentally opens it, and all the contents spill out. Among the scattered cosmetics, he sees a necklace, and instantly recognizes this as Larazi's necklace. He knows Larazi would never obediently hand over the necklace, so he has an inexplicable intuition that this is something Ginger stole for him. Realizing that she saw Lakashan yesterday was to steal the necklace, he's starting to feel better. But why did Jesuit leave this necklace to Larazi? Izana really can't figure out what secret this necklace hides. He suddenly notices two very small letters on the necklace, HB. Just as he's about to study it carefully, a knight comes to urgently report that they've found information about Jesuit. They investigated Jesuit's place of exile and discovered that after being exiled, Jesuit trained a disciple. However, his disciple left 5 or 6 years ago, and they currently haven't found any trace of him. But they found out his name. It's Hamel Bray. The next morning, Ginger sits on the bed with heavy dark circles under her eyes. She had insomnia and didn't sleep a wink all night. When she went to bed last night, she remembered that she left her bag at the palace. She worried all night about what would happen if Izana opened the bag and saw the necklace. Although the necklace was originally meant as a gift for him, if he just saw Larazi's necklace like this, he'd definitely think she was a thief. She can only wait until she gets to the palace to explain it to him properly. Right now, the most important thing is to prepare for the date. She jumps out of bed excitedly, going to the kitchen to prepare lunch. But the maids act as if facing a great enemy. They all evacuate from the kitchen. Ginger stares speechlessly at the group of people who ran away. Is her cooking really that scary? Today she's going to show them that she's capable of cooking. Soon the sandwich is completed. She feels pretty good about it and is already anticipating Izana's reaction after eating it. Her mother, hearing that she's actually cooking herself, comes over curiously to see and asks where she's going to play. Ginger tells her mother happily that she's going on a picnic with His Majesty later. Hearing this explosive news, her mother stares at her excitedly, asking what progress she's made with His Majesty now. Ginger blushes at the question, shyly telling her mother not to suddenly bring up such topics. But her mother asks her to be honest, because her feelings for His Majesty are written all over her face, and given her personality, she should have confessed long ago. Ginger is helpless. Indeed, the person who understands her best is still her mother. Then she tells her mother about falling in love with Izana at first sight. Although she hasn't directly confessed to him, she accidentally let it slip twice. Her mother asks with a gossipy expression what His Majesty's reaction was. Ginger sighs helplessly, saying he just pretends not to hear. Her mother touches her face sympathetically. Indeed, the one who falls in love first often has it harder, because the more you give, if you don't get feedback, the sadness and disappointment will also increase. Suddenly, her mother has an idea that could help heat up their relationship. On the other side, while waiting for Ginger, Izana is carefully examining yesterday's necklace. The initials on the necklace always make him think of Gesuit's disciple Hamel Bray. He suspects this isn't a coincidence, but he thinks for a long time and can't figure it out. At this time, Ginger walks over in surprise, because she sees the necklace around his neck. Izana notices her gaze and smiles slightly at her. Does it suit me well? Lady Ginger snap, you left behind such an interesting thing, so I tried it on. Ginger is obviously struck again by his smile and generously praises how good he looks with this necklace. Izana stands up saying that since that's the case, he'll wear this necklace today, but she stops him. She asks somewhat embarrassedly if she can wear the necklace for a day first, because she also wants to have a day when her thoughts can't be read. But Izana teases her that it makes no difference whether she wears it or not, because her thoughts are written all over her face. Ginger gets exasperated and tells him to stop talking. After the teasing, Izana smilingly takes off the necklace and puts it in her hands. Ginger happily puts on the necklace. She brought her secret weapon today, and she needs to quickly go to the tower with him. Seeing her show such a devious expression, Izana feels she's definitely up to no good. She quickly covers her face, pretending to be innocent and stammering that she's not. Izana sighs helplessly and doesn't plan to pursue it further. He extends his hand to invite her to set off together. She reaches out her hand with a slightly red face. Then they walk hand in hand toward the tower. It turns out that before leaving this morning, Ginger's mother gave her a bottle of red wine and excitedly explained that alcohol is the perfect way for improving relationships. She advised Ginger not to drink too much because this wine has a high alcohol content. Ginger instantly fell into fantasy. Maybe she can take this opportunity to see another side of Izana. Recalling this, she starts thinking about her battle plan. When the time is right, she'll bring out the wine. Izana suddenly speaks up, interrupting her thoughts. Ginger is startled by him. He didn't expect she would actually steal that necklace. He doesn't understand why she would do such a thing. Ginger awkwardly doesn't know how to speak. Of course, it's because she doesn't want him to meet with Larazi frequently because of the necklace, but she definitely can't tell him this honestly. At the same time, Izana looks surprised because he hears her thoughts in the case where she is wearing the necklace. Unaware that she's wearing a fake necklace made by Lakashan, Ginger continues thinking that just like he said yesterday, she also doesn't want others to take away what belongs to her. If he starts meeting frequently with Larazi, she'll be very jealous. Izana just quietly watches her without saying anything. Completely unaware that she's exposed herself, Ginger randomly makes up an excuse. Larazi has such a wicked heart. Who knows what excessive demands she might make of you using the necklace as an excuse. To prevent that from happening, I stole the necklace. She even praises herself as someone who always considers everything for him, but Izana stares at her meaningfully. Then she explains to him that yesterday she originally wanted to give him the necklace as a surprise, but later forgot, and didn't expect him to find it himself. Izana solemnly explains to her that he didn't intentionally go through her bag. When he picked up the bag, everything scattered out, and that's when he saw the necklace. Ginger asks in surprise why he was curious about her bag, while internally complaining that he couldn't possibly think her bag also contains Ginger. Realizing she might have guessed the truth and afraid he'd notice her displeasure, she quickly puts on a fake smile, while continuing to complain internally that if he really thinks that way, she'll turn every single one of his fingers into Ginger. Reading her thoughts, Izana feels his hand twitch involuntarily. Looking at his still intact hands, he explains incoherently that he was just curious about what she carries in her bag, absolutely not wondering if her bag might contain Ginger. Ginger doesn't understand what he's saying and looks at him with a confused expression. Izana covers his forehead. His thoughts have really been completely led astray by her, but he can still read Ginger's thoughts, which means this necklace is fake. However, Ginger seems convinced this necklace is real, and it doesn't seem like she's deliberately using a fake necklace to deceive him, so the necklace was likely switched somewhere along the way. He secretly resolves to thoroughly investigate the relationship between Larazi and Hamill. Ginger curiously asks if he discovered anything while wearing this necklace, whether he found any clues about breaking the curse. He seriously says he has one discovery. That is, he thinks the Lady Ginger Snap he knows isn't ordinary. Ginger is very confused by his words. Given that she can steal necklaces, he thinks she should change her name to Kaitu Ginger. Ginger looks speechless. Izana asks with a smile what she wants to steal next. She immediately throws him a flirtatious look, saying she wants to steal his heart. Izana bursts out laughing at her words. He teases that it won't be easy. Ginger straightens her back confidently, saying phantom thieves only target difficult things to be charming. Izana's eyes are full of gentle smile. Alright, then try to steal it. Now Ginger's mind is full of the bottle of wine in her bag. She's confident she can make great progress with Izana soon. Seeing him extend his hand, she thinks he wants to hold hands, so she happily reaches out. He says speechlessly that he extended his hand to help her with the bag. She immediately looks disappointed. Unable to bear refusing her, Izana takes her bag with one hand and holds her hand with the other. Fine, hold my hand if you want. Ginger looks up to see his ears have turned red. Knowing he must be feeling shy now, she didn't expect him to have such a cute side. She's full of joy all the way, which confuses Izana greatly. Soon they arrive near the tower. Ginger only feels the area around the tower is desolate. Even in broad daylight, it makes her feel inexplicably eerie, so she moves closer to Izana. She didn't expect this place to be even more desolate than she imagined. They arrive at the tower that appeared in the book called The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquess's Daughter. She, a villainous supporting character from the novel, is about to enter first. Perhaps even the book's author Hamill has never seen inside. As the tower door slowly opens, they walk in. Inside is pitch black, and nothing can be seen. After Izana opens the curtains, she can finally see clearly inside. The interior actually looks much more normal than the outside. When she read the novel, she thought the inside would be particularly dark too. The bookshelves inside are filled with various kinds of books. She guesses he must have read all these books. After all, being locked in the tower for such a long time, he must have been very bored and could only pass time by reading. She feels somewhat incredulous, because ordinary people would have difficulty maintaining mental stability, but under those circumstances Izana could still persist in reading and improving himself. Izana dusts off the sofa and asks Ginger to come sit. Every corner of the room is covered with spiderwebs, showing that no one has been here for a long time. If she hadn't said she wanted to come here, Izana probably would never come to the tower again, because he has too many painful memories here. Maybe it's because he's been here for long, but this time when he arrives here, he surprisingly doesn't feel uncomfortable. He suddenly leans close to Ginger with a serious expression, believing it might also be because he came with Lady Ginger's snap this time. Ginger tells him with a stern face not to doubt it. Of course it's because she's here that he's not afraid. Izana is amused by her, teasing, yes, your overconfidence is exactly your charm. Noticing she brought a basket, he curiously asks if there's food inside. Only then does she remember the main purpose, proudly telling him these are sandwiches she prepared by hand. She then enthusiastically takes out a sandwich and hands it to him. She watches him expectantly, shouting in her heart, "Go on, open that pretty mouth of yours and enjoy my food." Izana is startled by her inner voice and shrinks back a bit. He looks at her warily, hesitantly putting the sandwich to his mouth. As he takes a bite, he freezes in surprise. Ginger asks expectantly if it tastes good, but Izana asks in confusion if she really didn't put any ginger in it. Otherwise, why does the sandwich taste like ginger? Ginger slumps down weakly. The food she makes still can't escape the curse of ginger. The more Izana chews, the spicier it gets, making him cough continuously and even tearing up. He quickly asks if she has anything to drink. Ginger immediately sees her opportunity. She points to a bottle that looks like fruit juice but is actually wine that she specially prepared in the basket, only to find the alcohol is gone. She sees Izana has already poured himself a large glass and downed it all in one go, quickly finishing the entire glass. Seeing her surprised expression, he asks confused if there's a problem. The wine has a high alcohol content. She had planned for him to just have a tiny sip, but he ended up drinking so much. At this point, Ginger has no choice but to let him keep going. Seeing her guilty expression, he suspects she might have put something in the fruit juice. Ginger immediately panics, explaining incoherently that she didn't do anything. Izana suddenly stands up but then feels dizzy. His face also shows the flush of intoxication. He sways and sits back down on the sofa, supporting his dizzy forehead with his hand, sighing that he really can't let his guard down. Izana feels hot, guessing it might be the spiciness from the sandwich he just ate kicking in. Ginger beside him asks worriedly how he's feeling now. He replies with unfocused eyes that after drinking the fruit juice, he feels even hotter. It's like the dizziness from drinking alcohol. She guiltily looks away. What he drank was indeed wine. She didn't expect his alcohol tolerance to be so poor. Only now does she remember that the novel also mentioned he can't handle alcohol well. Just as she's lost in thought, Izana gets up and drinks another large glass, and she wants to stop him but it's too late. She sees him collapse on the sofa and fall asleep after finishing the drink. She had wanted him to have just a few sips of alcohol so they could have some intimate conversation, but now everything is ruined. However, seeing him asleep makes her find him even cuter, like an innocent child. It's also a rare sight of him being docile. Watching him, she feels somewhat sad because she thinks of how lonely little Izana must have been staying in the tower. But from now on, she'll always stay by his side, never letting him be lonely again, keeping him happy forever. Seeing him asleep, she gets up planning to look around the house. Suddenly, her foot steps on the hem of her own dress. She loses her balance and falls down. She just happens to land right on Izana, and the atmosphere instantly goes quiet for a few seconds. Ginger's face turns bright red. She lets out a scream. She really didn't do it on purpose. That evening, Izana wakes up clutching his aching head. The attendant who was waiting beside him respectfully bows when he sees him awake. Izana, still uncomfortable from the hangover, asks the attendant about Ginger. The attendant reports that Lady Ginger has returned home, and before leaving, she asked him to tell His Majesty that she went back first. Izana is furious that this bold Ginger actually escaped while he was unconscious, but he doesn't know if it's his imagination. He still feels like Ginger's scent lingers around his lips. Back home, Ginger still hasn't recovered from that kiss, annoyed at herself for falling and landing right on his mouth. To be honest, she can't stop feeling excited inside, praising her mother for truly having foresight. Ginger suddenly feels the necklace around her neck, finding that she accidentally brought it back with her. But still immersed in the kiss, she decides to put this matter aside for now. If Izana needs it, she'll take it back to him. 3 days later, Ginger comes to attend the banquet at Count North's mansion. For these 3 days, because of that accidental kiss with Izana, she's been too embarrassed to see him. But at this kind of large banquet, Izana might very well meet Larazi, and she must come to prevent their meeting. Moreover, as long as Larazi and Izana have a conversation, sooner or later she'll notice that the necklace she's wearing is fake. At this moment, Izana is surrounded by a group of people flattering him. Suddenly he spots Larazi in the crowd, who is wearing a vintage red dress, lifting her skirt to curtsy to him. Izana immediately notices her necklace. He expressionlessly invites her to find a quiet place to talk, as he happens to have something to ask her. Larazi immediately agrees with a beaming smile. Meanwhile, Ginger is asking the ladies present about Izana's whereabouts. One lady says His Majesty chatted with everyone for a while and then disappeared somewhere. Another lady saw him go upstairs with a particularly beautiful young lady just now. Ginger looks anxiously toward the second floor, thinking it must be Larazi who got to to talk with His Majesty. She then goes to the second-floor balcony to look for them, but after searching everywhere, she can't find them. She dejectedly hangs her head, planning to go to another balcony to search, when suddenly a hand taps her shoulder from behind. It's actually Lakishan. Ginger asks him, confused, why he's here, and asks why he suddenly went on vacation, but Lakishan just looks at her silently. Ginger is anxious to find Larazi and Izana, so she tells him that she has urgent business and needs to leave first. They can chat next time, but Lakishan calls out to stop her. She stops, looking up at him. Lakishan slowly begins, "I keep remembering it and it haunts my thoughts." She looks at Lakishan with displeasure, thinking he's mistaking her for Larazi and practicing his confession. But the next moment, before she can react, Lakishan pulls her into his arms. He buries his head in her shoulder and confesses, "It's you, the moment you hugged me in the wardrobe. I can't forget your warmth left behind." Meanwhile, on another balcony on the second floor, Izana first compliments Larazi's beautiful necklace. Larazi is very pleased, thinking he's indeed interested in her necklace just like in the novel. She smiles and tells him this necklace was left to her by her grandfather. Izana pretends to be surprised, asking if her grandfather is the great magician Gezuit Atlanta, showing great interest in her necklace. Since he still can't read her thoughts, he guesses her necklace should be real. He asks if he can take a look at her necklace, and Larazi immediately hands it to him. He sees 2 letters GA on the necklace, guessing these should be the English initials of Gezuit Atlanta. He instantly realizes that Ginger's necklace is indeed fake, and the person who made that necklace must be Hamel. So he asks Larazi if she knows Hamel. Larazi instantly looks panicked. She looks away, not daring to meet Izana's eyes, saying she can't remember clearly. Izana notices her abnormality but doesn't expose her. He returns the necklace to her, but Larazi intimately grasps his hand, softly asking if he can help her put the necklace on. Though surprised, Izana agrees. Larazi smiles with delight. She then shyly lowers her head, while Izana thinks about matters with an expressionless face, guessing that Larazi must have some connection with Hamel. If Ginger's fake necklace was made by Hamel, then Hamel must know about his curse. It seems he needs to thoroughly investigate Larazi and Hamel. After putting on the necklace, he plans to leave, but Larazi grasps his hand, signaling him to wait. "I have something important to tell you, Your Majesty, but it's not convenient here. Could you summon me to the palace after the banquet ends?" On the other side, Ginger is being held in Lakishan's arms, trying to break free from his embrace, but Lakishan holds her tighter, pleading for her to stay by his side, hoping her not go to the balcony. Ginger is full of confusion, not understanding what's happening. Could it be that Lakishan likes her? But just a few days ago, they were still researching how to attract Larazi together. How did it suddenly become like this? Lakishan suddenly tightens his hold, hugging her even tighter. She momentarily can't breathe, asking Lakishan to let her go first, but he hugs her even tighter. His longing, guilt, helplessness, and humble love are all contained in this embrace. He asks her to leave this place with him, and if she agrees, he'll let go. Ginger feels like her waist is about to break, and immediately agrees. Only then does Lakishan release her. She touches her waist pitifully, but when she looks up at Lakishan, she freezes, because his eyes are full of deep gloom and sadness. She doesn't know what to do for a moment, wondering what happened during this time. She wants to ask what's wrong with him, but is interrupted. She sees Izana and Larazi standing not far away looking at them, and Izana is very displeased. He then walks directly past Larazi toward Ginger, and asks her with an unpleasant expression, "What's going on, Ginger? Didn't you say you like me?" Without waiting for her answer, he sneers coldly, "Are you showing off to me? You're embracing another man now. How should I understand this situation?" Mentioning the embrace, Ginger still feels shy. She awkwardly touches her face, not knowing how to explain. Behind her, Lakishan respectfully bows to Izana and explains this isn't Ginger's fault. He just happened to see her about to fall, so he caught her. Izana clearly doesn't believe his words, asking with cold eyes, "Aren't you on vacation? How did you suddenly come back?" Lakishan explains he received a banquet invitation, so he came over. Ginger beside them is still thinking about why Lakishan acted that way just now. Suddenly, she hears a voice in her head. It's Plan B. Recognizing this as Lakishan's voice, she asks in surprise if this is magic. Lakishan tells her everything he just did was to get Larazi's attention, smiling as he asks her to find a way to take His Majesty away from here first. Ginger frowns with a flash of heartache in her eyes because she knows he's lying. His expression isn't one that wants her to leave. His eyes look like he's about to cry. She wants to comfort Lakishan, but what comes out is, "Your Majesty, let's go to a quiet place." Izana remains silent with displeasure for a while, then turns around telling Ginger to follow. Ginger hesitantly glances at Lakishan, but she finally turns to follow Izana. Lakishan watches her departing figure with dejection. 7 years ago, when he first encountered Larazi's future, his heart was full of pity and excitement. Seeing her tragic ending, he couldn't just stand by and watch. So after Gezuit's funeral ended, he wrote that novel based on the future, but that was just him trying to protect Larazi in his confusion. At that time, he naturally assumed that feeling was love, but the moment he hugged Ginger, he suddenly understood what true love really is. This feeling makes him unable to ignore or suppress it. He thought this feeling would disappear after a few days, but he was completely wrong, because unknowingly Ginger began to become more and more important in his heart. Larazi interrupts his thoughts. Hummel, there's something I want to ask you. Did you write the book called The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquise's Daughter? There's no point hiding it from her now, so he nods and admits it, explaining that he wrote it based on a future he happened to see. But Lorezi says she doesn't believe in his prophecy at all. She only believes in her own feelings. She warns him to stop clinging to Ginger under the pretense of saving her. After saying this, she turns and throws out one last line: "I can take care of my own life." Lakishan stands there helplessly holding his forehead. He just wanted Lorezi to have a good ending. The cursed Izana, Ginger who can't get the one she loves, and Lorezi who dies at her lover's hands. He doesn't want any of them to get hurt. He just hopes everyone can be happy. But suddenly he remembers what Ginger once said. "You seem to have missed someone, that's yourself, Hamilbray." Thinking of this, his eyes fill with sadness. Blindly wanting to make others happy while disregarding himself might have been his delusion from the start. The departing Lorezi suddenly stops. She tells Lakishan that Izana suddenly asked about Hamil just now. Although I quickly glossed over the topic, His Majesty should have noticed something. After saying this, she leaves. Lakishan stands there silently with his head down. Meanwhile, Izana faces away from Ginger, saying he's hurt, questioning whether her liking only him isn't enough. Ginger anxiously explains that this is all a misunderstanding, not what he thinks. Lying in front of someone who can read thoughts would be exposed, so she chooses to tell the truth. "In fact, I was looking for your Majesty when I ran into Lala. He said he had something important to tell me and stopped me. We kept pulling back and forth and ended up in that position." Only then does Izana turn to look at her. Ginger quickly asks him not to blame Lakishan. Suddenly she glances to the side, wondering in her heart why she's explaining all this. They don't have any special relationship. Izana snorts coldly, his expression softening slightly. Seeing this, Ginger asks in return why he was with Lorezi. Izana is taken aback by the question. He then turns his head and sighs. "It's because of Lorazi's necklace. You said you already stole the necklace, but she's wearing it." "Of course I'd find that strange." Ginger panics and turns away, covering her mouth. That day, when Izana was drunk, she hadn't been able to properly explain about the necklace. She awkwardly explains to him that when she swapped the necklace that day, she replaced it with the fake one, so what Lorazi is wearing now should be the fake necklace. Izana is instantly shocked and freezes in place. He didn't expect that it was Ginger herself who swapped the necklace. That means the necklace engraved with HB was prepared by her. So the person who made that necklace should be Lakishan. Izana's expression darkens. Ginger asks confused what's wrong. Izana suddenly strides toward her and rests his head on her shoulder, saying with a hurt tone, "Ginger, I think I'm even more hurt now." Caught off guard by the embrace, Ginger's cheeks flush, and after a long time she manages to say, "I'm truly sorry for making you hurt, Your Majesty." Izana pours out all his inner thoughts. "When I saw you with Lala, I felt anxious, irritated, and depressed." These words sound very sweet to Ginger. She has the same feelings. If she saw him alone on a balcony with Lorezi, she would also feel irritated and depressed. Suddenly she realizes that Lakishan probably stopped her because he was afraid she'd feel upset seeing Izana and Lorezi together. But why did he look so sad at that time? Izana firmly states that he trusts Lakishan, as if speaking to Ginger but also convincing himself, "I trust Lala, just like I can tell him all my secrets, but I always feel like he's hiding something." Ginger is very surprised by his words, thinking he might have figured it out. Then Izana tells her about a report he recently received regarding Hamil, Gesuit's last disciple. Hamil suddenly disappeared 5 years ago, and coincidentally, Lakishan appeared before him exactly 5 years ago. Ginger can't believe he could guess to this extent, wondering if he discovered some important information from Lorezi just now. After venting, Izana's mood improves considerably. He asks Ginger to keep their conversation tonight secret because he wants to trust Lakishan. No matter what the truth is, he wants to hear it from Lakishan himself. Ginger frowns without speaking. After a while, she hesitantly asks, "Your Majesty, but what if it's a truth you can't accept?" The now appeased Izana even jokes seriously, "If Lala really is Hamil, I'm mentally prepared, just like the preparation I make every time I meet Lady Gingersnap." Ginger asks displeasedly what he means. Izana shows a teasing smile. "Who knows what strange thoughts will pop into your head today? I need make full preparation to read your thoughts." Hearing him say this, she quickly turns away from him, blushing as she pouts, "Fine, I won't think about it anymore, and I don't like being treated like some pervert by you either." Seeing her like this, Izana can't help but smile. He puts his arms around her, saying seriously, "I hope you'll keep thinking about me, no matter what you're thinking." In the end, even until she got in the carriage home, Ginger still couldn't tell Izana about Hamil. She's going crazy with indecision. On one hand, she promised Lakishan to keep his secret. On the other hand, Izana has noticed something. If Izana finds out later that she was hiding something from him, just thinking about his cold stare makes her shudder. She's not afraid of Izana getting angry at her. She's just worried he'll be disappointed in her and stop liking her. On the other side, Lorezi is also preparing to go home, when Kishan suddenly runs over in a hurry. Ever since he showed Lorezi that book, she hasn't contacted him. Tonight he's been looking for her all evening and finally found her. but this isn't the place for chatting, so he gallantly offers to take her home. Though reluctant, Lorezi agrees. Then Kishan brings up the novel. She immediately interrupts him. You don't believe the contents of that novel are real, do you? He immediately puts on an expression of disbelief, because he narcissistically thinks that since the male lead in the novel isn't him, the novel definitely can't be real. Lorezi forces a fake smile to humor him. She tells him not to tell anyone about the novel. Kishan curiously asks why. She puts on a worried expression, telling him the novel is all about His Majesty, and if he spreads it around, it might bring disaster. Kishan is instantly moved, thinking Lorezi is being considerate for his sake, and his heart swells with smug satisfaction as he keeps praising her for being so thoughtful and attentive. Suddenly, he feels incredibly lucky and glad he abandoned the vicious Ginger and wisely chose the kind Lorezi instead. He quickly says he won't tell anyone. Lorezi fake smiles and flatters him. That's wonderful. After arriving home, Lorezi gets off the carriage without hesitation, planning to leave, but Kishan calls out to stop her and asks if she can give him another chance. Lorezi pretends to be sad, saying she hasn't gotten over him stealing her necklace yet. As expected, Kishan stops bringing up this topic and instead comforts her. Lorezi doesn't want to get entangled with him anymore and dismisses him with a few words. With her back to him, she shows an impatient expression, secretly hoping he won't bother her anymore in the future. However, seeing Ginger and His Majesty's interaction today, she realizes their relationship is closer than she imagined. She lets out a cold laugh when thinking of this. She touches the necklace around her neck, confident that His Majesty will ultimately be hers. On the way back to the palace, Izana encounters Lekishan, who is waiting for him. He directly asks if Lala is hiding anything from him. Lekishan presses his lips tightly together and lowers his head without speaking. Izana asks in a low voice if he has feelings for Ginger. Lekishan remains silent for a while. He takes off his glasses and confesses honestly, yes, I like Lady Ginger. As they look at each other, he asks Izana in his heart, Your Majesty who's asking me this question, do you also like her? Izana is stunned for a moment, to be honest. He's not sure, because this is his first time feeling such emotions. He finds that Ginger is indeed very cute and likable, and he's very happy when he's with her, but he doesn't know if this feeling is love. Lekishan tells him seriously that if His Majesty still isn't sure whether he likes Ginger, then he's going to pursue Lady Ginger. Your Majesty, even if Ginger likes you, you wouldn't mind? Izana's face darkens as he frowns. He grits his teeth and says no. Getting more and more angry, he shouts furiously at Lekishan, I don't want you to pursue Ginger. After shouting, he suddenly realizes what he said and freezes instantly. Lekishan smiles and provides the answer in his heart. Your Majesty, that's actually what liking means. Izana embarrassedly turns his head with a red face. He always has the feeling that Lala can read his inner thoughts. Well, after all, he's been with Lala for 5 years now. Even if Lala can't read minds, he knows him well. 5 years ago in winter, after he was locked in the tower, the old attendant who had been serving him died. After that, his attendant position remained vacant. Everyone around him feared him. People who didn't know about his ability thought he had some contagious disease, so besides servants, no one dared enter or leave the tower. But suddenly one day, Lekishan appeared. Lala volunteered to become his attendant, even though he found it hard to trust others because he could read their thoughts, since they were similar in age, and Lekishan gave him a good impression. They quickly became friends. He thought that if he had a brother, it would probably feel like this. Lekishan is someone he can freely confide his inner secrets to, and now he realizes that such an intimate person might have approached him with ulterior motives. Lekishan behind him speaks up, interrupting his thoughts. But Your Majesty, I also like you. He tilts his head toward Izana with a smile. I don't want to lose either of you. I just want to keep protecting these feelings. Though it's just a confession of pure friendship. Izana shivers all over, saying with a speechless expression that he doesn't want to hear a man's confession. Lala looks at him pitifully. After a while, Izana turns his head and says seriously, I like you too, Lala. You're one of the few people who've been with me since the tower days. Their 5-year friendship is enough to support Izana in continuing to trust him. Although Lala hasn't told him everything now, no matter who Lala is, Izana chooses to continue believing in him. The next day, Lorezi is invited to the palace by Izana. Izana curiously asks what she wants to tell him. She doesn't beat around the bush, directly saying she knows about his curse and that the person who cast this curse was her grandfather Jesuit. Izana's face immediately darkens, asking coldly how she knows about this. She explains she read it in a book called The Imprisoned Prince and the Marquise's Daughter. Izana is instantly stunned. The book Ginger brought is with him, so why would Lorezi also have that novel? Lorezi says she found clues in the novel. He tells her seriously to continue. When she was going through her grandfather's belongings, she found a portrait. The person in the portrait is the previous king's brother, Lord Hendrik, who is Izana's father's younger brother. But he died young. He was very talented in magic and was once her grandfather's disciple. Less than half a year after Hendrik's death, her grandfather left the palace. She guesses there must be some connection. Izana thinks about what happened back then, but he was still young at the time and can't remember clearly. He only vaguely recalls attending Uncle Hendrik's funeral. He can't figure out what connection his uncle's death could have with his curse. At the same time, Ginger is lying dejectedly on the sofa. She's certain Izana definitely knows that Lekishan is Hamil. She can't help worrying about what will happen to Lekishan in the future. Just when things were starting to improve, new troubles have appeared. Sarah suddenly comes to notify her that there's a visitor. Ginger goes out to see Lekishan holding flowers, his eyes full of gentleness and smiles. She curiously asks if he isn't supposed to be on vacation. He says his visit today has nothing to do with His Majesty, and it's a personal visit. He presents the flowers to her, asking her to go on a date with him. Ginger blushes and doesn't react for a long time. Lakishan asks with a smile if she's free now. She takes the flowers from him and asks confused why he wants to date her. He says he also wants to try seeking his own happiness. All this time he's been working hard for everyone's happy future but lost himself in the process. But recently he suddenly had the thought of wanting to be happy himself. Ginger very much agrees with his thinking. He should make himself happy first before considering others' happiness. Lakishan invites her to be his dating practice partner. Then he adds quietly that he's never been on a date with a girl before. Lady Ginger, just consider this the first step of the future plan B. Since he said this much, she hesitates but ultimately agrees. After that, they go strolling through the streets. Ginger curiously asks why he's not wearing glasses today. He gently replies that today is a happy day and he doesn't need to see His Majesty, so he doesn't need to wear glasses. What he says makes her misunderstand. They're just going out together. How did it become a happy day? She lowers her head and glances at him warily. She now strongly suspects that Lala likes her, because dating practice partner sounds like an excuse. And she still remembers clearly all those things he said to her at the banquet last time. If he was acting, his eyes were too sincere, but he should know better than anyone that she likes Izana. Lakishan suddenly interrupts her thoughts. He's confused about where to go for a date. Ginger finds it ridiculous that he asked her out without even deciding where to go. Lakishan helplessly scratches his head, saying he's never been on a date with a girl before. He finally hangs his head dejectedly and asks if he's too useless. Ginger quickly reassures him that he'll knows how to do once he learns more. Since he doesn't know how to date, she'll give him a crash course today. She first takes him to eat ice cream, then they go to the wishing fountain. Finally, they have afternoon tea and chat. Most of the talking is done by Ginger chattering away, while Lakishan sits across from her quietly watching. Meanwhile, at the palace, Larazi hands a letter to Izana that she found among her grandfather's belongings, and the letter reads, "I'm all right, Kezuit. We all leave this earth eventually. I'm just leaving a little earlier. Don't think ill of my brother." It's signed Hendrik. If this letter is real, then the brother mentioned here should be his father. But Izana can't understand why Jesuit would resent his father because of his uncle's death. He asks Larazi if she can show him the necklace again. She immediately takes off the necklace. Izana carefully examines the necklace in his hands, not understanding why Jesuit would want the wearer's thoughts to be unreadable. Is he really doing this just to protect Larazi? But according to the novel, Larazi becomes unfortunate precisely because of this necklace, so he suspects there must be other reasons. He tries putting on the necklace, but the necklace suddenly starts glowing, and a voice emerges from it. Your Majesty, Izana." He looks around for the source of the voice. Seeing this, Larazi asks him confusedly what's wrong. Izana realizes that only he can hear this voice. Suddenly, that voice speaks again. "Your Majesty, if you can hear my voice, please come to the Atlanta estate. Jesuit Atlanta has something to present to you." Izana is certain this voice is definitely Jesuit's. He immediately orders his attendants to prepare to go to the Atlanta estate. Meanwhile, Ginger and Lakishan have been strolling until dusk. How much Lakishan wishes time could stop at this moment forever. His gentle and focused gaze makes her inevitably blush. Sensing the intimate atmosphere, Ginger quickly turns her face and asks when his vacation ends. She's somewhat displeased with his departure without notice, because without his magic bracelet, she's been on edge every time she goes to see Izana, afraid of exposing his identity. But Lakishan thinks His Majesty should have already guessed. Ginger is worried about them. She's certain that Lala definitely isn't hiding his identity out of malice. But if Izana, who trusts Lala so much that he's willing to confide his secrets, learns the truth, can he really accept it? The atmosphere becomes heavy for a moment. To lighten the mood, Ginger tells a cold joke with a straight face. Lakishan bursts into uncontrollable laughter. She always brings him unexpected surprises. He looks at her tenderly. "Lady Ginger, that's what I like about you. You always surprise others. I can sense that you're trying to make those around you feel comfortable." Hearing his compliments, her face turns bright red. She jokes that it would make others think he is confessing his feelings to her. But Lakishan doesn't deny it with his eyes full of undisguised love. "That's right, this is a confession. I believe I've come to like you, Lady Ginger." "No, I do like you." His confession comes unexpectedly. She wants to say something, but Lakishan suddenly drops a tear. She asks helplessly why he's suddenly crying. He embarrassedly explains that he's too nervous. "My image in front of you seems to have become a crybaby." Ginger looks at him with a complex expression. She can feel that Lakishan really doesn't like Larazi but likes her instead. He tries his best to change the unfortunate future, but he's also changed his own feelings. She gently touches his head to comfort him. "All right, stop crying. I don't like crybabies." Lakishan suddenly looks up. He plants a kiss on her forehead, then smiles at her. "Lady Ginger, even if you don't like crybabies, I still like you." Ginger hasn't recovered from that kiss yet, listening to his confession in a daze. On the other side, Izana arrives at the Atlanta estate. The voice from the necklace tells him to go to the study to find Hendrik's portrait, because there's something behind the portrait for him to see. After Izana has all the attendants withdraw, he moves the portrait. Unexpectedly, behind the portrait is actually a safe. Larazi is also surprised that there's a safe hidden in their house. Izana nervously opens the safe. Inside is a book. Opening it, he discovers it's a diary. After Izana gets the diary, the necklace makes no more sounds. He returns the necklace to Larazi and tells her about hearing her grandfather's voice from the necklace. Before she can recover, he takes the diary and prepares to leave. Larazi anxiously calls out to him, "Your Majesty, don't you understand my intentions in working so hard to help you? It's all because I like you." Even after learning their tragic ending in the novel, she still wants to be with him. Izana looks at her indifferently. She's not wearing the necklace right now, so he can sense that she is indeed sincere. But he already has someone in his heart. Larazi asks incredulously if it's Ginger. He nods and candidly admits that Ginger is very special to him. Larazi bites her lip angrily. After a moment, she lets out a cold laugh and sows discord. But does Ginger feel the same way Your Majesty does? Izana doesn't know why she's saying this. Larazi cunningly brings up the scene from the banquet night when Ginger and Lekishan were embracing. Izana instantly becomes displeased. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lekishan is about to escort Ginger home, but she looks at him apologetically. Lala, I was startled just now and couldn't respond to your confession. Thank you for your liking me. I can feel your sincerity. Lekishan is happy that she can feel his liking. Honestly, he's been quite worried before. She asks curiously what he's worried about. He shyly explains that he said he liked Lady Larazi before, and now he's confessing to her, so he was afraid she'd think he was frivolous and look down on his confession. He frantically explains that he doesn't mean to look down on her. Ginger pats his shoulder to show she understands because love is unpredictable. So the conclusion is that you like me now, right? Lekishan nods enthusiastically. But Ginger decisively tells him that the person she likes is Izana. I'm sorry, my answer might be somewhat cruel, but I still have to say it. She doesn't want to drag things out, because if she's ambiguous with Lala now, that would truly be bad for him. Even though Lala would be hurt now, she must refuse. Although Lekishan expected this result, hearing the rejection still brings a trace of loneliness to his face. The next second, he looks at her tenderly again, saying he knows her meaning, but his feelings for her won't change. He tells Ginger not to pity him, because even if it's unrequited love, liking her makes him happy. Ginger looks at him with tender sorrow. As the novel describes, he finds his own happiness in the happiness of the one he loves. At this moment, Izana in the carriage feels very embarrassed, because he realizes belatedly that he actually said Ginger was special in front of others. But he decides not to be with Ginger for now, because if his curse isn't lifted, he's afraid that one day he'll read thoughts from her that he doesn't want to read. What if she abandons him like his father did? What if even she fears him? Just thinking about this possibility makes his heart ache. He simply can't bear such a blow. Therefore, he has the fleeting thought that maybe it would be better for everyone if Ginger ended up with Lala. Suddenly, he sees outside the carriage. Ginger is walking together with Lekishan. Seeing this scene, Izana can't stay calm at all. He angrily rushes in front of them. They're startled by his sudden appearance. Izana asks with a stern face what they're doing here at this time. Lekishan also puts on a serious expression and tells him in his mind, Your Majesty, I clearly told you before that I was serious. Their gazes are filled with anger, as if they could burn everything around them. Caught in the middle, Ginger quickly signals for them both to stop. After all, it's getting dark. They can talk about whatever it is when they get back. It would be perfect if Izana could give her a ride into the palace, but Izana asks sarcastically if he's interrupting their date. She's about to explain while Lekishan speaks up. What if we really were on a date? What he says leaves Ginger dumbfounded, not understanding what he's trying to do. Izana angrily stays silent. Then he turns his head away displeasedly. I indeed have no reason to interfere with your private lives. Ginger is hurt by his words, not knowing how to express his feelings. Izana only continues to coldly push them away. I'm sorry for disturbing your private life, but Lala, you should return to work in the palace, right? I found important clues related to Jesuit and the curse. His last sentence successfully captures their attention. Izana first escorts Ginger home. Before parting, he tells her stiffly that he'll call her to the palace tomorrow to discuss Jesuit's matter. Ginger says she understands. She turns her head and carefully glances at Lekishan, politely bidding him farewell. After returning to her room, she collapses onto her bed exhaustedly. They just had to encounter Izana at that moment. She had just rejected Lekishan's confession and was afraid Lekishan would be even more hurt, so she didn't dare deny it in front of Izana. And there was such an awkward atmosphere in the carriage just now. None of them broke the silence. Thinking about how Lekishan wasn't wearing glasses today, she can't help but worry about what would happen if Izana discovered his true identity before he could confess. In the carriage, Izana frustratedly runs his hands through his hair. He had a moment where he wanted to cut ties with Ginger out of fear of the future, but seeing her standing with Lekishan made jealousy surge in his heart, making it impossible to stay calm. At this moment, Lekishan suddenly interrupts his thoughts. Your Majesty, the current situation goes against the novel's content. Because of Lady Ginger's appearance, you didn't fall in love with Lady Larazi. So Your Majesty, you probably won't go mad either. Izana wants to ask what he means by this, but Lekishan's next words leave him stunned. Your Majesty, but among all these changes, the only thing that remains unchanged is Lady Ginger's constant love for you. Then he confesses that he is Hamil. As he suspected, it really is Lala. Izana immediately darkens his face. He angrily clenches his fists and demands to know why Lekishan kept this secret until now. Why did he only confess to him now after being by his side for 5 years? Lekishan then confesses that the novel was written by him based on the tragic future he foresaw. So in order to change the future, he had to stay by his side. But he didn't know why Jesuit wanted to curse His Majesty, and at the time, His Majesty kept silent about his ability, so he really couldn't confess his true identity. That's why he's been working hard to earn his trust all these years. Izana lets out a sarcastic sarcastic laugh. Yes, you succeeded. I trusted you and told you all my secrets. He questions coldly why he didn't confess back then. Lakishan answers with guilt. You might think I'm making excuses, but your majesty, ever since you started trusting me more, it became harder for me to confess the truth, and during the time I spent with you, I genuinely followed you. We sometimes interacted like friends, sometimes like brothers. For me, who lost my parents and lived alone, you've long become like family in my heart. He sincerely apologizes to Izana. I was always afraid of disappointing you. I'm truly sorry, your majesty. After hearing his explanation, Izana's anger has dissipated, and his expression has softened considerably. He sighs and asks how he's been hiding his identity all this time. Lakishan explains it's all because of the glasses he wears. As a magical item, it allows Izana to only read the thoughts he's programmed. Izana is instantly unhappy. So all those complimentary thoughts he read from Lala's mind before were fake. Realizing this fact, his anger burns even more fiercely than before. Lakishan quickly explains that although those were altered words, they didn't differ much from what he truly thought. The carriage soon reaches the palace. Lakishan earnestly says he'll accept whatever punishment Izana gives him. Even if it means immediate dismissal and permanent disappearance, he'll comply with his wishes. After all, the tragic future has been changed, so his long-standing purpose has been accomplished. Izana silently steps down from the carriage. Although he was mentally prepared, he still feels a sense of betrayal. However, if Lala had intended to deceive him from the beginning, he should have kept hiding his identity forever. Lakishan respectfully bows and says he'll return to his estate to reflect and await punishment. Hearing this, Izana stops in his tracks. In fact, he's already forgiven him in his heart, but he still doesn't want to let this matter pass so easily. He turns around with displeasure and scolds, "Where do you think you're going? Didn't I just tell you I found important clues? Until I lift the curse, you need to stay by my side to help me," not expecting this outcome. Lakishan stands there, stunned. Izana continues, "You just confessed your identity. The Lala I know isn't gone, and it would be troublesome for me to find another capable subordinate." His ears turn completely red after saying this. Then he turns around and awkwardly adds, "But it doesn't mean I'll trust you like before. You'll have to work hard to earn my trust again." Lakishan also shows a relieved smile. Although he approached Izana with a purpose, the time he spent serving him was truly happy. After this matter ends, he'll quietly leave. He sincerely wishes for Izana and Ginger's future happiness, because they're both important to him. But for some reason, his tears won't stop falling. Returning to the palace, Izana feels very tired, but he still forces himself to sort through today's events. First is Gezuit's diary, and then Lala's confession that he is Hamel. Thinking about Lala saying that Ginger has always loved him, his face slightly reddens. Now all that's left is for him to confess his feelings to her. But the next second, he thinks he should lift the curse first before confessing to her. Now that he's finally found clues about the curse, he can't delay. So he opens Gesuit's diary. 20 years ago, Izana's uncle Hendrik had great magical talent and was also the first heir to the throne. Under Gesuit's guidance, his magic improved daily, and even Gesuit praised his growing power. Kind-hearted Hendrik only hoped his magic could help the empire develop better. His brother Astor, who had no magic, appeared happy for Hendrik on the surface. But privately, he was extremely jealous of his talent. 5 years later, Hendrik died. When found, he had collapsed alone in the tower, cause of death being suicide by poison. Gesuit completely didn't believe Hendrik would take poison, because there were no signs the day before. Astor, who ascended to the throne afterward, ordered the empire to ban all use of magic. He hypocritically claimed this was Hendrik's dying wish, and pretended to be sad, claiming Hendrik gradually developed hallucinations and became mentally unstable because of magic. Therefore, he decreed that no one in the empire was allowed to use magic anymore. However, Gesuit accidentally found a note in Hendrik's room after his death. It read, "I'm alright, Gesuit. We all leave this earth eventually. I'm just leaving a little earlier. Don't think ill of my brother." The moment he read the note, Gesuit suddenly saw what had happened in the past. He saw the scene of Hendrik with Astor before Hendrik's death. Astor handed poisoned wine to Hendrik, and Hendrik, completely unsuspecting, took it and drank it, which caused his death. After learning the truth, Gesuit cast curse magic on Izana that would cost him his life, although Hendrik asked Gesuit not to resent Izana. The next day, Ginger and Lakishan, who came to the palace, are told by Izana about the diary's contents. They're all shocked by the truth. Ginger can't understand why Gesuit would curse Izana. He should have cursed the late emperor instead. Izana says the diary only goes up to that point, and he doesn't know the rest either. He asks Lakishan if he's heard Gesuit mention anything, like Gesuit being able to see the past. Lakishan dejectedly says if he knew, he would have told him long ago. Ginger suddenly stands up abruptly. She nervously asks if their conversation means Lala has already confessed his identity. Lakishan awkwardly nods. Izana suddenly leans close to Ginger and stares at her angrily. Ginger snap. "So you knew all along that Lala was Hamel?" Ginger asks in panic when he found out about Lakishan's identity. Izana shrugs and smiles, telling her he suspected it from the day she brought the fake necklace, because he found HB carved on the necklace, and after she wore it, he could still read her thoughts. Ginger is dumbfounded. Only now does she realize she took the wrong necklace. Most importantly, after wearing the fake necklace that day, she had complained unrestrictedly in her mind at Izana. Recalling it all, she feels too embarrassed to live and tearfully opens the window. She now just wants to live on a different planet. She covers her face in breakdown, feeling utterly humiliated. Suddenly her foot slips. She's about to fall backward. Fortunately, Izana catches her. From this angle, looking at him makes her feel dazed again. Izana smiles smiles and asks why she's suddenly shy. "Didn't I tell you? It doesn't matter what you think. I just hope you'll keep thinking about me." After hearing his confession-like words, a blush appears on her face. They gaze at each other lovingly. Lakashan on the side coughs slightly to remind them he's still here. He takes out a handkerchief to wipe away invisible tears, complaining that treating someone who's never been in a relationship this way is too cruel. Izana and Ginger blush and quickly separate, explaining incoherently. After explaining, they shyly look at each other again. Lakashan is actually joking. To break the awkward atmosphere, he suggests they go to the top floor of the tower to look for clues. After all, Kazuit found clues there, so maybe they can find something too. But Izana is very resistant. He's been to the top floor of the tower a few times out of curiosity, but never observed carefully. Whenever he looked outside from there, he felt an isolated loneliness, and he doesn't want to experience that feeling again by going to the top floor. Ginger beside him suddenly grasps his hand and gently comforts him. "Your Majesty, don't worry. No matter where your Majesty goes, I'll always stay by your side." Izana is moved by her gesture. He didn't expect anyone to care about his fears and unease. Then he tightly grips her hand and suddenly leans close to her, making Ginger's heart race again. But he suddenly asks seriously if she's thinking something inappropriate again. Caught red-handed, Ginger blushes and tries to hide, but Izana holds her down, saying he wants to settle the score about that day with the wine. Ginger thinks about the accidental kiss that day and immediately wants to escape. Izana, who can read thoughts, forcefully turns her face toward him. He wants to see what inappropriate thoughts she has now. They can't stop their playful fighting. Lakashan on the side sighs helplessly and decides to go alone to Gesuit's research room to look for clues. As for Izana and Ginger, he tells them to go to the tower first to check the situation. He'll come over after examining the research room. While Izana is looking at him, he tells Izana in his mind, "Take this opportunity to confirm each other's feelings." Izana turns his head and coughs awkwardly, saying he understands. He turns around and tells Ginger to follow. Ginger smiles and waves goodbye to Lakashan. Lakashan stands there silently watching the two people walking away. He touches his faintly aching heart, thinking that whether in the novel's story or in reality, having everyone achieve a happy ending might not be realistic. But then he recalls Ginger's serious words to him. "You left yourself out, Hamel Bray. Only by making yourself happy can you make others happy. Lady Ginger, if my happiness comes again, I definitely won't let it go this time." On the way to the tower, Ginger thinks about it and still solemnly apologizes to Izana. She didn't mean to hide Lakashan's identity. Izana no longer cares about this matter, but he still pretends to be angry and says to her, "You two have been fooling me all along. Two people I trusted so much actually deceived me. I feel betrayed." Ginger apologizes again, thinking that Lala probably had some difficulties that prevented him from confessing, so she helped him hide it. Izana soothingly pats her head, telling her not to worry because Lala has already explained everything to him. Ginger freezes instantly. Then, doesn't His Majesty also know about her writing the fake novel? She bangs her head against the tree out of embarrassment. Izana, with his back to her, doesn't notice her behavior. He feels a bit melancholy. Lala's deception isn't without impact on him. I often wonder in my heart why Lala couldn't tell me earlier, but in the end I realized he probably thinks the same way I do. Ginger curiously asks why he says this. Actually, when he first met Lala, Izana also agonized over whether Lala would see him as a monster if he revealed his ability. So Lala must have been equally troubled about whether to reveal his secret, because he was afraid that once he told him, he would be disappointed. He and Lala have always relied on each other like brothers, both afraid of losing the other. Ginger looks at Izana with concern. She vaguely feels that maybe the trust between His Majesty and Lakashan won't return to what it was before. After all, trust and forgiveness are two different things. But Your Majesty, although being hurt by someone you trust is painful, if you find someone truly trustworthy in the process, isn't that the most precious thing in the world? After saying this, she narcissistically adds, "Of course, you should save the first choice for your most trusted person for Ginger Torte." Izana pauses and asks hesitantly, "I have the terrifying ability to read others' thoughts. Aren't you afraid? And my father might also be a murderer who killed his own brother for power. But whatever your father did has nothing to do with you. I don't mind at all that you can read minds, because whenever Your Majesty reads my thoughts, your eyes really sparkle. When I look into your eyes, I feel the light." That's absolutely charming. Izana is stunned by her performance. Ginger earnestly says everything she said is true. If he doesn't believe her, he can read her thoughts. He turns around trying hard to suppress his laughter. Her jumping thoughts don't even give him time to be sad. Ginger, thinking he's still feeling down, continues to comfort him seriously, telling him to have confidence in himself. Izana looks at her with a smile, agreeing repeatedly, "All right, I promise you. I'll save the first super trust for you, Ginger Tort." Seeing him so easily entrust his trust to her, Ginger looks at him with both emotion and sadness, thinking about what he's about to say next. Izana suddenly turns away with a red face, "So until the curse is lifted, you have to stay by my side." She firmly says that's a given. She sincerely tells him in her heart, "Your Majesty, whether the curse can be lifted or not, I'll always stay by your side." This makes him blush again. He then coughs unnaturally to hide his shyness and extends his hand, inviting her to go to the top of the tower together. Ginger joyfully grasps his hand in return. After they enter the tower, a figure in black suddenly appears outside. He reaches out to open the door, but his hand passes right through. Lakashan, who comes to meet Izana and Ginger, asks confusedly who he is. The man turns around and it's actually Gesuit. Lakashan looks at his master in disbelief. Meanwhile, Ginger and Izana have reached the top floor of the tower. It's empty and inside, with nothing there. Ginger complains about why Jesuit didn't write more about the curse in his diary. She whispers to Izana, complaining that Jesuit's personality definitely isn't very good, just based on the fact that he's Loraizi's grandfather. Suddenly, a low voice appears in the room. "I'm truly sorry for my terrible personality." Ginger is scared half to death. Jesuit respectfully bows to Izana. "Your Majesty, I am Jesuit Atlanta. It's been a long time since we last met." Ginger fearfully retreats, thinking to herself that wasn't Jesuit supposed to be dead? Jesuit sighs emotionally to Izana. "The last time we met, you were only 5 years old. Now you've grown up." Ginger angrily questions him about what he's been doing all this time. She feels heartbroken and angry for Izana. "It's all because of your curse that His Majesty was locked in the tower for 15 years. Jesuit explains that his physical body died 7 years ago. Before dying, his soul attached itself to the necklace. Not long ago, when Izana wore that necklace, he awakened him. Ginger breaks out in a cold sweat. She's most afraid of ghosts. She fearfully hides behind Izana, no longer having her previous arrogant demeanor. Jesuit apologizes to Izana for appearing so late. The door is suddenly thrown open by Lekishan, who is out of breath because of running upstairs in one breath. He's shocked that what he just saw really is his master. Jesuit turns back and greets him. He already knows about what Lekishan did to change the future, and praises him with satisfaction. "Thanks to your intervention, the future tragedy was prevented." Seeing his efforts acknowledged by his master, Lekishan is moved to tears. But thinking about Izana's curse, Lekishan questions him in confusion about why he cursed Izana. Jesuit removes his hat, revealing his weathered face. Frankly speaking, he never regretted casting that curse until his death, even though it was the result of exchanging his own lifespan. He couldn't forgive Hendrik being killed by the previous Emperor Astor, so he cursed both Astor and Izana. Ginger is very surprised to hear that the previous king was also cursed, but as far as she knows, the previous king showed no signs related to the curse. Izana also asks him in confusion what he means. Jesuit reminds them that the current Izana is the only bloodline of the royal family, with no relatives. Izana instantly guesses that his father's curse was having no descendants. His guess is completely correct. That was exactly Jesuit's revenge. Unexpectedly, Astor was so cold, trusting no one, not even willing to keep his only child by his side, ultimately spending the rest of his life in loneliness. But what surprised Jesuit was that Astor actually locked Izana in the tower for so long. And besides that, the curse power on Izana had become several times stronger than initially. When his life was in danger, he often dreamed of Hendrik silently watching him with sad eyes. Perhaps it was because of guilt. Jesuit had been wanting to lift Izana's curse before his death, but the curse's power had become so strong that even he couldn't break it with magic. Therefore, to prevent Izana from being harmed by the curse in the future, he put part of his soul into the necklace. Izana urgently asks if there's any other way. Jesuit tells him that someone must truly trust him, because he now judges whether to trust someone by reading their thoughts through their eyes. So breaking free from this constraint is the first step. After saying this, Jesuit's figure gradually becomes transparent. He encourages Izana that he can definitely do it. "Your Majesty, you are much stronger than Emperor Astor. I hope you can overcome this curse together with your friends and family. We'll meet again when there's a chance." Then he disappears. Izana looks at this scene in shock, hardly believing that his curse really has a solution. Afterward, they walk out of the tower while discussing the curse. Although they now know the method, the solution is really too abstract. Ginger mutters that it would be great if there was magic to directly eliminate the curse. Lekishan can't understand why his master put the hint for lifting the curse in the necklace. After all, if something went wrong, Loraizi's life would also be in danger. Ginger also complains that it would have been fine to leave a note. However, Izana has a different view. As they said, there indeed are simpler and faster methods. But for him, who had been locked in the tower for so many years and extremely distrusted everyone, directly telling him that the solution was to truly trust someone, would he have been able to understand the mystery at that time? He guesses that maybe Jesuit did this to make him understand what trust really means. Then he turns back with a smile to look at Lekishan and Ginger behind him. "But it's precisely because of this that I was able to meet you." Hearing him express his feelings so openly, they freeze in place with surprise. Realizing what he just said, Izana blushes and quickly turns away to hide his embarrassment, urging them to hurry up and follow. Lekishan and Ginger exchange a knowing glance, then joyfully go to catch up with his steps. She puts her arm around Izana's arm. No matter what happens, the three of them will face it together because their destinies are already bound together. Ginger and Izana turn back with smiles to wave at Lekishan, urging him to hurry up and follow. Lekishan also looks at them tenderly. Protecting the two people he cares about most is also his happiness. A few days later at the palace ball, Loraizi makes a special effort to dress up and attend, although she was indeed heartbroken after being rejected by Izana last time. It's not time to give up yet. She suspects Ginger must have some relationship with Hamel. She felt something was wrong when she saw them hugging last time. But if he was going to hug someone, it should be her, Loraizi. After all, she's much more charming than Ginger. Today, she must show His Majesty her charm properly. But the next second, her confidence and composure are shattered because the attendant announces that Izana and Ginger have arrived together. She sees Izana standing intimately beside Ginger. Seeing the two standing intimately together, Loraizi's face instantly turns cold, surprised at how quickly they've developed. The surrounding guests whisper that His Majesty and Lady Ginger make such a perfect match. It makes Loraizi even more displeased, but the guests don't sense her displeasure at all, still gossiping that although His Majesty hasn't officially announced his relationship with Lady Ginger, their attending the banquet together should also indicate they're already officially dating. Hearing their discussion, Larazi is struck, completely unable to accept this fact. At the same time, Izana extends his hand to invite Ginger to dance. Ginger joyfully puts her hand in Izana's. Then they dance together, gazing at each other with loving eyes. But she doesn't understand why he would suddenly hold a ball when the urgent matter should be to quickly resolve the curse issue. Izana explains with a smile that just being anxious is useless, they also need to rest. Moreover, he's recently trying not to read other people's thoughts, because he's seriously thought about what Gazuit said before. He thinks trust is like a person blindfolding themselves and holding someone else's hand to cross a single plank bridge. If he doesn't trust enough, he might stumble and accidentally fall into the river. Conversely, if he trusts another one, then the single plank bridge might become a flat road. Even if it's unrelated to the curse, he wants to try not to read thoughts and trust others. Ginger is amazed by his courage to face the difficulties, and is also moved by this side of him. Watching this scene from a distance, Larazi is so angry she's about to break her fan. She doesn't understand why Izana doesn't choose her but chooses Ginger. This is the first time in her life she's suffered such humiliation. All men become enchanted just by looking at her once. But why is it Ginger who won over Izana? Suddenly, a voice interrupts her thoughts. It's the drunk Kishan. It's too early for open hostility, so she can only put on a fake smile to discuss with him. Long time no see. This is our first meeting since the last banquet, right? A flash of anger crosses Kishan's eyes. Since they parted last time, she's been making various excuses to avoid his meeting requests. Today, he finally gets the opportunity to see her. He staggers up to her and keeps mocking her. Lady Larazi, are you still thinking things over? I did know that you were a deep thinker, but I didn't know it was to this extent. At this rate, I'll die of old age before you're done thinking. Kishan directly grabs her hand. But Larazi looks completely impatient. She really doesn't have the mood to entangle with him anymore. Suddenly thinking of something, she pauses, then looks at Kishan with a calculating expression. She starts acting for Kishan with a tearful expression. I'm really sorry for making you wait so long, but I also had my reasons. I've also been thinking about returning to your side. But recently, His Majesty showed interest in me. Thinking about the hardships he's endured, I wasn't able to refuse, and it's true my heart wavered slightly. But His Majesty pursues me while also dancing publicly with Ginger. I didn't expect His Majesty to have two faces. Larazi apologizes to Kishan while crying. I feel so apologetic to you. This is all my fault for being seduced by His Majesty's advances. As she expects, Kishan glares angrily in Izana's direction with gritted teeth. Larazi reveals a triumphant smile. Meanwhile, Ginger happily stretches with satisfaction. She hasn't enjoyed a banquet this much in a long time, because before meeting Izana, the matter with Kishan and Larazi made her so annoyed that she had no mood to enjoy banquets. Izana looks at her indulgently. It seems this banquet was quite worthwhile. I'm also enjoying it along with you. Hearing these words, Ginger's face turns red. She shyly avoids his gaze. Your Majesty, your words make it sound like this banquet was specially held for me. Izana confirms her thought. This banquet was indeed held for her. Ginger's heart instantly races. She wants to ask more but gets interrupted. She sees Kishan approaching with a dark expression. Ginger is about to explode with anger at Kishan. Just at this moment, he comes out to ruin the atmosphere. He has no sense at all. Izana also instantly puts on a cold expression, asking him what he wants. Kishan is scared by his gaze and doesn't dare move forward. He stops in place, stammering that he has something to say to Izana. Ginger rudely tells him to get lost quickly, but Kishan looks at her pitifully. He only thinks Ginger is pitiful, still being kept in the dark and played with emotionally by Izana without knowing it. So his determination to expose Izana becomes even stronger. Suddenly, he falls to his knees with a thud, hanging his head and asking Izana if he must steal both women away to feel satisfied. He suddenly raises his head and roars to the sky. Both Ginger and Izana are startled by his roar. Even the guests at the banquet hear this sound and discuss what happened. Only Larazi is very pleased. Kishan was fooled by her acting again. No matter what, as long as she can interfere with Izana for a short time, she secretly hopes Kishan won't pester her anymore in the future. At this time, Kishan calls out to her. Meanwhile, on the terrace, Ginger speechlessly asks if Kishan is drunk. Izana looks at Kishan expressionlessly, his gaze becoming increasingly cold. If you dare say such things again, regardless of your status, I won't let you off lightly. Kishan is scared into trembling but still stubbornly says, Your Majesty, the way you look at me, it's as if you've read all the thoughts in my mind. Hearing this, Izana instantly changes his expression. Kishan shakily stands up, continuing his death-seeking provocation. Mind reading is really a good ability. Perhaps you relied on this ability to steal two women from me. Ginger quickly scolds Kishan to shut up, but he still doesn't realize his stupidity, righteously stating that he doesn't trust Izana. He can't rest assured, leaving Ginger to a man who wavers between two women. Ginger is angered by him. The one wavering between two women is clearly himself. She warns him that if he talks nonsense again, she'll slap him. Before she finishes speaking, Izana steps in front of her to calm her down, telling her not to be angry. Then he walks toward Kishan, questioning what right he has to talk about trust with him. Kishan inexplicably feels invisible pressure, his face covered with nervous sweat. Izana raises his hand and pokes his forehead, then pushes him back hard. It's not my fault that both women left you, it's all because of your own infidelity. Kishan is pushed back and doesn't dare make a sound. At this time, guards come over after receiving reports of someone causing trouble, respectfully asking Izana if anything is wrong. Izana waves his hand indicating nothing's wrong. He approaches Kishan and warns him in a voice only they can hear, "I'm a benevolent emperor, but if you act so shamefully in front of me again, I'll grate your face like some ginger snap. Do you understand?" Kishan trembles uncontrollably with fear. He looks pitifully at Ginger, but Ginger signals him to get lost quickly. Kishan runs away in tears, still adding drama for himself as he runs, "I'm sorry, Ginger, I love you." Afterward, to avoid more people like Kishan disturbing Izana, two guards respectfully state they'll stand guard outside. Ginger is still burning with anger. That damned Kishan? Stealing her book wasn't enough. He even talks nonsense before Izana. Outside the banquet at this time, Lakishan is questioning whether Larazi really needs to go this far. Larazi starts playing dumb, pretending to be confused by his words. He directly says he saw her secretly talking to Kishan. He's certain this farce was definitely caused by Larazi. Larazi coldly laughs and stops pretending, asking Lakishan why he must catch her in the act. Doesn't he like Ginger? Lakishan is surprised she knows. Don't underestimate a woman's intuition, I could tell at the last banquet. Don't you really care? If this continues, Ginger will be took away by his majesty. Lakishan gently states he only hopes the person he likes can be happy. He doesn't insist that Ginger be with him. His view on love surprises Larazi somewhat. Then she turns away and mocks him for being pitifully naive like a fool, whether in novels or reality. But she's different from him. Whatever she wants, even if she has to steal it, she must possess it. She absolutely cannot lose to Ginger like this. More importantly, this victory will decide her entire life. She won't let Ginger have her way. This is who she is. Larazi Atlanta. Lakishan, watching her expression, feels somewhat uneasy. Meanwhile, Ginger guesses that Kishan must have learned about Izana's mind reading from the novel. She worries he'll spread this secret around. Izana tells her not to worry. No one will believe the contents of novels. And Kishan isn't stupid enough to dare do something that insults the royal family. Only then does Ginger feel relieved. The next second, she becomes anxious again, because Izana suddenly asks her where the book she wrote is. She instantly freezes, not understanding why he suddenly brings this up. Izana looks expectant. He's very curious about the contents. Ginger awkwardly turns away to avoid having her thoughts read, because the contents are all about her writing romantic plots between her and him. Seeing she won't speak, Izana starts using his charm to tempt her. What exactly is the content that made Lala risk exposing her identity to stop it? I want to see it too. This delivers a critical hit to Ginger. She covers her blushing face and begs him not to ask anymore, because what she wrote is really too embarrassing. Izana turns away unsatisfied, telling her to at least tell him the ending. Ginger gestures frantically that it is a happy ending, just like a fairy tale. Izana can't help but smile, adding, "Ginger snap, then let's proceed according to the ending you wrote." Then he takes her hand and gently kisses the back of it. Ginger tort, "I like you. Will you accept my feelings?" Ginger still hasn't quite processed this, even wondering if she's hearing things. She asks uncertainly, "Your Majesty, are you sincere?" Izana points to his sincere face, saying he's 100% sincere. Feeling his sincere confession, Ginger suddenly starts crying. Izana anxiously comforts her, asking why she's crying. Actually, she's too happy. Her dream has actually become reality. She's still doubting whether she's dreaming. Izana gazes at her with aching tenderness, his heart squeezing at the sight. He takes out a necklace he had prepared and gives it to her. "This is also my first time experiencing this kind of feeling. I'm sorry for recognizing my feelings so late. Although the curse isn't lifted yet, I want to give you the best things." Ginger is filled with tears, her heart full of emotion. She suddenly hugs him. She liked him from long ago, or maybe from the very first time they met. "I like you too, Your Majesty." Izana caresses her lips, looking at her with full love, then places a gentle kiss on her lips. After the kiss ends, they still don't want to separate. He asks with a slightly red face if this first kiss was too hasty. Ginger looks at him in a daze, thinking to herself, this isn't their first kiss. In an instant, Izana's gaze becomes sharp as he catches the key point. Ginger panikedly turns away. She angrily asks him, didn't he say he wouldn't read her thoughts anymore? Izana retorts that just now was an uncontrollable situation. He stares at her intently, questioning what she means by saying it's not her first kiss. Ginger explains with a red face that it was in the tower when he was drunk and she accidentally fell. Then they accidentally kissed. Afraid he'll misunderstand that she did it on purpose, she raises her hand and swears it was absolutely an accident. Izana pretends to put on a serious expression, accusing her of being audaciously bold. Ginger tearfully apologizes, but the next second, he softens his expression and praises her cuteness. After saying this, he places another kiss on her face. Ginger's face instantly burns red. She feels like she's in a dream. A few days later, Ginger contentedly touches the necklace Izana gave her. Although several days have passed, she still feels like it's a dream, finding it hard to believe she and Izana have become lovers. Her mother suddenly enters to find her. Her mother immediately notices the necklace around her neck, sincerely clearly praising how beautiful it is. Anyone can tell how dearly His Majesty treasures you just by looking at it. She carefully touches the necklace and shares her troubles with her mother. Really? To be honest, I still can't quite believe it even now. I keep worrying about what if this is all a dream. Her mother gently holds her hand, knowing she's feeling insecure because she's too happy. Her mother shows a kind smile and comforts her not to worry. Go to enjoy the happiness of the present moment. Life and the connections between people are unpredictable. We often miss important moments in the present because we dwell on the past and worry about the future. My daughter, who is loving someone and being loved in return, is the most beautiful and radiant. Ginger feels both happy and moved, and the worries in her heart are smoothed away by her mother's words. She has basically no memory of her father who passed away when she was young. Mother shouldered all the matters of the estate, but she never complained to her about the hardships, although she sometimes resents why father left so early. Mother always has a smiling appearance, as if she's never regretted it. Ginger hugs her mother tightly. Mother, you've always been the person I respect and love most. Mother contentedly touches her hair. I love you too, my daughter. This love is what you deserve. You must be happy. Sarah suddenly comes to report that Lady Larazi has arrived. Ginger is very surprised that Larazi suddenly came to find her. She just feels a headache, guessing that Larazi probably came to cause trouble again. Mother beside her sees her frowning and suggests that if she feels awkward, she doesn't have to see her. Mother asks Ginger if she's still bothered by the matter between Larazi and Kishon, comforting her that it's all in the past. Don't make yourself unhappy. A sudden understanding dawns on Ginger. That's right, it's all in the past now. Then she tells Sarah to notify Larazi that she'll be right there. Sitting in the living room, Larazi drinks tea with displeasure, thinking about the guests at the banquet, mentioning that His Majesty seems to be officially dating Lady Ginger, makes her grit her teeth in anger, but His Majesty's curse should still not be lifted, which means she still has a chance. Only then does she calmly drink her tea again. She just needs to find a way to separate them before their relationship deepens. At this time, Ginger also arrives. She sits on the sofa with a displeased expression and mocks, "Oh my, what honored guest is this? But why you come without even a greeting? We don't exactly have a good relationship, do we?" Larazi automatically ignores Ginger's displeasure and composedly states, "I came because I heard your good news to congratulate you. After all, you and His Majesty are together." Ginger sees through her intentions at a glance and rudely tells her to go back early if there's nothing else. She still has a date with His Majesty this afternoon. Larazi isn't easily provoked by her words, but the next second she's surprised to discover the necklace around Ginger is embedded with precious gems that are worth a fortune. Ginger notices her gaze and proudly shows off the necklace. "This is a gift His Majesty gave me when he confessed not long ago. It's a one-of-a-kind necklace specially made for me." She takes pleasure in seeing Larazi's composure crack. She can finally make Larazi taste what it's like to be the loser. She's held this grudge for 10 years. She can finally let out this breath properly. "You must be very happy, Ginger, but how long can this kind of love last?" Ginger is stunned by her words. Larazi looks at her confidently. "Think about those men we've encountered. They all act like they're devoted, but changing their hearts is just a matter of an instant." She puts on a fake smile and asks Ginger, "Will His Majesty really be the exception?" Ginger glares at her, then also snorts coldly, not to be outdone, asking Larazi if she hit her sore spot. Larazi pretends to look hurt. "I've been worried about you all along, that's why I came to remind you. What if His Majesty accidentally gets stolen away? That would be a real big problem. That's all the advice I have for you. I'm leaving now." Ginger angrily stares at her departing figure. She lost this round again. The more she thinks about it, the angrier she gets. She eats cake in big bites while thinking about how to suppress Larazi's arrogance. Suddenly she remembers that His Majesty's birthday is coming up. So what gift should she give? An idea suddenly strikes her. A few days later, Ginger happily comes to see Izana. After arriving at the palace, she encounters Larazi. Her good mood is ruined. Larazi curiously asks what she's holding in her hands. Ginger shyly states this is the soup she made by hand with full love. Larazi sees through her showing off at a glance and mocks that she knows it's ginger flavored without even looking. Although Ginger is annoyed, she's helpless that what she said is true. She's been working hard practicing cooking lately. By His Majesty's birthday, she'll definitely be able to make delicious food that everyone praises. Larazi beside her can't stand watching her like this. Only then does Ginger realize she's been talking to her for quite a while without knowing it. She quickly pulls away from Larazi. Larazi looks at her thoughtfully. Izana looks at the dish Ginger specially made for him and breaks out in cold sweat. Ginger looks at him expectantly. "Your Majesty, your birthday is coming soon. I'm preparing to practice cooking hard so I can prepare a delicious birthday gift for you. But Your Majesty, I needs to participate in this process with me." Izana shows a horrified expression, because it means he has to taste the food made by her every day until his birthday. Ginger covers his mouth to prevent his refusal. "You can't refuse. I'll bring the food to find you." The love in her eyes makes Izana can't help but smile. "Well, I'll look forward to the day you succeed." At this time, Larazi is lost in her own thoughts. Soon a maid knocks and enters, saying she has procured the item she requested, only to see a transparent bottle containing blue potion. The maid tells her, "If minute quantities are ingested, there will be no signs of poisoning, as it progresses slowly over time. Once a certain quantity has been ingested, it will cause a person to lose consciousness and collapse." She asks the maid if she contacted the maid that they undercovered in Ginger's mansion. The maid says that the undercover maid is called Dorothy, and she's already established a good relationship with Lady Ginger's personal maid. Only then does Larazi show a satisfied smile. She She takes out her necklace and gives it to the maid. She tells the maid to give it to Dorothy, and she needs Dorothy to sew this necklace into the dress Ginger will be wearing in Izana's birthday ball. The maid hesitates. Larazi urges her to leave now. The maid worriedly asks what to do if His Majesty consumes a lethal dose. Larazi tells her not to worry and says this poison won't affect his life. It's just an anesthetic that will paralyze His Majesty and give him high fevers for a few days. Moreover, Larazi is certain that His Majesty won't be eating any more of Ginger's cooking. Ginger, your future will be more miserable than in the novel. From now on, I'm going to take action. Meanwhile, Ginger is on the verge of collapse because everything she cooks has a ginger taste. But she's using the same ingredients as everyone else. She doesn't understand where the problem lies. Sarah accompanies her in the kitchen for taste testing, and she has already eaten until she's numb. Her tongue has lost all sense of taste. Ginger suspects her hands are truly cursed. She feels completely dejected. After Sarah exits the kitchen, she sighs worriedly. Dorothy intimately puts her arm around Sarah's shoulder and pretends to care, asking what's wrong. Sarah says with a worried expression, "The young lady wants to make delicious food as a birthday gift for His Majesty, but there's no progress at all now. She's been staying up for several days and nights, and even though her hands are injured from practice, she keeps practicing. But everything she makes tastes like ginger." Dorothy feels she's found an opportunity. She takes out that poison and hands it to Sarah. This is a very rare and famous spice. Just one drop can get rid of any bad taste in your food, so a drop of this will get rid of that ginger taste. Sarah uncertainly asks Dorothy if she really plans to give something so precious to her. Dorothy tells Sarah of course, after all, she's her best friend. Sarah gratefully accepts it without knowing the truth. She suddenly notices Dorothy is holding Lady Ginger's dress, and it seems to be what Lady Ginger will wear on His Majesty's birthday. Dorothy explains that one of the decorations fell off the dress, so she's going to replace it. The next day, Izana again tastes the dish Ginger made with her own hands. Incredibly, he finds this time the food tastes a bit better, causing Ginger to cheer. Izana is somewhat horrified, suspecting he might have lost his sense of taste from getting used to the taste of ginger. Though the taste only improved slightly, she's already satisfied. Noticing her fingers are injured, Izana looks at her with deep concern. He holds her hand, telling her not to try so hard. Then he gently kisses her hand. "Even if you don't try so hard, I would still be yours." Ginger instantly blushes. Soon, it's Izana's birthday banquet. At the banquet, everyone respectfully offers their blessings to Izana, and he also politely exchanges pleasantries with everyone. After everyone disperses, Ginger quietly tugs at his sleeve. She softly tells him to follow her. She has something to show him. She mysteriously leads him into a room. Surprise! Happy birthday! Lakashan in the room also starts to wish Izana a happy birthday. Knowing this is the surprise they prepared, Izana laughs happily. This is the first time he's celebrated his birthday so joyfully. Ginger tells him to taste the cake she made quickly. She scoops up a spoonful, planning to feed him personally. However, Izana shows a puzzled expression. Logically, in this moment of anticipation and excitement, she should have many thoughts in her mind, but he can't read her thoughts at all now. Though he finds it strange, he still cooperatively opens his mouth. Suddenly a voice stops them. Larazi is standing at the door, her face serious as she tells Izana not to eat the cake Ginger made. Ginger looks displeasedly at Larazi, who came to cause trouble. Knowing that Izana can read thoughts, Larazi directly tells him in her mind that Ginger poisoned his food, and the toxin will gradually accumulate and then take effect. She tells him it was Ginger who instructed the maid to secretly poison the food. Izana only finds her obvious attempt to sow discord laughable. But the next second, he suddenly sees from her eyes the scene of Sarah poisoning the food. Larazi provokes again. "You might not believe that someone you love deeply would do such a thing, but she and Lala have always been so intimate. They even hugged together before. Have you forgotten?" Just then, Laikishan happens to pull Ginger aside and whispers if she's overcome her ginger-scented curse. Ginger nods seriously, telling him to rest assured. Regarding Larazi attempting to stir up trouble, Izana doesn't take the bait at all because he trusts Ginger and Lakashan completely. He bluntly warns that Larazi's provocation is crossing the line. Only then does Ginger realize Larazi is provoking Izana, and she bares her teeth and snaps, warning Larazi to leave quickly. Seeing that Izana is about to eat the cake, Larazi loses composure and shouts no. She quickly tells him in her mind that if he eats that cake, the accumulated toxicity will take effect and spread throughout his body. "Do you trust her so much that you'd bet your life on it?" Izana stops because he can tell Larazi isn't lying through reading her thoughts. Moreover, at this very moment he can't read Ginger's thoughts. He looks at Ginger, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes. Suddenly he notices Ginger's hands injured from practicing cooking, and remembers scenes of her expressing her love to him every day. His gaze becomes firm, because he can feel that Ginger's feelings for him are genuine, so he finds it hard to believe Ginger would poison food meant for him. It must be a trick Larazi set up to drive a wedge between him and Ginger. Though he doesn't know her motive for doing this, he wants to prove he trusts Ginger this time. Even without reading her thoughts, he believes in her. He then eats the cake without hesitation. Ginger eagerly asks him how it tastes. With a hint of affection in his voice, he tells her it's quite good overall. She finally feels relieved. It seems her hard practice was effective after all. Izana takes her hand and gently tells her not to injure her hands making these food anymore. "Just having you by my side is enough for me." Ginger looks back at him with emotion. Not far away, Larazi is about to explode with rage. For some reason, Lucky Shan inexplicably feels the atmosphere is very strange. The next second, Izana loses loses consciousness and collapses to the ground. Lucky-chan hurriedly steps forward to check and confirms His Majesty has been poisoned. Ginger can't believe it, her heart full of panic, not understanding why Izana would be poisoned. At this moment, Larazi points the finger at her. Ginger, after just a few days, your acting skills have improved again. I heard everything. You instructed your maid to poison His Majesty's food. How could you do such a thing? Upon hearing this, Ginger immediately guesses that all of this was done by Larazi. She asks Larazi why she would do this, but all her food was made at home, so Larazi couldn't have tampered with it. Larazi still pretends to be innocent, saying she doesn't understand what Ginger is talking about. Thinking that Izana's life and death are still uncertain, Ginger is so angry she wants to tear Larazi apart on the spot. Lakishan continuously uses magic to detoxify Izana. He comforts Ginger not to worry too much, as he's learned detoxification magic. Ginger is full of self-blame. It's all because of her. If she hadn't insisted on having Izana eat the cake she made, he wouldn't have gotten into trouble. She is fully aware Larazi hates her, but even now she can't believe she would do something this vile. If this continues, the ending of her and Izana being together might be even worse than the ending in the book. It's all because she coveted someone she shouldn't have desired that this situation occurred. She tightly grips Izana's hand. It's all her fault that Izana, who had just decided to trust others again, suffered such harm. Her heart aches beyond measure. Your Majesty, please open your eyes. Suddenly, she remembers. His Majesty at that time seemed to already know there was poison with the cake, but he still ate it without hesitation. And all of this was because he trusted her. Ginger coldly asks Larazi if she's happy now. Larazi puzzledly asks what she means. Ginger raises her head and glares at her angrily. You always provoke others' relationships and feel proud about it. You enjoy it, don't you? But this time you'll regret underestimating the trust between us. I'll make you regret it. Tears flow down her cheeks and slowly fall onto Izana's eyes. In an instant, light suddenly flickers around him. Ginger and Lekishan look at this scene with surprise and concern. After the light fades, Izana slowly opens his eyes and sits up, puzzledly asking why he's on the ground. Ginger tells him he fainted after eating the cake just now. He jokingly asks if she put red wine in the cake. She's speechless that he still has the mood to joke at this time, but he's fine. That's truly a relief. She can't stop the tears from flowing. Izana pulls her into his arms and comforts her that he is fine. Larazi watches this scene, unable to hide her displeasure. She asks Lekishan if the light just now was magic he cast. Lekishan denies it. He's also puzzled about what the light was. Suddenly, Ginger's dress hem emits dazzling light. She picks it up to look and is surprised to discover it's actually Larazi's necklace. A black shadow floats out. It's Gazuit. Larazi is stunned, wondering how grandfather could be here. Congratulations, Your Majesty. The curse that has troubled you for so long has been lifted. Izana finds it incredible that the curse was lifted so easily. He suddenly turns to look at Ginger, who is angrily throwing away Larazi's necklace, cupping her face. Izana gazes for a long time. Then he joyfully tells Ginger that he can't read any thoughts now. Lucky-chan is also genuinely happy for him, and he understands that the light just now was because the curse was lifted. But he's puzzled about how exactly this curse was lifted. He looks toward his master. Gazuit continues praising Izana for being truly strong, just like his Uncle Hendrik. Izana puzzledly asks Gazuit why Uncle Hendrik chose to commit suicide back then. Even knowing the wine was poisoned, he had the ability to prevent his death. Gazuit tells them with a pained expression that it was because Hendrik wasn't fated to live a long life. He was weak from birth, and using magic further drained his energy. But even knowing he wouldn't live long, he never gave up practicing magic. He wholeheartedly wanted to help his brother contribute to the empire, and he truly followed his brother who saw him as an enemy, even though he clearly knew his existence was a threat to his brother. So in the end, he chose to accept the poisoned wine his brother handed him. Gazuit accuses Emperor Astor of showing only coldness toward Hendrik's sincerity and sacrifice. But Your Majesty, your fate is different from Hendrik's. Even knowing the food was poisoned, you still trusted Lady Ginger. It was precisely because you completely entrusted your trust that you successfully lifted the curse. Ginger and Izana turn to look at each other silently for a moment. She then hurriedly explains to Izana that she really didn't poison anything. Izana says he already knows who did the poisoning. He turns to look at Larazi. Now I'm giving you a chance to explain, Lady Larazi. Larazi's face is covered with nervous sweat as she stubbornly says she doesn't understand what he's talking about. Izana stares at her coldly. Did you think you could perfectly deceive everyone? At first I almost believed your thoughts and expressions were real, but just as I was about to eat the cake, I noticed your eyes. Perhaps because you panicked. You unconsciously thought of the maid who was the real mastermind. You probably didn't expect that after hearing your words I would still decide to eat the cake. Seeing herself exposed, Larazi is very unwilling. Knowing the truth of everything, Ginger angrily asks him why he ate that cake knowing it was poisoned. If it weren't for Lakishan knowing detoxification magic, something terrible could have happened. Feeling her concern, Izana explains that ever since he heard Gazuit mention true trust, he thought for a long time about what true trust really really is. Because he can read others' thoughts, he always can't help but doubt others, so he reads their thoughts first. Over time, it became his habit. Clearly, he knows this is his curse, but he unconsciously keeps using it. So this time I decided not to use my ability and chose to believe in you. My trust in you isn't a fragile single-log bridge, but a solid, sturdy road. He approaches Ginger with a smile. I said before, my first trust will be yours. Thank you, Ginger. I love you forever. Then he plants a kiss on her forehead, and Ginger closes her eyes contentedly and happily. Not far away, Lekashan looks at them with relief, thinking that the ending finally developed according to what Lady Ginger wrote. They like and trust each other so much, he probably doesn't have a chance anymore. He sincerely wishes in his heart that they must live happily together. While Larazi angrily clutches her dress, unable to believe that His Majesty lifted the curse just by trusting Ginger, and all her efforts end up paving the way for Ginger's success. At this moment, Gizuit calls to her, Larazi, I left a wisp of my soul in your necklace back then. She remembers when Izana put on the necklace and heard grandfather's voice. She displeasedly questions why grandfather didn't directly tell her how to lift the curse. In that case, she could have won over His Majesty. Gizuit putting a wisp of his soul in the necklace aims to make up for the mistake he made, so his voice could only be heard by His Majesty who bore the curse. His intention was to help His Majesty lift the curse, which is why he left the necklace, but he didn't expect his well-behaved granddaughter would do such a foolish thing. Larazi trembles with rage. She's always felt she was the protagonist, so even seeing herself as the female lead in a novel that predicted the future didn't surprise her. But now you're telling me the protagonist is Ginger? Does she deserve it? She should be the vicious supporting character who becomes cannon fodder. Hearing this, Ginger is furious, and Izana immediately protects Ginger, coldly warning Larazi not to be so disrespectful to Ginger again. Larazi desperately hopes to return to the novel's ending. She cries to Izana, Your Majesty, I also truly love you. I just want to return to your side. That was originally my position. A hand pats her shoulder with comforting intent. It's grandfather. He comforts her that if she and His Majesty truly formed a marriage bond, she might really lose her life like in the novel's ending. He doesn't want to see her lose her life for honor and authority. You must pay the price for your crimes. From now on, you must give up greed and live a new and stable life. This is my final expectation for you. Larazi just hangs her head without answering. Gezuit turns to look at Izana. He once again sincerely apologizes to Izana for cursing him. Having heard the whole story, Izana understands his difficulties. Though he still can't immediately forgive Gezuit, he still feels fortunate. Ginger can't understand how he feels fortunate despite being cursed, because if he had grown up beside his suspicious father, he might have become like his father, and wouldn't understand the meaning of truly trusting someone. Though the curse made him spend a lonely and difficult time, he ultimately gained something, and someone more precious. Gesuit looks at Izana with relief. Your Majesty, you are truly amazing. After experiencing such difficult years, you can still open your heart. You will definitely become a wise emperor in the future. He turns to look at Lakashan, who has borne too much burden because of this curse. He praises Lakashan with pride for being a more talented and gifted magician than he imagined. He's proud of him. But Hamel, I hope you can let go of all burdens from now on, and start living for your own sake now instead of for sake of others. I hope you can be happy. I will pray for you in heaven. Lakishan's eyes glisten with tears as he chokes out. Thank you, Master. May you rest in peace. Gezuit says it's time for him to leave. I bid you all farewell. As he disappears, the ruby necklace also shatters. Afterward, Izana orders the knights to arrest Larazi and throw her in jail. Larazi doesn't cry or make a fuss anymore, and obediently leaves with the knights. Ginger thought she would feel very satisfied, but why does her heart feel? Suddenly, she loses her balance and falls to the ground. Izana hurriedly asks about her condition. She explains she just thought about how everything was over and suddenly felt weak. She didn't expect so many things to happen in such a short time. It seems like not long ago, she accidentally saw a book very similar to reality. At first, out of competitive desire, she just wanted to change the story's ending. As the vicious supporting character in the novel, she unknowingly changed Larazi's fate and finally lifted His Majesty's curse. Thinking of this, she can't help but feel proud. She's probably the first villainous supporting character to achieve a happy ending. Izana leans close to her and smiles. Our story is just beginning now. Looking at his face so close to hers, Ginger really wants to kiss him hard. Izana is startled stiff by her expression. Ginger snap. You had a perverted thought just now, didn't you? Ginger is shocked to hear this. She stiffly asks if he's hearing her thoughts again. Izana laughs at her reaction, saying that now he can guess her thoughts just by looking at her expression. Besides, I'm thinking about the same thing as you. Lekashan nearby coughs awkwardly to hide his embarrassment. They've forgotten about him again. Since they can't bear to part, he'll tactfully leave as the third wheel. He walks outside the palace, remembering his master's final words. His parents died early, so he was taken in by his master when very young. Due to various reasons, he's always lived busily, and until now hasn't had a moment of living for himself. Though recently he belatedly found what he wanted for the first time. That happiness didn't belong to him. While it's not too late, he wants to work hard to find the life he truly wants, as his master said. He looks up toward the distance, his eyes full of relief and anticipation. Master, I will travel to find my own happiness. Perhaps during this journey, I'll find the life I want. A week later, Larazi also faces her trial. She poisoned the royal family's food and framed others. This is a grave crime that could destroy the entire Atlanta clan. Marquise Atlanta kneels beside her, continuously begging Izana for mercy. After all, according to subsequent investigations, investigation. The poison wasn't lethal, and all of this was because Larazi's momentary greed led her to make this mistake. Larazi has become extremely dejected during this time. Ginger in the crowd, watching her, feels somewhat mixed emotions. She doesn't understand why Larazi would go to such lengths just to beat her. She thinks perhaps this is the outcome brought by endless desire. Actually, when she first met Larazi, Ginger thought they would become very good friends, but somehow they ended up like this. Larazi suddenly turns around and stares at her viciously. Ginger is startled and shivers at her gaze. Izana also announces Larazi's punishment at this moment. Larazi will be permanently exiled from the kingdom, forbidden from setting foot on national soil for the rest of her life. Marquise Atlanta is grateful to tears for this result. Larazi looks completely unwilling. The next day at dawn, Larazi is miserably exiled. The incident was big enough to implicate the entire clan, but as Marquise Atlanta said, it wasn't deadly poison. Moreover, this sudden incident actually solved Izana's curse, so Izana gave her lenient treatment. A month later, Ginger hums a song and happily drinks tea. Izana beside her curiously asks what she's thinking about that makes her so happy. She cheerfully says that no one comes to cause trouble anymore. This kind of life is so wonderful. Moreover, she no longer has to feel sad or worried about Larazi. Izana looks up toward the window, unable to help but sigh that Lucky Sean has also been gone for a month. Ginger also sighs, yes, I wonder where he is and what he's doing now. A month ago, after dealing with Larazi's matter, Lucky Sean requested to resign, but he didn't expect their reaction to be so strong, especially Izana, who excitedly questioned why Lucky Sean wanted to leave. Didn't you hear what I said in front of Jesuit? Ginger is certainly precious, but you're equally precious to me. Though Izana doesn't often express his feelings, things had come to this point, so he somewhat embarrassedly told Lakashan his true feelings. If you're willing, I hope you can always stay by my side and assist me. Lakashan was indeed moved by his words, so he settled for the next best thing, and said he wanted a long vacation. He took out a handkerchief, and put on a very sad act, I want to go out and travel, to heal my broken heart from unrequited love. Seeing their speechless expressions, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Alright, I'm joking. It's just that last time my vacation was interrupted when I was called back, and I felt it was such a pity, so this time I want to properly enjoy my vacation. I hope you'll allow it. Izana turns to ask Ginger what she thinks. Ginger of course happily agrees, telling Lakishan to do whatever he wants and go enjoy everything to the fullest. Lakishan smiles and thanks her. Ginger sincerely hopes Lala will encounter his own happiness during his journey. Izana finally agrees to his vacation request. He seriously pats Lakishan, but you must go and come back quickly. Without you, I'm really not used to it. Lakishan promises he'll return as soon as possible. The energetic Ginger tells them to extend their hands like her. Though Izana and Lakishan are puzzled, they cooperatively extend their hands. As their fists bump together, Ginger beams and shouts loudly, "May our friendship last forever!" Remembering up to this point, Ginger smiles and looks toward the distance, thinking Lala seems to have no intention of returning. He must be properly enjoying his travels. Izana jealously says he doesn't like that expression of hers. He tries to suppress his jealousy and asks with feigned composure, "With Lala not here, do you feel empty?" Ginger blinks innocently. Finally, she stares at him excitedly. "Oh my god, your majesty, are you still jealous even now?" He shyly turns away and explains, "I can't read your thoughts now, so how would I know if you're thinking about me all day?" Ginger feels like she's about to faint from how cute Izana is being. She hugs him and keeps telling him how much she loves him. Izana listens with a red face, but still puts on an act of being inconsolable. Ginger suddenly sniffs with her nose while in his arms. He asks shyly and uncomfortably what she's doing. "Is there some smell on me?" Ginger smiles and hugs him tighter. "I'm expressing possessiveness. Only I can do it." The tenderness in Izana's eyes spreads in circles. "Then show me more of your possessiveness. I really like this feeling." Ginger takes the initiative to place a kiss on his lips. Izana looks at her with loving eyes. "Ginger, I love you, please stay by my side forever." She promises him, "I will always be with you." She gently holds his hand and quietly says to him in her heart, "I love you too. This is the one truth I wish you could read from my mind." A few days later, Ginger wears a pink dress, lifts her skirt, and smilingly asks Sarah, "How do I look?" Sarah praises her with an intoxicated expression, saying she looks absolutely beautiful. Her praise makes Ginger smile so widely that she can't close her mouth. She turns in front of the mirror with a satisfied expression on her face, and then she confidently sets off for the banquet. Today her family is hosting a banquet. His Majesty will also come. Although the entire empire has already spread news about her and His Majesty, this is their first time attending together publicly. Seeing her arrival, the ladies attending the banquet all greet her friendly. Ginger also politely greets each of them. They excitedly ask her if His Majesty is also coming today. When did she and His Majesty start dating? When do they plan to get engaged? And how many children do they want to have in the future? Their questions makes Ginger embarrassed. She says she hasn't thought about those aspects. Seeing her in trouble, her mother quickly comes to her rescue, inviting those ladies to go to the banquet hall for some pastries. The ladies who don't get answers change their expressions and deliberately discuss in front of Ginger, "We thought you and His Majesty were about to get married. It turned out that we got excited for nothing." Watching the departing ladies, Ginger can't help but make a face, complaining that they're really a bunch of busybodies. However, she does care about not their words. She and Izana have been together for 2 months now. During this time, their relationship has become more intimate, and they understand each other better, although she's very happy now. But what if Izana never planned a future with her? What if this is just a game to him? What should she do? The thought makes her chest tighten. Honestly, she sometimes feels uneasy. Thinking of this, she turns to ask her mother if His Majesty hasn't arrived yet. Her mother's eyes dart around as she stammers that he'll probably arrive a bit later. Ginger sighs disappointedly, guessing he must be too busy to come. But no matter what, today's banquet is their first appearance as lovers. Suddenly, the lights in the room go out. She looks up in confusion. At this moment, a spotlight shines on her. She's confused, not understanding what's happening. A band suddenly starts playing music in the room. The lights also come on. Izana appears before her wearing formal attire, holding a bouquet of red roses. The moment she sees him, Ginger freezes in place, excited yet unable to believe it. He strides toward her. Coming to her side, he quietly explains that he actually started planning this long ago, but really hasn't had time recently. Then he takes a small step back and says, in front of everyone, "I have something I want to tell you in front of everyone." Suddenly, he kneels on one knee. "Ginger, you are the protagonist of my world. So, will you marry me?" Ginger looks at him with emotion. Then she unhesitatingly extends her hand to him. Accompanied by an "I do," the surrounding guests all applaud and congratulate them, offering their blessings. Izana hugs her and jokes, "So now there should be rumors that I love you more, right? But that's not a rumor, it's the truth." Then he places a kiss on her lips. After the kiss, Ginger says she also has something to tell him. "Your Majesty, in my world, you've been the most important for a long time." Izana freezes for a moment, then smiles slightly. "Thank you." He gently pulls Ginger into his arms again. Ginger lifts her smile, feeling she's never been happier than right now, and prays in her heart that this happiness can last forever. After the banquet ends, they stand on the terrace resting. Ginger shyly fidgets with her hands, asking him to stay tonight, because she's still savoring that kiss just now. Seeing her thoughts so obvious, Izana can't help but laugh. He amusingly pokes her forehead, asking if she's thinking about something perverting again. He doesn't need to read her thoughts. Just looking at her expression, he can guess she's up to no good. "Since we're engaged anyway, I won't deny it." Izana teases her, asking if she's admitting to thinking about something perverting, having her thoughts exposed. Ginger stiffens for a moment, then seriously states that she's only like this with him. Izana angrily declares, "That's natural. If you acted like that in front of others, I'd never forgive you." He huffily turns away, as if already imagining Ginger acting that way in front of others. Ginger is almost fainted by his adorable jealous expression. To celebrate the proposal, Izana suggests they have a drink to celebrate. Ginger stares at him dumbfounded. After all, his alcohol tolerance is so low he gets drunk from just a tiny bit. Even on the day they celebrated lifting the curse, he drank fruit juice. Izana embarrassedly insists he can handle one drink now. Ginger looks at him with doubtful eyes. He confidently states that today he'll show her his drinking capacity. As a result, he takes a glass of wine and stares at it for ages without any intention of drinking. Ginger speechlessly props her face and asks how long he plans to glare at that wine. Izana maintains a serious expression, still staring intently at the wine in his hand. "Let me mentally prepare myself." She speechlessly spreads her hands and tells him to go ahead and drink. "Your Majesty, even if you get drunk, I won't do anything, so don't worry." However, she secretly adds in her heart, "But if you become as cute as before when drunk, I can't guarantee I won't kiss you." She suppresses her upturning lips. This isn't her fault, it's all because he's too cute. In the end, Izana still puts down the wine glass, because he senses a very dangerous aura. Having her thoughts read, Ginger spits out her wine. Izana continues his act, wailing that his curse still hasn't been lifted, making Ginger embarrassed and annoyed. Seeing this, he stops joking and teases her about why she's being so fierce. Didn't she admit to thinking embarrassing things herself? Ginger dissatisfiedly asks if he really lifted the curse or not. Otherwise, why does she always feel like he can see right through her thoughts? Izana pretends to seriously consider why he can still clearly read her thoughts, even though his curse has been lifted. Seeing him always making fun of her, Ginger shows unhappiness in her face. She thought they could have a drink together on this wonderful day. Hearing her say this, Izana also feels he should indeed have a drink to celebrate, so he shows a tragic expression saying he's ready. In the end, they toast to their happy future. After Izana carefully takes a sip, he stops, because he's surprised to discover this wine tastes much better than he imagined. He drinks it all in one go. He even wants to drink several more glasses. His bold drinking style makes Ginger worried. As she expects, her worry is justified. After finishing, Izana becomes tipsy but still stubbornly claims this is nothing for him. Ginger shows a disdainful look. He calls this being able to drink, but Izana is happy today because today is the day she accepted his proposal. By the end, he's already becoming delirious. He drunkenly tugs at his tie, saying it's getting hot. Ginger silently counts down in her heart. 3, 2, 1. As expected, the next second Izana collapses drunk. She helplessly crouches down to look at him. She knew this would happen. With such low alcohol tolerance, how dare he challenge her? Looking at his sleeping face, she gently touches his hair. Izana suddenly grabs her hand and struggles to open his eyes, insisting he's not drunk. Ginger gets startled by him. He seems to just notice the person beside him is her, unconsciously murmuring her name. Ginger finds him so cute, she's desperately wanting to pinch his face right now. She tries to wake him up and help him to bed, but he's really too drunk. No matter how much she moves him, he doesn't wake up. Finally, he loses his balance and falls onto her. The next day, Ginger is in a wonderful mood because she gets to see Izana first thing in the morning. Izana feels his scalp tingle from her staring and asks what she's thinking. Ginger happily hums a tune before answering, "I'm just thinking, after we get married, will it be like this every day?" Izana leans close to ask when would be a good time to hold their wedding ceremony. Suddenly hearing him mention the wedding ceremony, Ginger hasn't quite processed it yet. Then she puts on a serious face and jokes tomorrow. Izana also cooperatively nods seriously. Fine, then let's hold it tomorrow immediately. The next second they both can't help but burst into laughter. Although holding their wedding tomorrow isn't quite possible, at this moment they're both basking in happiness because they share the same feelings. Soon, Izana calls in designers to custom make their wedding attire. Ginger can't help but marvel that this is truly a royal wedding. Even the workshop that nobles have to book and wait in line for prioritizes making time to come to the palace to serve the royal family. The designer brings out a catalog for Ginger to choose dress styles. Ginger and Izana seriously look through it together. Izana suddenly points to a yellow dress and asks Ginger how this one looks. Ginger thought he felt this dress would suit her well, but he actually thinks the yellow color is just right for a Ginger snap. Ginger freezes. She dissatisfiedly glares at Izana, telling him to choose seriously. The designer nearby is surprised yet enviously applauds. "Oh my, is Ginger Snap His Majesty's nickname for Lady Ginger? It's so nice to see how close you two are with one another. You make such a lovely couple." Izana happily nods repeatedly. While Ginger despairs, she's bound to Ginger Snap for life. She pokes his arm, quietly asking him to quickly use the nickname they agreed on. This is a nickname she pestered him about all morning before he finally agreed to. Izana asks somewhat reluctantly if he has to say it now. She pouts and acts cute toward him. Izana has no choice but to reluctantly speak. In fact, she has another nickname. "I call her my lovely little lamb." But unexpectedly, the designer looks more excited and amazed, praising His Majesty so romantic. Izana asks Ginger in a low voice if she's satisfied now. Ginger squints her eyes and smiles so widely she can't close her mouth. Seeing her so happy, Izana calmly delivers sweet words, continuing to praise her as very cute and beautiful, like a fairy from deep in the forest, always captivating and impossible to look away from. The surrounding maids and designer all become dumbfounded upon hearing this. Ginger shamefully lowers her head, telling him to stop talking. She originally just wanted to tease him a bit. Now she's the one getting flustered instead. But she's really so delighted. She turns away, trying hard to suppress her upturning lips. Izana beside her looks at her lovingly. Finally finishing choosing the wedding dress, Ginger tiredly collapses on the sofa saying she's exhausted. Izana teases her about saying that, but she was quite enthusiastic when choosing. Ginger dissatisfiedly retorts that this is a once-in-a-lifetime wedding dress. Ginger suddenly teases him about where he learned those sweet words just now, and says she wants to hear more. Izana freezes. He really can't make up anymore. But thinking of her, somehow he feels very warm and happy. His world was originally a wasteland. In that place there was nothing. No sunshine, no water, no wind. Only endless loneliness and desolation. He thought he'd have to stay there his whole life. But suddenly one day, a beam of light shone in. It grew brighter and brighter, cracking the walls that imprisoned him. Izana turns to look at Ginger tenderly. "From then on, this beam of light led me out of my world. Later, I discovered this beam of light was you. Ginger, thank you for leading me out and letting me see this outside world." Ginger is moved to tears, fighting back the tears about to fall. She throws herself into his arms. Finally, they snuggle together. Ginger praises him that his sweet words this time have reached novel writing level. But Izana seriously says he's actually considering writing novels. "The novel I write will be called Ginger or Ginger Snap. That's a question, how's that?" Ginger angrily shouts at him. He's back to the topic of Ginger Snap again. Seeing her reaction, Izana smiles even brighter. She pretends to glare at him angrily, but in her heart hopes he can always be this happy and never think of that desolate place again. A few days later, Sarah helps Ginger with her hair, while asking if she wants to get rid of the old clothes in the wardrobe to make some space. Ginger puzzledly asks why. Sarah teasingly tells her to stop pretending not to know. Seeing her confused expression, Sarah is somewhat dumbfounded. "His Majesty goes to the clothing store every day recently. You don't know?" Ginger's face is full of confusion. She really doesn't know about this. Sarah smilingly says she heard from a friend working at a clothing store that His Majesty has been purchasing clothes for a lady. Suddenly realizing she might have exposed His Majesty's surprise for Lady Ginger, she quickly apologizes. Ginger calmly tells Sarah not to worry, but internally she's overjoyed thinking His Majesty is so cute. She quickly changes clothes, planning to go to the palace to see what His Majesty bought. After going out, she sees Lakashan by the carriage. He's here to pick her up for the palace. Ginger happily asks when he returned. Lakashan smilingly replies he came back yesterday afternoon. She carefully examines him and puzzledly asks if he got tanned during his trip. Lakashan embarrassedly touches his head, explaining he went on a desert trip. Although the journey was quite tough, it was a completely new experience for him. Ginger dissatisfiedly huffs, blaming him for not sending any news. She was worried something happened to him, but Lakishan counters, "Lady Ginger, you and His Majesty are so loving and sweet, you should have forgotten about me, right?" Hearing his words, her pupils dilate in shock, thinking he couldn't have used prophecy to see what happened between her and His Majesty again. Lakishan immediately sees through her thoughts, teasing her, "You're definitely thinking right now whether I saw something that happened, right?" Ginger points at him angrily, asking if he inherited His Majesty's curse. Lakishan laughs heartily, saying just by looking at her expression he can guess most of her thoughts. At the end, there's some melancholy in his eyes. His expression makes Ginger burst into worries. Soon they arrive at the palace. Walking behind, Ginger worriedly glances at Lakishan, wondering if he still likes her. Her mind is a mess. She forces herself to clear away the chaotic thoughts and go see His Majesty first. The three of them sit together drinking tea. Izana can't help but reflect that since Lakishan went traveling, they haven't sat down to talk like this for a long time. Ginger also reflects that their gathering to discuss how to lift His Majesty's curse feels like something from long ago. After catching up for a while, Lakishan puts down his teacup and mentions he's already heard about His Majesty and Ginger getting married. He shows a sincere smile blessing them, not expecting him to know so quickly. Ginger feels uneasy, afraid he might be hurt because of her and His Majesty. But Izana calmly sips his tea and teases Lakishan about almost missing their wedding. "If you kept not coming back, we might have just casually gotten married and been done with it." Lakishan dissatisfiedly glares at Izana, "Your Majesty," saying that is quite hurtful. Izana also displeasedly accuses him of having no news for so long. Watching them bicker, Ginger relaxes, finally feeling the reality of Lakishan's return. Seeing them naturally chat about the marriage, she thinks to herself that she was really overthinking earlier. Izana checks the time, reluctantly gets up to go busy with work. Lakishan also gets up preparing to escort Ginger away, but Ginger stops him, shyly saying she still has something to discuss with His Majesty. Lakishan respectfully says he'll wait by the carriage. Izana puzzledly asks what she needs to discuss. Ginger excitedly prepares to search for the dress he sent her. After searching around, she finds nothing, so she subtly asks if he has something to give her. Izana seriously considers for a moment, then he places a kiss on her lips, confusedly asking if this is it. Ginger dissatisfiedly glares at him, feeling like he's teasing her. She tries to continue hinting, "I threw away all my old dresses," but Izana shows no reaction, just casually responding that she must be quite busy then. "What? Is that all he has to say?" She hints again that she doesn't have many dresses left in her wardrobe. Izana suggests they can find time to shop for clothes together next time. Ginger completely loses patience, frantically wondering why he just doesn't understand her hints. Suddenly, she has a bad suspicion. Could those dresses be ones His Majesty bought for another woman? Could Izana be? Izana puzzledly asks what's wrong with her. She disappointedly turns away, saying she wants to leave first. Her sudden change in expression makes Izana concerned. He nervously asks if she's feeling uncomfortable. Ginger has to pretend she's indeed feeling a bit unwell to deflect his inquiry. Then she forces a smile, saying she's fine and will head back first. Izana feels somewhat helpless, but he has a lot of work today. He can only suppress his worry, planning to look for her after finishing work. Ginger walks out of the palace feeling troubled, wondering if she should just ask His Majesty directly. She comforts herself that His Majesty absolutely isn't that kind of person, and she tries to convince herself not to suspect him randomly. But she keeps thinking about Kishon and Larazi. The scene of Kishon betraying her that day is deeply etched in her mind, impossible to forget. She comes to the carriage dejectedly. Lakishan immediately notices her abnormality and asks with concern why she's crying. Only then does Ginger realize she unconsciously started crying. She frantically wipes away her tears, stubbornly claiming sand got in her eyes. Lakishan instantly darkens his expression, with shock and anger flashing in his eyes. "Did His Majesty make you cry?" Ginger holds back her tears, but her voice carries a sob as she denies it. Lakishan strides toward the palace to confront Izana about what happened. Ginger grabs him to stop him, looking at him pleadingly. "I'll tell you, but I hope you can swear that you won't call me a fool." After Lakishan swears, she tells him through tears about Izana possibly giving dresses to other women. Only then does Lakishan understand what happened. Ginger mocks herself for being a fool, not daring to ask a single word in person, only crying behind his back. Lakishan comforts her not to talk about herself like that, as forgetting the pain brought by past events is difficult for anyone. He didn't expect Kishon's shadow to affect her so deeply. Lakishan momentarily feels very dissatisfied with Kishon. Looking at Lakishan, who keeps comforting her, Ginger inexplicably feels guilty. Unknowingly, she has also brought harm to Lakishan. Even though she's also suffering from past pain, she hopes Lakishan can quickly find his true love. She suddenly feels so selfish. Lakishan shares his thoughts. Having spent so long with His Majesty, he believes His Majesty shouldn't be that kind of person. He guesses perhaps His Majesty thinks such things aren't important, so didn't think to tell her. Ginger dejectedly states the evidence she knows. "I heard His Majesty frequently visits dress shops recently, and not just once, so I find it strange." Suddenly she has an inspiration. asking what Izana's schedule is tomorrow. Lucky-chan tells her Izana has a meeting with nobles tomorrow morning, and after lunch will probably go out for 2 hours. She immediately grasps the key point of going out, guessing Izana must be going to the clothing store. She looks at Lucky-chan with fighting spirit. It's time for us to cooperate again. The next afternoon, Ginger and Lucky-chan disguise themselves and stake out the clothing store. Lucky-chan worries they'll be discovered by His Majesty. She calmly tells him to relax on the surface, but internally feels somewhat panicked. She comforts herself that she's just here to confirm, and regardless of the result, she'll sneak away immediately after learning the truth. At this moment, Izana enters the clothing store. Ginger stares at him intently, discovering not only is there no woman, he has no companions at all. Only then does she breathe a sigh of relief, thinking she really was overthinking. The next second, a woman wearing a hat suddenly appears, and Izana is intimately holding her hand. Both Ginger and Lucky-chan freeze simultaneously, looking at this scene in disbelief. Ginger's hand holding the magazine trembles slightly. His Majesty really is secretly giving dresses to another woman behind her back. Momentarily overcome with grief, tears burst forth. Even seeing it with her own eyes, she can't believe this is real. She pulls off her wig and charges forward aggressively to confront them, with Lucky-chan unable to stop her. She loudly calls out to Izana. Izana puzzledly turns around, only then discovering Ginger is also here. Ginger asks with tears and a crying voice, "How can you treat me like this? All this time you've been secretly going in and out of dress shops because of another woman." Izana tries to explain, but she interrupts. "I absolutely didn't want to believe it, but now." At this moment, the woman behind Izana suddenly pulls up her hat. It's actually Ginger's mother. Her mother asks with concern and confusion what happened to her. Ginger stands there stunned. Izana helplessly scratches his head. "Ginger, let's find a quiet place to explain properly." Later they come to a quiet room. Izana explains about the dresses. "As a future son-in-law, I wanted to give mother dresses as a gift. I didn't expect it would cause such a misunderstanding. He originally wanted to keep it low-key, so didn't tell Ginger beforehand. That was indeed his mistake." He looks at Ginger with displeasure, questioning whether she distrusts him this much. Could he really be the type to abandon the woman he loves and cheat? Ginger holds back tears and looks at him pitifully. If she were the one being suspected like this, she'd definitely be angry too. But what if Izana becomes disappointed in her because of this? The more she thinks about it, the sadder she becomes, and tears flow even more. If it can't be salvaged, what should she do? Izana hardens his heart and doesn't comfort her. "Today they must settle this matter of trust. I completely trust you. I trust you enough to lift the curse, but now it's clear that you didn't trust me the same way." Ginger tearfully apologizes to him, explaining that she has been deceived too many times, so she immediately becomes frightened at the slightest sign of trouble. "Although this sounds like I'm making excuses, I was too hasty." She sadly hangs her head and apologizes to Izana again. "No matter what happens, I should trust your Majesty." Hearing her explanation, Izana feels she should recognize her mistake and hesitates whether to continue to pretend to be angry. Ginger sobs and asks him what she should do for him to stop being angry. Izana stares at her dissatisfiedly. "First, promise me that you will absolutely never doubt me again." Ginger immediately raises her hand and loudly swears she absolutely won't, but Izana feels he still needs to properly teach her a lesson for her distrust. The next second, he plants a kiss on her lips. Ginger tort, "I will only love you for the rest of my life, so forget all those painful memories from the past. Otherwise, it won't be this kind of punishment next time. Do you understand?" Ginger shows a pitiful expression and obediently nods. But inside she's thinking, smugly, that she wouldn't mind having as much of this kind of punishment as possible. She quickly tries to clear her head. She can't make His Majesty angry again. She solemnly promises him, "Your Majesty, I remember it. I will never doubt your love for me again." Izana gazes at her tenderly. Since they've settled their matters, they should go out, or her mother will worry. After that, he escorts Ginger and her mother home first, and politely bids them farewell. Behind her mother's back, Ginger secretly makes a heart shape with her hands for him. After getting in the carriage, Izana teases Lucky-chan for even disguising himself to follow him. It seems like his work is pretty leisurely, but what displeases him most is that even Lucky-chan doubted him. Lucky-chan quickly apologizes to him, but he had no choice. After all, Lady Ginger was weeping so bitterly in front of him, he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Izana is stunned to hear that Ginger actually cried over this matter. Lucky-chan reminds him that he shouldn't make Lady Ginger feel uneasy. "Your Majesty, I know your intentions are good, but the truth is Lady Ginger is far more fragile than she lets on." Izana knows Lala is right, but seeing how well Lala understands Ginger still annoys him. Realizing he might have overstepped, Lucky-chan quickly states he has no ulterior motives. He just hopes Lady Ginger can be happy. Izana knows he also genuinely hopes Ginger can be happy and joyful, so he turns his head and says, "You don't need to worry about that. Ginger will definitely be happy with me." Lucky-chan knows this truth better than anyone. He has absolute faith that Izana will deliver on his word, because last night, he saw Izana and Ginger's future. In those glimpses of their happy future, he saw scenes of them being extremely happy together, happier than any scene he had ever seen before. Perhaps at that time, he would also be in love with someone. Lucky-chan shows a genuine smile. "I'm truly happy for you and Lady Ginger, Your Majesty. I give my truest blessings to your union." Feeling his sincerity, Izana smiles and thanks him. At this time, Ginger tells her mother everything about what happened at the clothing store. Her mother can't stop laughing. She then holds her hand and advises that what's the most important between couples is trust. Once she has doubts, she should immediately confess to His Majesty. Ginger feels her mother's care and seriously says she remembers. After that, her mother takes her to the dressing room to show show her the dresses His Majesty sent. Ginger is stunned by this scene. He bought way too much. She even wonders if Izana has brought the entire store back home. Her mother beams with joy. Even without dresses, she's already quite pleased with His Majesty. But this mountain of dresses undeniably wins her over. Seeing her mother happily fussing over the new dresses, Ginger feels somewhat guilty. Since her father's death, she rarely saw her mother buy anything for herself. She's very grateful that Izana also keeps her family in his heart. A few days later, Izana finishes all the work that needs to be handled by next week in advance. Now they can focus wholeheartedly on preparing for this weekend's wedding ceremony. Ginger worries about his health and suggests maybe they shouldn't set such a close date. Hearing her words, Izana stares at her dissatisfiedly. I wish we could get married tomorrow. It seems you don't think the same way. He pretends to show a sad expression. True enough, not long ago you were still doubting my love for you. Ginger tenses up at his words. Seeing she fell for it, Izana smiles and explains he was just joking. Ginger tearfully complains that he shouldn't always make such jokes. She was almost scared to death just now. Izana suddenly whispers in her ear asking what they should name their baby. She frantically pushes him away, stammering, "It's not that fast!" While Izana innocently asks if she doesn't want children. Ginger quickly explains she's not against having children, she's just shy. Sometimes she wonders if marriage is just a dream. How did they suddenly start talking about as distant as children? Izana has already thought of names for their future children. Ginger expectantly asks him what names. Carrot, onion, cabbage? She's instantly speechless. She shouldn't have had any expectations. Always being teased by Izana. She needs to fight back once too. Is it fun always teasing with me like this? Your Majesty, I think you need to be taught a lesson by me. Izana pretends to cower in fear at her seriousness. Ginger proudly thinks her dominance intimidated him. The next second, Izana playfully asks how she plans to teach him a lesson. Hit by his handsome face, she thinks this isn't going the way she planned. He closes his eyes and urges her to hurry up. Ginger sighs inwardly that he's too cunning, so she slowly lowers her head and bites him hard on the mouth. A few days later, on their wedding day, wearing her wedding dress, Ginger feels like she's about to die of nervousness. She used to think the wedding ceremony was just a formality, but now that the day has come, she realizes how nervous she would be. And now she's the empress of this empire. She can't help but doubt whether she can really do well. She really doesn't have confidence. But thinking of Izana, she tries to affirm in her heart that she can definitely do it. Izana enters the room and sees her in her wedding dress, stunned for a moment. He doesn't hold back his praise. Ginger confesses to him that she's a bit anxious. She is about to become an empress, should she act more virtuous. Izana comforts her that she just needs to avoid cursing in public. No one stipulates that an empress must be virtuous. Ginger looks speechless. Are there words of comfort? Izana feels extremely happy at this moment. To be honest, sometimes he also wonders what it would be like now if his curse hadn't been lifted, so he's very grateful she can be by his side now. Hearing this, Ginger is moved. Izana confesses to her again, I will love you until death, even if every ginger snap in the world has been consumed. I will always love you. Ginger was just moved by him, but his latter sentence kills the mood. Soon it's time to enter. Izana extends his hand to her. Shall we go and get married, my beautiful bride? Then they slowly walk into the hall. Celebratory applause rings out around them. Guests offer their blessings one after another. They're finally married! From now on, no matter what difficulties they encounter, they will face them together. Larazi has been exiled for a year now. 6 months ago, she received news of Izana and Ginger's marriage. She's filled with hatred because that should have been her position. And now she's been driven by that brat to live humbly in this godforsaken place. Suddenly, a dark-haired man holding flowers walks in. Lady Larazi, are you staying in your room again today? Larazi looks impatient. She's refused him many times, yet Venom still comes to pester her. Venom dissatisfiedly asks what her reason for rejecting him is. She originally wanted to find some random excuse to brush him off. Suddenly she realizes she can use this opportunity to take advantage of him. After all, he was also her grandfather's disciple, so like Hamel, he must know how to use magic too. She moves closer to Venom and asks if he's really willing to do anything for her. He nods infatuatedly, as long as she's willing to give him a chance. Larazi pretends to look at him shyly. Fine, I'll give you this chance. As long as you can do it, I'll agree to be with you. At this time in the palace, Lucky Shan is assisting the busy Izana. Because of work, Ginger and Izana haven't even gone on their honeymoon after marriage. She's currently staring at them unhappily, making both Izana and Lakishan break out in cold sweat. Izana looks at her apologetically, saying he must finish the work at hand. Ginger forces a smile and tells him not to worry about her. Seeing how busy he is, she can't help but wonder if she should learn something too. But the next second she gives up. She's really not cut out for studying. She'd better not cause trouble and just stay put. So she focuses on admiring Izana. After all, his appearance wearing glasses is absolutely perfect. She can't help but praise him. No wonder the ministers bow to you. Look at you, a truly accomplished leader. Izana blushes at her praise, and she continues with a fangirl expression. Izana shyly covers his face, asking her to stop, while Lakishan beside them shakes his head helplessly. But Ginger grins mischievously, then claims the man she was praising was actually Lakishan. Lakishan feels he has troubles. He turns around uncertainly to look at her, and steals a glance at Izana, who's still covering his face, only to see he's already furious. Still not realizing the seriousness of the situation, Ginger is smugly thinking she finally got to tease Izana Izana once. The next second, Izana's face darkens. Let's have a chat. Ginger immediately panics. The next second, she runs out the door with Izana chasing after her. The world's finally in harmony, with Lala as the sole victim. He helplessly watches them playing around, sighing that they really haven't changed at all. Ginger runs while glaring at Izana behind her, telling him to mind his image. Izana completely ignores his image and sprints after her. Just when she's about to escape, she's caught by Izana, who chased after her. Both are panting from exhaustion. The jealous Izana seriously tells her not to praise other men. Ginger was just joking anyway, so she agrees. Only then does Izana satisfiedly plant a kiss on her lips. Good girl, my sweet little lamb. After the kiss ends, Izana jealously asks who taught her to kiss. Ginger looks up confused, wondering why he's suddenly asking this. He uncomfortably turns away, feeling he's particularly prone to jealousy today. I gave you my first kiss, but yours apparently wasn't for me. But fortunately, you're mine now. Ginger also feels regret. What would have happened if they had met earlier? Lakishan finds himself in a strange place. Everything around is foggy, nothing can be seen. He suddenly hears crying. It's Ginger. He sees her holding Izana and crying uncontrollably. Lakishan wakes up in horror. Only then does he realize the scene was just a dream, but it gives him an ominous feeling. Soon comes the day for the palace banquet. Ginger happily changes into a gorgeous gown. Izana has been very busy lately, and they haven't had a chance to meet, but he promised her that once the banquet ends, he'll cancel all his appointments. She's been waiting for this day for so long. Just then, Izana pushes the door open and sees her evil expression. The air becomes quiet for a moment. Izana senses trouble and fearfully backs out the door. She frantically explains she wasn't thinking of anything, then changes her story to say she was thinking, but not too specifically. Izana is amused by her. At the same time, Lakishan feels uneasy because of that dream. He tells all guards to stay alert and report any suspicious people immediately. He comforts himself that maybe it was just a nightmare. After all, he's never had the experience of predicting the future through dreams, but he still feels vaguely uneasy. Soon, Izana also arrives at the banquet venue with Ginger. Lakishan notes they look exceptionally well matched today. He silently prays in his heart that everything will go smoothly. Suddenly, he notices Venom in the crowd. His eyes are cold like a snake's. Lakishan feels he looks familiar, as if he's seen him somewhere before. Soon, Venom disappears into the crowd. Lakishan thinks he was seeing things. Suddenly, he sees someone casting attack magic in a corner. Lakishan immediately casts magic too, loudly warning Izana to be careful. Izana asks with a smile what's wrong. The two magical forces clash around them. Suddenly, the purple magic takes a turn and heads straight for Ginger. Lakishan is instantly terrified. Izana doesn't hesitate to block in front of her, so the magic attack hits him instead. Izana falls down, and Ginger trembles as she calls his name. Izana, no! After that, Izana falls into a coma. Ginger constantly worries by his side, praying every moment that he'll wake up soon. Seeing Lakishan arrive, she urgently asks if he found out any information. Lakishan nods. The person who hurt His Majesty is named Venom, also a disciple of Gezuit. His magic makes people sleep forever. Lakishan and Venom trained at different times back then. He only briefly met Venom once at their master's funeral. However, he investigated and found Venom should be connected to Lorezi, because Venom happens to live where Lorezi was exiled. They occasionally meet, so Venom probably developed feelings for Lorezi. Ginger asks if Lorezi wanted to harm Izana, but Lakishan denies her guess, pointing out that Lorezi wanted to harm not His Majesty but her. His Majesty blocked the magic attack for her. Learning the truth, Ginger collapses to the floor. She never thought she was the one who harmed Izana. She tries to steady her emotions, because the most important thing now is to find a way to wake Izana up. Lakishan tells her there's one method they might try. She immediately asks excitedly what method. Whatever it is, she'll do it. Even if it means trading her life, she's willing. The method requires someone to enter His Majesty's dream and wake him up, but there's a strict condition. They must wake His Majesty within 3 days of him falling asleep. This method was something he happened to read in a book. Besides this, he can't think of any other way. Ginger sits limply in the chair as if she's lost her soul. Lakishan apologetically tells her he's sorry. He had an ominous dream before the banquet but was careless about it. Saying this, Lakishan sheds tears of sadness and regret. He deeply regrets not staying vigilant, which led to His Majesty getting hurt. Ginger pats his shoulder, telling him not to blame himself. This isn't his fault. To wake Izana as soon as possible, they pull themselves together to discuss strategy. Lakishan can use magic to send someone into dreams, but the person casting the magic can't enter, so the one entering the dream can only be Ginger. To lighten the depressing mood, she playfully winks at Lakishan, signaling him not to worry. This time they will also have a good ending. Lakishan also cooperates by pretending to wipe away non-existent tears, agreeing, at crucial moments, we really have to rely on Lady Ginger. After joking, he seriously reminds her to be careful and not take too long. They agree that within the time limit, regardless of the outcome, Ginger must wake up from the dream, otherwise she might also become trapped in it. Ginger tells him not to worry and promises she'll definitely unfortunately succeed in coming back. After she lies down beside Izana, Lekishan first casts magic on her wrist. Soon, a golden bracelet appears on her wrist. He tells her if she needs anything in the dream, just call his name to the bracelet and he'll appear before her. Ginger curiously asks what their code word is. Lekishan puts on a serious expression and replies, "The ants are about to die," which makes Ginger speechless. It seems like he'll never get over his thing with ants. She turns to look at Izana worriedly, silently determined to wake him from the dream. She tightly grips his hand, silently cheering herself on. Lekishan also casts his magic accordingly. Soon, Ginger enters the dream and suddenly opens her eyes, but she's startled by the face in front of her. She unceremoniously throws a punch. The man covers his face asking what she's doing. Only then does she remember he seems to be her first kiss, back when she was 14, and naive. Out of curiosity, she confessed to the young master of the Count's family. That means she's 14 now, and the man behind her is looking at her angrily. Ginger turns to apologize for just pushing him, and quickly distances herself from any relationship with him. She can't waste time now. She needs to hurry and find Izana first. On the carriage ride home, Ginger sighs. Izana should still be locked in the tower now. She doesn't understand why he would dream of this time period when it was so painful for him, and if he's still in the tower, it would be very difficult for her to get in to find him. Suddenly, she remembers the bracelet Lekishan gave her. It looks like she needs his help to figure out a way now. She says the code to the bracelet. The ants are about to die. She waits a long time but gets no response. She can't help but complain that the bracelet might be broken. She was expecting him to pop out like a little fairy. She says the code to the bracelet again but still gets no reaction. Fine, she'll think of another way after getting home. Suddenly, a voice comes from behind the carriage. "Please wait!" She recognizes Lekishan's voice and excitedly pokes her head out. Looking, she sees it's actually the young version of Lekishan. He seems to be panting from chasing her carriage. Lekishan uncertainly asks if she was calling him. Ginger nods. "That's right, I was calling you, Hamel." Hearing her actually call his real name, Lekishan is stunned. Ginger says it's a long story and asks him to come with her first. After getting home, she tells him everything. Lekishan finds it incredible that this world is just Izana's dream. Lekishan suddenly stands up and asks the question he cares about most. If what you're saying is true, then has His Highness's curse been lifted? Though it seems incredible, he has to believe it. After all, Ginger knows his real name, has the bracelet he made, and knows the code. Learning that Izana's curse has been lifted, Lekishan breathes a sigh of relief. Ginger can see he's always cared deeply about Izana. But regarding her request to enter the tower, Lekishan is hesitant. Ginger urges him that the situation is urgent. She needs to see Izana tomorrow at the latest. But Lekishan looks troubled, because Emperor Astor doesn't allow anyone except servants to enter the tower. Ginger looks at him pleadingly. He can only agree, but she must disguise herself as a maid. Ginger confidently tells him not to worry. Disguising as a maid is her specialty. The next day, she disguises herself as a maid and follows Lekishan to the tower to see Izana. Lekishan suddenly asks if everyone is living happily in the future. A flash of sadness crosses her eyes. Lekishan really hasn't changed at all. He always puts others' happiness first. She puts on a bright smile and tells him not to worry. Everyone is very happy. Unexpectedly, Lekishan asks another question. Does everyone include me too? Ginger falls silent, not hearing her answer. Lekishan also realizes he apparently hasn't found his own happiness in the future. Ginger feels frustrated, but she really can't lie to him. Lekishan tells her not to mind. He's happy the future was changed. For Lady Ginger, this is just a dream, but for him, this is a reality and future he needs to change. She's sad that Lekishan always tries hard to give everyone a happy future while leaving himself out. She can't help but grab his sleeve and sincerely bless him. "Hamel, you can have a brighter future, you must be happy." Lekishan accepts her blessing with a smile. After that, they arrive at the tower. Since Lekishan needs to return to the palace, Ginger can only enter the tower alone. Before leaving, Lekishan sincerely hopes she can wake up Prince Izana from the real world. After entering the tower, Ginger climbs the stairs. Suddenly, she hears Izana's voice. She quickly opens the door and walks in. Izana sees the strange maid who suddenly barged in and darkens his face, asking who she is and why she entered without knocking. He stands up and coldly questions what she wants to do, but Ginger is lost in fangirl mode. She's never seen young Izana before. She really wants to go up and kiss him hard right now. Having reading her thoughts, Izana is scared and takes 2 steps back. He trembles as he points toward the door, ordering her to get out. Ginger tearfully asks Izana to listen to her explanation first. She shyly says she's the exclusive maid assigned to serve him starting today. Izana won't easily believe her words. He asks expressionlessly what her name is. She happily answers immediately, "My name is Ginger." Hearing her name, he can't help but mutter, "Ginger snap." Ginger instantly freezes. Tears flood her eyes. Izana frantically asks what's wrong. She can't stop crying for a moment. Usually when he jokingly calls her Ginger snap, she would retort, but now she misses it terribly. No matter what he calls her, as long as he can wake up quickly, she really misses him so much. Seeing her cry uncontrollably, he frantically comforts her, patting her gently to coax her to stop crying. Ginger cries even harder, thinking he really hasn't changed at all. Though he appears cold on the surface, he's still so warm when comforting people. After she finally stops crying, Izana looks at her suspiciously, because he's never heard of having an exclusive maid. Ginger panics. If they keep staring at each other like this, he'll read her thoughts. Izana's face immediately darkens, asking what her true identity is and why she knows his secret. She immediately closes her eyes, her brain racing to think of what to do. In an instant, she opens her eyes with determination and looks directly at Izana. Maybe it would be easier to tell the truth in her mind, so she simply recalls all their past in her mind for him to see personally. After reading her thoughts, Izana is shocked. He can hardly believe the world he's living in now is just a dream, and that his curse has actually been lifted in the end. Ginger seriously tells him, "It's all true, and you know it too. The thoughts you can read are all real." Izana still thinks such absurd things can't possibly exist. He doesn't understand why she's not afraid of him at all, knowing he has the curse-like ability, and they even got married in the end. Ginger can't help but laugh out loud. This question was also asked by the Izana in the real world. My answer has always remained the same. How could I be afraid? You've always been so good and so radiant. Whether you have that ability or not, I love you as a person. Her straightforward confession makes Izana blush with embarrassment. He coughs unnaturally to hide his shyness, and concludes that what she's trying to say is that they're both in a dream right now, and she has to wake up the other sleeping him, which is why she came to find him. To be honest, he still has many doubts, but he also finds it quite interesting. Seeing an opportunity, Ginger asks excitedly if he agrees to let her stay in the tower. Izana doesn't refuse, but he has one condition: that she has to make him fall in love with her, not the Izana from her memories, but him standing before her now. In the end, Ginger safely gets to stay. In the evening, Izana sits on the sofa reading a book. She also stares at him intently, praising in her heart how truly handsome he is. Feeling uncomfortable under her gaze, Izana asks if she could stop staring at him. Ginger playfully tells him this isn't something she can control. Izana is speechless. He quickly changes the subject, asking what she plans to do to make him fall in love with her. She shyly gives examples, like holding hands, hugging, having a meal, and then sleeping together. Izana panics a bit when he hears the last part. Wait, you want to sleep here? There's only one bed. After all, they're already married in reality, so Ginger isn't shy at all. I just looked at your bed and it's very big. Completely enough for both of us to sleep. Izana didn't expect her to be so shameless, but since he's already agreed to let her stay, he won't kick her out. However, he warns her not to touch him with even a finger, or he'll throw her out. Ginger disappointedly collapses on the sofa and agrees. Her funny reaction makes Izana laugh. Seeing his smile, she misses the real-world Izana even more. Izana reads her thoughts. He reaches out and gently pats her head in a comforting manner. Ginger instinctively calls his name, and Izana looks awkward and unnatural as he says he's not her Izana. Then he shows displeasure. Didn't I tell you? The person you need to win over is me standing before you. Don't look so sad. You look more beautiful when you smile. Ginger immediately gets excited and jumps up from the sofa, asking if he was just confessing to her. Izana awkwardly says he's not that easy to win over. He turns around embarrassedly and says he's going to sleep, and Ginger naturally follows. When it's time to sleep, she's somewhat speechless. He keeps his back turned to her. She's not going to eat him. Does he really need to be so guarded against her? Worried he might catch cold, she reaches out to cover him with the blanket. But as soon as her hand touches the blanket on his side, he calls out her name to stop her. She blurts out, "I'm not Ginger, I'm Ginger Snap." Izana bursts into laughter again. Only then does she realize she made a silly mistake. Izana can't stop laughing. "You're the strangest Ginger Snap I've ever met." Ginger sighs helplessly. Izana still likes to tease her just the same in the dream. Suddenly she notices the ring on the bedside table. Izana tells her this ring was the only gift his father ever gave him when he was little. But now that he's grown up, the ring no longer fits. His expression shows a hint of loneliness as he thinks he wants to force himself to wear it a bit longer, but he's also very clear that he's just forcing himself. Perhaps his father has long forgotten about this ring. Ginger looks at him with heartache, guessing he must really miss his father, yet his father locked him up here. After a moment of silence, Izana puts on a smile again. He's never told anyone about these things before. Is it because you're my wife that I can speak so openly to you? Ginger gets smug. Are you only just realizing now that I'm your wife? Izana looks at her smugness with affection. Her gentle gaze makes Ginger's heart flutter. She screams wildly in her mind, "I like you! I love you! I want to rush over and kiss you like crazy. But if I really kiss you, I'll definitely get kicked out." Her passionate thoughts make Izana blush and even retreat in fear. He turns around but still can't hide his already red face, embarrassedly urging her to hurry up and sleep. Ginger pitifully says she has one request, which is for him to hold hands with her while sleeping. Izana remains silent and doesn't respond. Ginger feels even more wronged. She's gotten used to sleeping together with him before. Izana finally reaches out his hand and warns her again not to touch anywhere else. She nods happily, saying she's decided she definitely won't hug him from behind or touch his chest muscles. The air becomes somewhat quiet for a moment. Izana turns around and says it's cancelled. Ginger tearfully promises again that she absolutely won't touch anywhere else. Only then does he offer his hand to her. But Ginger can't fall asleep no matter what, and can't help stealing glances at him. Her hand unconsciously grips his hand tighter. Actually, Izana isn't asleep either. Feeling the warmth transmitted through their joined hands, he can't help but blush. When they wake up the next day, Ginger discovers Izana is gone. She hurriedly searches everywhere, only to find him sitting in the living room drinking tea with Lucashan. She's somewhat curious why Hamel came so early in the morning. After saying this, she realizes she habitually called him Hummel in front of Izana. She's in big trouble. Lakishan tells her to relax. He was planning to tell Izana everything anyway. Izana calmly drinks his tea. He has already known that Lakishan is Hamil in Ginger's memories. Learning that Izana already knows everything, Lakishan says they must quickly find a way to wake up from the dream. Otherwise, as time goes on, the magic will become harder to break, and eventually the soul of Izana will be forever trapped in the dream. Ginger also instantly becomes fired up with determination. That's right, now isn't the time to relax. They need to hurry and find a solution. She suddenly remembers they haven't had breakfast yet. She immediately goes to the kitchen to prepare her signature sandwiches. She suggests that since the weather is nice today, why don't they eat breakfast outside together? Izana coldly refuses, saying he can't leave the tower. Ginger pitifully begs Izana and Lakishan to agree. They'll just eat breakfast at the tower entrance and won't go too far. Lakishan gives in. After all, this is in a dream. Besides, they might discover some clues. Izana uses a book to hide his expectant face and says, "Fine, whatever. If anything happens, you two have to take responsibility." After leaving the tower, Izana is happier than anyone else. What he saw from the window was nothing but desolate scenery. But he never imagined the outside world would be so fresh and beautiful. Ginger and Lakishan spread a picnic blanket on the grass. After she arranges all the food, she joyfully calls Izana over. She's genuinely happy for Izana from the bottom of her heart. Seeing her radiant smile, Izana can't help but blush. After sitting down, they taste the sandwiches Ginger made. With one bite, they immediately start coughing non-stop from the spiciness. Ginger quickly takes out the red wine she had prepared and gives it to Izana to drink. As expected, after drinking the wine, he dizzily falls over. In fact, she deliberately made him drink wine to fall asleep. She explains to Lakishan that she did this to try waking up the sleeping Izana to see if the real-world Izana would also wake up. Hearing her explanation, Lakishan feels what she says makes sense. But just as she's about to wake Izana up, Emperor Astor suddenly walks over menacingly, angrily asking why Izana left the tower. Ginger immediately spots the panicked maid beside him. She confirms it must have been her who reported them. Lakishan hurriedly tries to wake the sleeping Izana, but drunk people aren't that easy to wake up. Astor is disappointed in Lakishan, blaming him as Izana's aide for indulging him in leaving the tower. Seeing this scene, anger flares up in Ginger's heart. They're just at the entrance. Does he need to be this angry? And Izana's curse is all because of him. Seeing her resentful expression, Astor asks in a deep voice what that look means. Ginger fearlessly retorts, "Prince Izana just came out for a little while to eat breakfast. Your Majesty, don't you think His Highness is pitiful? He just came out to get some fresh air. Is this such a grave mistake?" Astor is quite angered by her. How dare a mere maid talk back to him like this? Ginger continues relentlessly, "Your Majesty, you have no idea how much His Highness cares about you, do you? You've gone too far." She feels indignant for Izana because he's so cold, yet Izana misses him so much that he insists on keeping that ill-fitting ring. And even if he's afraid of Izana's ability of reading thoughts, he can't treat his own son like this. Astor furiously orders the guards to take Ginger away, claiming he'll interrogate her personally. Only then does Ginger panic. Although she's in a dream now, she's not sure if dying in the dream means she won't wake up. Suddenly, the drowsy Izana sits up and shields her. "Your Majesty, you cannot take her away." Astor wants to scold Izana, but on the other hand, he is afraid of having his thoughts read. Izana explains Ginger is his personal maid. Even His Majesty cannot take her away at will. In the end, he lowers his head in compromise. "I will never leave the tower carelessly again, so please go back." Astor doesn't dare look directly into his eyes. He averts his gaze and turns to leave, but his retreating figure looks more like he's fleeing. Ginger sadly thinks, seeing such a father every time must really hurt Izana's heart. Suddenly, with a thud, the still unsobered Izana collapses again. Lakishan and Ginger struggle to carry him back inside. Ginger is puzzled how the unconscious Izana suddenly woke up. Lakishan feels Izana must have been triggered by crisis awareness in the emergency situation because he didn't want Lady Ginger to be taken away. Ginger feels somewhat guilty for a moment. She shouldn't have insisted on going out for a picnic. She asks Lakishan why he came to serve Izana. Is it just to break the curse? Lakishan is silent for a while before explaining. He initially came to atone because his master cursed Izana, so he wanted to try to make it up to him. But after spending time with Izana, he began to like him as a person. Ginger is shocked. Obviously, she misunderstood his kind of liking. "I suspected before that the way you look at Izana wasn't simple. Even if my rival is you, I will never give up." Lakishan's face turns red as he says she misunderstood. He embarrassedly covers his face, explaining that the liking he mentioned isn't romantic love. Ginger looks at him suspiciously, and Lakishan tearfully swears everything he said is true. He's been won over by Izana's charisma, an abandoned prince whose father doesn't care about him, but even under such harsh circumstances, seeing him grow up to be so upright, Lakishan is truly happy. He embarrassedly touches his head. If he had to define this feeling, it would probably be brotherly affection because he also grew up alone after his parents died early. Ginger looks at Lakishan with sympathy. He and Izana both have pitiful backgrounds. She asks Lakishan how long he plans to stay by Izana's side. After thinking for a while, Lakishan uncertainly answers, "Probably until I start disliking His Highness." Ginger teases him that it looks like he's signing a lifetime contract. Hearing this, he's shocked to ask what she means. Ginger explains with a smile, "It means you'll never have a time when you dislike His Highness. In my world, you also especially like Izana." Seeing her brilliant smile, Lakishan suddenly freezes, his heart skipping a beat. Ginger doesn't notice his unusual behavior. She's a bit melancholy, not knowing how to to wake Izana up. Lakishan suddenly speaks. Lady Ginger, you really love His Highness very much. Ginger looks at the sleeping Izana on the bed with love and nods. Yes, I love him very much. I think I may never meet someone I could love this much again in this lifetime. But Lakishan silently looks away. In the evening, Lakishan has to return to the palace. Ginger tells him to be careful of Emperor Astor. Lakishan just stands there without speaking. Ginger looks up at him puzzledly. She sees him gazing at her with a complex expression. She's somewhat confused. Lakishan uncomfortably asks if he liked her in the real world. Ginger immediately panics and avoids his gaze. Seeing her expression, he understands everything. To be honest, the first time he met Ginger, he had a feeling of being unconsciously attracted to her. Ginger wants to comfort him but can't find the right words. Lakishan carefully plants a kiss on the back of her hand, telling Ginger not to mind him. Perhaps this feeling will gradually fade with time. After speaking openly, Lakishan is about to leave, but Ginger calls out to him. She sincerely blesses him that he will definitely meet the right person and find happiness. Lakishan smiles and accepts her blessing. Thank you, Lady Ginger. He secretly touches his racing heart, having a premonition that his feelings won't easily disappear. When Ginger returns to the room, she discovers Izana seems to be trapped in a nightmare. After he wakes up, she concernedly asks what he dreamed about. Mentioning this dream, Izana's face darkens. Obviously, he has a vivid memory of this dream. He always dreams about the day he was locked in the tower. He thought he had gotten used to the days of being confined in the tower. Hearing these words, Ginger immediately becomes displeased. She angrily turns his face toward her and tells him with serious gravity, "But even if you're used to it, the pain won't disappear. That's why you keep having that nightmare. But there's one thing I can tell you with certainty, Izana. You didn't do anything wrong." Izana freezes in place. Then he reveals his inner thoughts. As time goes by, I also began to think that living here is actually quite comfortable, because father dislikes me, and others are afraid of having their thoughts read by me. Instead, the life confined in the tower makes me feel better inside. But when he saw Ginger confronting father for his sake, he suddenly found courage. As long as I'm with you, I have the courage to overcome anything. After saying this, he plants a kiss on her lips. Ginger is still somewhat dazed. After reacting, she also shyly closes her eyes, but after just 1 second of kissing, Izana pulls away. Ginger asks in confusion and embarrassment, "Was that it?" Izana shyly hugs the blanket and confusedly asks what else she wants. Ginger dejectedly holds her forehead, sighing that teenage Izana is really too innocent. Afterward, they lie in bed chatting. Izana asks her to stay here with him forever. "As long as you can be by my side, I don't care about anything else." She also wants to stay with him, but this is his dream. They have to return to reality. Izana becomes dejected upon hearing this. In the end, Ginger will still return to the other him. Ginger hurriedly explains that no matter which Izana, both are her beloved. "Izana, please come back with me. If there's any fear or resentment holding you back, let it go. In the following days, I'll always be with you." Izana gently touches her face. She's right. He should forget those fears or resentment from the past. He shows a brilliant smile as he looks back at her. "I'm starting to fantasize about our future life together." Ginger looks directly into his eyes, conveying her inner thoughts. "That's right. We're very happy in the future. Hurry up and wake from this miserable dream." Izana suddenly notices. Her hands are becoming semi-transparent. Her body is also gradually becoming transparent and about to disappear. Izana panics and tells her not to leave, but his hand passes right through her. Ginger knows she's about to wake up. It's time to part with him. "Izana, I'm always waiting for you to wake up." Izana anxiously asks if he can see her again. Ginger reassures him they will finally meet again. "I'll be waiting for you in reality." The next second she disappears. At the same time, Ginger in the real world slowly opens her eyes. Although she's parted with Izana again, she's not worried, because she's certain Izana will definitely come back. Lakishan hurriedly helps her up and asks how she feels. She says except for feeling a little weak, she has no other problems. He explains he was afraid she'd be trapped in the dream if it dragged on longer, so he used magic to wake her up. He curiously asks about her progress of waking his majesty. Her mood becomes somewhat low. She still couldn't find a way to wake Izana up. Lakishan looks at Izana with worry, because he's been unconscious for 2 days now and they only have half a day left. But Ginger isn't too worried. In the dream, Izana was so reluctant to let her go. She believes he will definitely wake up, but she still can't help being afraid. Although she has confidence in Izana, she's still scared he won't wake up. "Please, your majesty, you must wake up. You should be by my side, not staying in the desolate past." Izana's eyes flutter. Then he opens his eyes. "Ginger, didn't I tell you not to leave? How did you still abandon me?" Ginger and Lakishan excitedly look at the awakened him. Izana touches his somewhat aching head and asks how long he slept. Afraid the scene before her is just her hallucination, she hugs him tightly to feel some reality. Izana kisses her cheek and comforts her not to cry. Lakishan also feels relieved. It's so good that His Majesty could wake up. He curiously asks how Izana managed to wake up, while gently comforting Ginger. Izana answers that Ginger left him a hint. Ginger is confused, not understanding when she gave him a hint. Izana tells her that at the moment she disappeared, he finally realized who he really was. After that, he thought for a long time about how to escape from there. Suddenly, he remembered Ginger's words, "If there's any fear or resentment holding you back, let it go." Perhaps the reason he couldn't break free from this dreamscape was because of his resentment toward father. father, so only when he let go could he possibly leave from there. He threw the ring down and forgave father in his heart. At that very moment, he woke up. He thought he had let go long ago, but it seems there was still some resentment toward father in his heart. All of this is thanks to you, Ginger. You saved me. And Lala, thank you. Lakishan's eyes become somewhat moist, as long as His Majesty and Ginger are safe and sound. After that, Larazi is sentenced to death for attempting to assassinate Izana. With everything resolved, Ginger and Izana return to their sweet daily life. This day, they sit under the willow tree in the courtyard, and Ginger seriously tells him that the kiss in the dream was her first kiss. Although there was a little incident in the middle that almost got it stolen, she stopped it in time. Izana laughs and teases. It seems being trapped in the dream wasn't a bad thing. I got your first kiss in the dream. Hearing this, Ginger angrily tells him not to say that. Her voice becomes choked with emotion toward the end. I thought I'd never see you again. You don't know how scared I was. He hurriedly plants an apologetic kiss on her forehead. I'm sorry for making you worry, but after that incident, most of my fears and resentment in my heart disappeared. She concernedly asks if he's much better now. Izana nods. He let go of his obsession with the past and realized how precious everything he has now is. He hugs her tightly. Since now, I will always cherish you who stays by my side. I love you, Ginger. Thank you for coming to save me. Ginger sweetly puts her arms around his neck. I should be the one thanking you for letting me help the person I love. No matter what difficulties we encounter in the future, I will never let go of you again. I will always love you, Izana, my beloved.